Chapter 61 The First Battle of Mount Tai. Report. A thin and yellowish strong man walked in from outside and bowed to Liu Bei and Chen Shi, directly destroying Chen Shi's idea of instilling ideas in Liu Bei. Can the grain and grass escorted by Wen Ziyi arrive at the warehouse? Liu Bei saw Yu Jin coming, his face was solemn, and he asked solemnly. All 80,000 loads of grain and grass have been put into storage, but the Zhen family hopes to come and thank Duke Xuanda for his help. Yu Jin bowed, his face solemn and without the slightest smile, and he did not feel proud because he led the new army to defeat the Taishan bandits. Liu Bei glanced sideways at Chen Shi, only to see Chen Shi nodding slightly to understand Chen Shi's plan. It's okay, I'll go meet the Zhen family in Jizhou, known as the 5 wealthy merchants. Liu Bei said with a smile, Wen Ziyi, you are here, Zichuan wants to come and have something to explain to you. After saying that, he left. From Chen Shi's expression, he understood that the Zhen family planned to bet on him, although the aristocrats of the family could not attract it, but the powerful and wealthy businessmen were still willing to stick upside down. Chen Shi looked at Yu Jin, although this guy was still promoted from his own officers, but in fact he only saw it once or twice, gave a call-up order, and then sent this guy to follow Liu Bei to train the new army. This rescue was a test. It was obvious that Yu Jin completed quite well, worthy of being one of the 5 good generals. Wen Ziyi, and sit there, I want to know that the new army may fight now? Of course, what I am asking is not to deal with the regular army, but to deal with the Taishan bandits, and only to gather the defeated Taishan bandits, if there is a rebellion. Chen Shi sneered and made a merciless action. He was now accustomed to his position, and he understood that he would sit in this position with heavy pawns in troubled times. If you deal with ordinary Taishan bandits, there is no problem, but Taishan has 4 largest bandits, named Taishan 4 bandits. Their bandits are not weaker than ordinary regular troops because of their military management and formation bravery, and now they can only be undefeated and difficult to win. Yu Jin did not say any big words and said truthfully, and did not underestimate the combat effectiveness of the Taishan bandits. Don't worry about Chang Shi, Sun Guan, Wu Dun, and Yi Li, someone in the troops of the 4 of them will solve it. I want you to gather the bandits. I don't want to defeat these guys. Their men are running around. As for Zong Bie, I think he has been defeated now. Chen Shi smiled and said. Just before Chen Shi said this, Zong Bie had just been smashed off his horse by Zhong Fei's snake spear, and it is estimated that half of his ribs were broken, and Zong Bie's personal guards, who were known as comparable to the elite of Danyang, were beaten by Hua Xiong and a group of mentally ill people who were beaten without a temper, coupled with Zhong Fei's beating of the drum from time to time. And he just divided Zong Bie's personal army into several pieces in the mountain battle, and Zong Bie, who had no choice but to break through, fell into Zhong Fei's hands and was defeated. To say that Zong Bie's command is not weak, although Hua Xiong and Zhong Fei attacked Zong Bie's cottage with 5,000 bandit troops, they did not directly defeat Zong Bie's personal army, although they suppressed Zong Bie's army that did not react for a while, but when Zong Bie appeared and began to personally dispatch, they quickly recovered the decline. After that, there was a competition of courage and scheduling, the collision between the formations. Hua Xiong connected all the soldiers, the breath was sparse and densely connected, and they constantly relied on the formation to squeeze the living space of Zong Bie's personal army. In other words, Hua Xiong's scheduling is actually very general. His cavalry can only play a sharp arrow formation, but he can't stand the skill. He can change formations instantly, even on the march, which is why Hua Xiong will become the cavalry commander of Shiliang, because the formation change is too fast, so fast that you have no chance to counterattack. Now Hua Xiong found that the group of new troops under his command was average, and it was a little terrifying. That is, the order was prohibited, and it was said that the formation would change. There was a knife in front, and the formation needed to hit the knife, and these people under his hands would not hesitate to hit the knife and complete the formation change. After discovering this, Hua Xiong had almost no hesitation. Various formations were divided and combined, large, medium and small, divided and combined, scattered but not chaotic, and abruptly cut Zong Bie's personal army with a small number of people, and almost lost 20% of the soldiers to complete this purpose. Of course, Zong Bie's personal army also lost 10% of the morale of the soldiers. In ancient times, commanding troops to fight, losing 10% of the soldiers without collapsing can already be called elite soldiers, losing 30% without fleeing can be described as the elite of the world. And now Hua Xiong has lost 20% of the soldiers and continues to slaughter Zong Bie's personal army with high morale, which is no longer what ordinary good generals can do. Zhong Fei naturally didn't know that the group of Hua Xiong's subordinates had been devastated by Hua Xiong's mental breakdown, and the reverence for death was less than the awe of Hua Xiong, so as long as Hua Xiong's orders were absolutely obeyed, morale did not exist for this group of people at all, so the morale of the massacre of Zong Bie's personal army was actually completely because Hua Xiong did not order to stop. Not to mention Zhong Fei's coldness, Zong Bie was already confused. To be honest, some of the Taishan bandits were directly Danyang soldiers, and the combat effectiveness of the bandit army brought out by the veterans was close to the Danyang elite soldiers who had made a name for themselves at the beginning, and the current Danyang soldiers were completely destroyed, and as a result, they were now defeated by the big man on the opposite side commanding less than 1/3 of their own soldiers. And it was the kind of defeat without suspense. Zongbia's personal army was not undefeated. When he recovered the 4 bandits of Mount Tai, he was defeated by the 4 people, and then he was defeated by the Zuzhu soldiers. But there was no time like this clean defeat. There was no room at all, from the other side to change the formation. His defeat was like a rolling stone landslide faster and faster, and finally he was powerless to stop it. Zongbia wanted to know who he had offended, why someone would send this kind of mountain army that can be said to be the elite of the world to come and exterminate him, although he occupied the mountain as the king. But the mistake was obviously not as much as the yellow turbans. This kind of *** core did not go to exterminate the yellow turbans, actually came to him. 20%. A full 20% of the soldiers fell to the ground. But the other party was still as calm as water, without the slightest intention of fleeing. But his own army was on the verge of fleeing because of 10% of the battle losses. Zongbia knew that he had reached the point where he had to retreat. The other party was too strong, so strong that he repeatedly wanted to change the formation. The other party only a few words directly broke up his formation. This is already an asymmetrical battle. In Zongbia's opinion, he may have met one of the world's best masters of the art of war. Not that he boasted, he felt that his own command was not bad. But against the Guanxi man on the opposite side, with a slightly yellowish face, and an indifferent face, there was no room for use at all. Knowing that he would lose, Zongbia no longer struggled. What he had to do now was to break through, break part of the encirclement, and then gather the soldiers to use the strength of the soldiers, abandon the formation to break through from the weakest of the opponent. As for that man, he never wanted to face it again. Zongbia did it, and easily rescued a soldier, about 1,000 people, and then without the slightest hesitation, he prepared to implement the strategy of breaking the wrist of a strong man, and directly took this 1,000 people to prepare to chisel through the weak area in the northeast corner. And he knew better than everyone that if he continued, he would really be surrounded and annihilated by the other party. The breakthrough was very simple, as if the other party deliberately released it, and Zongbia felt a chill in his heart when he saw this scene. But he had no way to retreat, so he had to bite the bullet and rush up. There was only one person on the opposite side, a reckless man carrying a snake spear, but Zongbia's mind vaguely remembered a person, but before he could think clearly about the other party's snake spear, he smashed up. Chapter 62 The left pocket money is the right pocket plan. The moment Zongbia fell from his horse, he thought of a person in a trance, Zhong Fei, who dared to single out Liu Biyu in front of the Tiger Prison Pass, and then he didn't know anything when his eyes were dark. Zhong Fei lifted Zongbia who had fallen from his horse, so as not to be turned into meat by the cavalry behind, and he could see that the reason for Zongbia's defeat was not because he was too weak, but because the opponent he met was already inhuman. Zongbia has been taken down by me, and you don't surrender yet. Zhong Fei roared, and his voice directly suppressed the screams of Zongbia's personal army. Surrender. The commander was captured, the army was divided, and there was only a dead end without surrendering, and Zongbia's army, which had no morale, completely lost its fighting spirit after Zongbia was captured. Hua Xiong commanded his subordinates to capture Zongbia's personal army, and after a war like this, the capture of prisoners was handed over to the rear army. After all, the front army was basically exhausted after a killing battle. There are only so many people under Hua Xiong, there is no rear army at all, and the original bandit army under Hua Xiong's ** should be conscious of the rear army. Hua Xiong said what to do. It is much safer to catch prisoners than to climb the cliff with a boulder on his back. Besides, he has subdued this group of bastards before, what else is there to worry about? Under Hua Xiong's arrangement, Hua Xiong's bandit army divided 500 lightly wounded people to drive the prisoners together like ducks, and divided 3,000 people to be on guard, and the rest scattered like scouts as early warning. As for those prisoners who were only 1/20th of themselves, and they were all lightly wounded, none of them dared to resist in the process of expelling. It seemed that Zongbia's personal army was basically abolished. At least in a short period of time, there would be no idea of resisting at all in the face of this silent army that defeated them. Zijian, I didn't realize that your guys' training methods are really divine. Zhong Fei gave a thumbs up to Hua Xiong who was standing on the boulder with Zongbia. Don't mention it, I don't know what's going on. The military division asked me to train like this. I don't understand what the reason is until now. These people are not afraid of death, I do whatever I say. Hua Xiong waved his hand and said that this was not a problem with his ability to train troops. It was completely Chen Shi's ability. Yo, I didn't expect Sichuan to have such a hand. He didn't teach me Lao Zhong, and I would ask him when I went back. Zhong Fei was first happy when he heard this, and then he indignantly shouted that he wanted to make Chen Shi look good. Don't talk about giving the military division a good look. Wake up Zongbia, and then you go back and lead the troops to seal the surrounding roads for me. And the military strategist ordered to capture Sun Guan. I still don't know where Sun Guan is. How can I catch it? I hope Zong Ba knows. Hua Xiong said with a wry smile, the task given to him by Chen Shi is not difficult. The difficulty is to find Sun Guan, a thief in Mount Tai, and now the only thing that may know is Zong Ba, which is why Hua Xiong took the risk of attacking Zong Ba. Zhong Fei found a basin of water and directly splashed Zong Ba awake, but he didn't worry about Zong Ba's wound infection, and he didn't have to worry about any preferential treatment of prisoners of war. This era is basically to treat you preferentially, and if you don't like it, it's arbitrary. Who made you a prisoner of war? In other words, the master of refining qi into a gang level does not have to worry about getting sick. Ordinary minor illnesses are difficult to get rid of, but once sick, it is basically not far from becoming a steamed bun filling. Ahem. Cough. Zong Ba coughed up blood while opening his eyes. Seeing that the two people he had seen before were looking at him, he understood that he had been captured, spit out a mouthful of blood. Zong Ba's eyes flashed and asked, I want to know that I am in the hands of Zhong Ida of Yang. Yo-he, Ida, people know you, let's see if it's your fellow townsman. Hua Xiong laughed and teased. HMH, I didn't become a thief, 80% of it can be seen from my strong martial arts and burly figure. Zhong Fei said unhappily. No need to be 80%. Sichuan has long said that there are many people in this world who do not recognize you who can recognize the Zhangba snake spear, and you yourself are not as good as your weapon. Hua Xiong continued to ridicule Zhong Fei. He had basically no fear of Zhong Fei. You say, how did you recognize it? Zhong Fei grabbed Zong Ba and asked with a hideous face. Hua Xiong half squinted his eyes and squinted at Zong Ba. This was what he and Guan Yu learned. Looking at people with this kind of eyes is unique to murderous, and it looks unique majestic. At least now Zong Ba is covered in a cold sweat by this glance. Okay, Ida is not joking. Hand over Zong Ba to me. I still have something to ask. Hua Xiong is not a person who does not distinguish between light and heavy. Just make a joke. It's over to you. Seeing that you fought a battle, Lao Zhong's hands are also a little itchy, but unfortunately my subordinates are all cavalry, and there is no way to carry out mountain combat. Zhong Fei threw Zong Ba to Hua Xiong and said helplessly, it seems that I can only go with my second brother to gather the refugees from Qingju. I have to say that in this era of troubled times, the people no longer recognize the Han Court, and pure disaster relief can no longer be rolled out. The reason is very simple. The people do not believe that you will distribute food for no reason. Even if someone spreads to Qingju, those displaced people do not want to believe it. They believe that they can feed their families by their own strength. In line with the reality of the investigation, Chen Shi directly extinguished Liu Bei's idea of opening a warehouse and releasing grain. It is not worth spending so much food to create so little profit. Hundreds of thousands of living people with hands and feet, where cannot create profits, this is all money. Instead of this, it is better not to open a warehouse to release grain, and directly let these refugees work, and the money in grain will be settled as wages a day, which is more harmonious. Since there are hands and feet, it is much better for them to eat the food they earn than to eat disaster relief food. At least they have the confidence to eat food and food. Although national disaster relief is also an obligation, but isn't it more reasonable to give work and food? By the way, it can also stimulate commercial circulation or something, and give them a little money to let them see more hope, not more promising. With such an idea, Chen Shi had no intention of opening a warehouse to release grain at all. Anyway, the country's reputation was basically over. It was better to re-establish a new monument, and in the process, it could also be mixed with some private goods. For example, with the idea of teaching people to fish, teach them to build houses, give them food, and when they finish building, tell those refugees that the salary paid to you before can be used to buy the houses you built. You can follow Zhao Zilong's Tunchen order, 40% of the state tax, 10% of the rental fee. After 5 years only the state tax remains. The field is yours, of course. This kind of grant is only 50 acres for each adult. Look, what a good policy. Even Liu Bei was shocked, and even asked Chen Shi if the money and food were enough to toss. As a result, Chen Shi smiled and said nothing. He wanted to ask Liu Bei, your eyes saw me spending money. This is not to transfer the money from the left pocket to the right pocket. Spend a circle, and finally the money is not still in hand, but because of this, there are more people who make money for you. Chapter 63 The Bad Luck of This Time. This way of working in lieu of relief completely dispelled the worries of the refugees, and the standard of Taishan's wages is settled once a day, never in arrears, and as many people as you want. Anyway, Chen Shi is already familiar with it. As long as the money is still running in Mount Tai, he can continue to play. And it is precisely in a short period of time that Chen Shi is not short of money and food. The property obtained from the suppression of bandits and training is sold to Zuzhu, and then converted into grain to pull it over. Zuzhu has a lot of grain. Dao Qian is willing to support Liu Bei, and is naturally willing to borrow grain from Chen Shi, plus the suppression of bandits, the purchase of grain. Chen Shi has more than 1 million loads of grain in his hands. I have to say that Kong Rong's reputation and Dao Qian's wealth, with this strong support, Liu Bei is now living a much better life than Cao Cao. At least now Taishan County is full of busy scenes, and even there is a false prosperity. At a glance, there is a lot of traffic, a prosperity, and Cao Cao is still wandering. The reason why it is false is only because at this time, once Chen Shi withdraws the grain input, the entire Taishan will enter a state of depression, or even collapse rapidly, but as long as it persists for a few more months to September, after the millet matures, Chen Shi will not have any problems even if he withdraws his grain input. Chen Shi is now waiting for these 3 months. Summer grain in Chen Shi's own seed, a small number of plowing cattle is basically all the places that can be cultivated in Mount Tai, and anyway, summer millet is 100 days of days, carry it over, and the future plan will have a foundation, so during this time, Chen Shi is ready, whoever dares to find trouble will die. In July 191, Yuan Shao had just sat on the throne of Jizhou. Cao Cao was about to gain a foothold in Dongjun. Gong Sun Zon had not yet taken all of Yuzhou, and Liu Yang had just blocked Zhou, ready to become king and hegemony. In 192 and 193, these 2 years can be regarded as the last opportunity for development, and since 194, natural disasters have continued, drought, locust plague, and various natural disasters have been raging. And in 192 and 193, it was only Empress Yan of Han in Chang'an who was unlucky, and earthquakes occurred every year, so the 3 dukes changed every year. Taking advantage of this last opportunity, Chen Shi is ready to buy grain everywhere, and it is estimated that there will be no such opportunity in the future, and he will not be like the Taishan Taisho Ying Shao in history. Take advantage of the last 2 harvest years to collect money and grain, and then take advantage of the natural disaster to swallow all the Qingju yellow turbans, which is the most realistic and feasible plan. Zhong Ba had already surrendered. Zhong Fei looked at his side, not many good generals, and Zhong Ba didn't say much for the sake of being able to see it. As for Hua Xiong, calmly accepted Zhong Ba as a deputy general, although he defeated Zhong Ba by relying on battles before, but his own family knew his own affairs, and if he really wanted to command the troops, it seemed that he was not Zhong Ba's opponent. Zhong Ba was very happy that Hua Xiong was willing to accept him as a deputy general, although he was seriously injured, but he still gritted his teeth and mounted the horse, patted his chest and said that he still had some popularity in Mount Tai, and was willing to persuade Sun Guan, Wu Dun, and Yi Li to surrender. Although Hua Xiong's brain is not very sensitive, he felt that he could give it a try under his own judgment, so Zhong Ba sent a few people to send him to Sun Guan's cottage, he said under Zhong Ba's gratitude. Sure enough, Zhong Ba was also a true master, and did not take this opportunity to re-pull up the men and horses to fight Hua Xiong, but because of Hua Xiong's loyalty and trust in him, he worked tirelessly to directly persuade all the 3 largest bandit leaders in Mount Tai to surrender, and Sun Guan bound himself in front of Chen Shi shortly thereafter. As for the dead Zhen family Chen Shi, he didn't bother to take care of it. Anyway, he couldn't play with the Zhen family. In September, Mount Tai was flattened. Chen Shi finally had a lot of time to squander, and he also had some useful people in his hands. Of course, the strategists he had envisioned before were basically not recruited, and this group of guys was basically not optimistic about Liu Bei, Zhong Zhao, Zhong Hong, Ji Yuyong, and several guys from the family who also sneered at Liu Bei's men who came to recruit. In the end, Chen Shi extinguished the idea of continuing to recruit civil officials. Anyway, he could do a good job of Guangji grain. If there was one, at most, he could drink a few more cups of tea a day, and if not, he would just drink a few cups less, which would not have much impact. As for the Zhen family, who originally planned to invest in Liu Bei, after Yuan Shao entered Jizhou, he also silently reduced his investment in Mount Tai, and it can be seen that in the eyes of the Zhen family, Liu Xuande, a Han clan relative who has proven his identity by the clan mansion, does not have the potential of Yuan Shao, who is the 4th generation and 3 dukes. He never thought that because of his arrival, arbitrary arrangements, the Zhen family would help or something, and these were simply impossible to achieve. There will inevitably be an inextricable connection between the Zhen family, which is located in Jizhou, and Yuan Shao, who occupies Jizhou and is expected to dominate the world, coupled with the fact that family management will naturally not press the entire family because of a person's personal affection. The Zhen family seems to be just a wealthy businessman on the surface. Chen Shi knows a very interesting thing, the Zhen family, which inherits an official position of 2,000 salaries. Can it be just a wealthy businessman? The Yuan family is the 4th generation and 3 dukes, and in the 3 Kingdoms era, when the family emphasizes the right person, can let his favorite son marry Zhenmi because of a sentence that this woman has the state of Fengyi in the world? Are you kidding? Even if the family wealth is tens of millions, the whole of Hebei belongs to his Yuan family, and it has become a trend of peeping the world. What is a wealthy businessman? How much do you want? Joke. Chen Shi has nothing to say about the choice of the Zhen family. Now is not the time to calculate these, and even if Yuan Shao is really cleaned up at that time, he can't wipe out the Zhen family, at most change the head of the family or something, and it is unwise to provoke the family before there is absolute strength. Of course, if Liu Bei is really annoyed, then there is no way. The withdrawal of the Zhan family completely annoyed Liu Bei, who had been on the fire recently. After all, the recruitment of celebrities was not successful, and he was ridiculed, and now even the wealthy businessman dared to kick his nose in the face, and Liu Bei was naturally annoyed. Fortunately, after Chen Shi clarified the stakes, Liu Bei did not completely turn against the Zhen family, but looking at Liu Bei's angry expression, it is estimated that it will definitely not be easy when the Zhen family falls into Liu Bei's hands. As a last resort, Chen Shi had no choice but to say hello to Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping, and assign the business in Jizhou to them, signaling them to quickly squeeze out the Zhen family's salt industry and horse business outside the Great Wall, and let the Zhen family quickly apologize to Liu Bei. Otherwise, after this anger brewed for 3 or 5 years, Chen Shi would trample Yuan Shao after taking Qingzhou, and the Hebei family would let the Zhen family pull all the water into the water. Chapter 64. What is the time to operate? Facing the family can be said to be something that the emperors of every era have to do, but the emperor who can really subdue the family is only the number of hands from ancient times to the present. Chen Shi does not feel that the fledgling Liu Bei can suppress these guys. Even if there are time travelers who seek good fortune and avoid misfortune and the vision of transcending the times, they probably can't do it. After all, directly facing the class of the family at this time itself is not in line with the instinct of the time traveler who seeks good fortune and avoids disaster. In line with 2 hands of preparation, 1 hand of radish, and the other hand of a big stick, Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping could squeeze the Zhen family's shop and let them understand the difference between the princes and the family. It would be great. In case the Zhen family is really hands-eyed, Chen Shi can only do it himself, whether it is a commercial squeeze, or brazenly attack to erase the upper echelons of the Zhen family, give the Zhen family a decent funeral or something. In short, Chen Shi can guarantee that even if Zhenmi is really in the state of Fengyi, it is estimated that he can only be reduced to someone else's plaything. And Yuan Shao feels ashamed at most and will not directly go to war with Liu Bei. Zichuan, how much money do you have? Since you entered Fengyao, you have been investing money in food until now, and you haven't seen any return on your money, and you have actually survived. Do we have so much money? Jian Yong saw that Chen Shi began to habitually be in a daze again. Seeing that the autumn grain was about to come down, he finally couldn't hold back his curiosity and asked, and even Zhao Yun on the side raised his head curiously when he heard Jian Yong's words, and everyone in Fengyao City was very interested in this matter. Yes, there is a lot of money, and it is constantly increasing. What's wrong? Chen Shi yawned and said, don't stand outside Zhuangdegang. Come in if you want to hear it. You are probably very interested in this. Ha ha ha. Liu Bei laughed and tried his best to hide the scorn on his face, but seeing that Chen Shi's whole body was wilted, he didn't pay attention to himself, so he didn't laugh anymore. Yes, now many people think that Yu Chen Zichuan is a scattered boy with countless money. Liu Bei laughed and said, others don't know, he still doesn't know. Chen Shi sits here every day drinking tea, reviewing some things, and doesn't pull out a cart of money from a certain place every day as is rumored in the market, but it does make everyone live and work in peace. I only have so many copper plates in my hands. Chen Shi casually untied a pouch from his waist and threw it on the table with a bang, which Chen Lan made for him after he came to Fengyao. As for the sachet hanging on the left, it was made by his wife Fan Jian, which was very delicate. What does Zichuan mean? Liu Bei casually found a seat and sat down, looked at the money bag Chen Shi threw on the table and asked puzzled. It means that I didn't invest a copper plate in Fengyao, and Fengyao's seemingly huge amount of money actually doesn't exist at all. Chen Shi sat up and said seriously, of course, the refugees we have collected continue to create value, so it looks like I am constantly investing money in it, but in fact I have no money to invest in it at all. Liu Bei couldn't understand. Jian Yong's eyes were dumbfounded, and Zhao Yun scratched his ears and scratched his cheeks. Okay, to put it simply, you see that I pay them wages every day, although it's not much, but over time, more than $10 million have flowed out of my hands. But you haven't thought that not only am I spending money, but the people who make money are also spending money. After all, if you give wages, you don't have to take care of dinner. Chen Shi said wiltedly. The whole person looked extremely decadent. Still unable to understand, several people still had blank expressions. I asked someone to open a few steamed bun shops. Chen Shi yawned and said, this is still Chen Shi really couldn't stand the dead noodle buns, so he was forced to study it, and he failed many times. But after the first success, it was much better, compared with the dead noodle buns, a proper profiteering industry. At least the steamed buns steamed out of the noodles were delicious and hungry for digestion, and no one knew that 2 or 2 big steamed buns could not use 1 or 2 or 5 flours, so the business was booming. And Chen Shi can only eat enough for the lunch provided by the work, don't want to eat well, the dead noodle buns are full, the millet porridge can barely shine people, and the steamed bun shop is directly less than half of the people who eat the lunch provided by the officials. The same as eating, I didn't have to choose before. I think the official meal is quite good, now I have a choice. Why do the steamed bun shops and officials eat the hard dead noodle buns that are about the same as stones? People also provided a small plate of pickles. Well, Chen Shi made the steamed bun shop open by people more prosperous. After a while, the officials seemed to wake up, and there were fewer and fewer people staying for lunch, so the officials negotiated with the steamed bun shop, and the officials clocked up the working refugees, and the refugees took the notes to go to the steamed bun shop to eat steamed buns, because the so-called large amount was preferred, so it could be relatively cheaper, so the refugees were grateful to Dade, and the officials also saved making lunch. And everyone was happy. After that, Chenshi took all the unemployed chefs who were originally making lunch to open steamed bun shops everywhere, and sure enough, everyone was happy. Most of the officials' expenditures were gone, and the new refugees had no notes, only copper plates, and then they were also eating steamed buns with people, and found that they spent dozens of yuan more than others a month, and immediately quit, strongly demanding that the copper plates be exchanged into strips, well, to avoid not having enough money. After a while, Chenshi found that there seemed to be a lot of refugees, and the money was not enough, and then one of the refugees found that in fact, Baiqiao could also eat steamed buns in the steamed bun shop at night, without spending the same amount at home, or even more money to eat which kind of hard and stone-like dead noodle buns. This secret was quietly circulated, and then the salary was paid less. What Chenshi had to do every day was to use his own seal to constantly stamp on the white paper that had just been studied, and then let Zhao Yun cut it into neat 10 strips. Zhao Yun did this sincerely and neatly. More than 1,000 sheets were placed on the table. Zhao Yun's sword light flashed, and it didn't hurt the table. For this kind of paper that changes the history as soon as it comes out, it is simply unreasonable as a general equivalent, and it is nothing, anyway, no one can imitate it. Even if the paper is imitated, it also needs to be stamped by Chen Shi. In other words, the Han Dynasty privately engraved seal seems to be the 3 ethnic groups. Maybe it's to kill the 9 clans. Anyway, it's better to make small money like Dong Zhuo to forge this. At least no one cares about this. At most the people are unlucky, and paper as money is also reasonable. To be honest, Chen Shi originally planned to let people carve the words 2 steamed buns out of wood, and finally found that this slender would seem to have a lot of seals, so it was simpler to use Liu Bei's General Andong's seal to stamp it faster. After all, it was big enough, according to the standard price of 1 thin strip equivalent to 2 steamed buns. Chen Shi said that he only needed to pay a small amount of salary every month, and the rest were enough to send this note. A small amount of wages is still money. What kind of trouble are 500,000 people? Bandits have become refugees, and the yellow turbans near Mount Tai in Qingju have become refugees. In short, there are more and more refugees, and then the refugees have changed jobs in Taishan to become Chinese people, and Taishan looks more and more prosperous. So Chen Shi opened some shops for daily necessities. Anyway, the entire Taishan county is under his rule. The bandits are all bandits of his Taishan, do whatever they want, so that most of the copper plates sent out can be recycled back, and then sent out, and the better point of the shops opened by Chen Shi is that white strips are allowed. Just like this, more than 90% of the vendors have been killed, and the general equivalent that cannot be used after leaving Mount Tai, isn't it death to accept it? Do you want to keep it in Mount Tai to exchange steamed buns? Have you finished eating? To put it bluntly, if there is really a vendor willing to accept white strips, Chen Shi will consider the character of the vendor. For example, like the Mi family's good baby merchant Chen Shi is willing to exchange grain for white strips back, like the Zhen family that annoys Liu Bei. Chen Shi doesn't mind giving them a warehouse of white strips. As a humanoid money printing machine, he has no pressure. So the Zhan family runs fast or has self-knowledge tilde. Chen Shi explained his previous moves to several people in detail, but Liu Bei and others were still confused, looking at Chen Shi who was wilting with his head propped up, and finally couldn't help but interrupt Chen Shi's words. Stop, although Sichuan doesn't understand what you're talking about at all, you're really powerful in terms of actual effects. Liu Bei cut off Chen Shi's speech and said with a confused face. Sure enough, no one can understand. It seems that we have to find an internal affairs master with an IQ of more than 90 to come, and now it's too lonely. Chen Shi held his head with a lonely expression of a master. Why does Sichuan always look so tired, and he always looks like he is drowsy? Liu Bei changed the topic. He felt that continuing to listen to the Book of Heaven was really challenging his limits. Anyway, no matter what method Chen Shi used, as long as it was built, the rest didn't seem to be important. Spring is sleepy, autumn is tired, summer is sleepy, and winter is lying in bed. Now in a state of autumn fatigue. Chen Shi said with a tired face, but don't worry, Xuan Dagong will not have much of a problem with government affairs. Saying that, Chen Shi changed his posture slightly, trying his best to make himself comfortable. Doing nothing is not good, it is easy to fall asleep. Liu Bei, Jian Yong, and Zhao Yun all looked at Chen Shi helplessly. Is this the reason? You have been sleepy all year, you are a pig, you have eaten and slept, you have slept and eaten. I really doubt how you learn this ability. Is there really a so-called god and man like a dream? Report. Just when everyone was cold, a herald rushed in and roared loudly, and in an instant Chen Shi woke up. Zhao Yun and Liu Bei, 2 warriors with good eyesight, clearly saw a layer of fine sweat on Chen Shi's body, guessing that he should be frightened, and was frightened awake when he was confused. Chen Shi looked at the herald at the next head in solemnity. All the sleepiness that had finally brewed was scared away, and he was frightened to death, and sighed in his heart. He couldn't sleep in the government office in the future, it was too scary. But what do you want to report? Chen Shi asked calmly. Zuzhu Mi Zizhong, Lin Huai Lu Zijing came to visit. The herald replied loudly. Huh. Chen Shi was shocked, and then his face recovered, and he was overjoyed in his heart. Xuandagong, great wealth and great sages are coming. Chapter 65 Each Thought. Oi. Liu Bei was stunned. He had never succeeded in recruiting great sages or something. Those families were always not optimistic about him, and all the solicitations so far had not been successful, so naturally he was stunned when he heard the news. Xuandagong. Chen Shi said again. Anyway, he couldn't sleep anymore. Why did he let others be distracted in front of him? Okay. Liu Bei reacted, and was immediately overjoyed. No matter what kind of person came, as long as he was willing to come to his civil servant at this time. No matter what his ability was, Liu Bei planned to welcome him with a big gift, and in the future, he would not forget to add double bowls and chopsticks. Xuandagong, gone, whether it is Mi Zizhong or Lu Zijing, it is extremely important to us now. Lu Zijing has an extremely long-term vision, and has his own opinions on government affairs and strategy, which can be described as a talent for seeking the country. The Mi family is a rich family. Compared with the Zhen family, you can know its wealth, the head of the 5 wealthy merchant families in the world. Chen Shi deliberately pointed out the life experience of these two, which can be regarded as a preparation for Liu Bei. Liu Bei calmed down when he heard this. His original excitement slowly receded. He regained his original calm, turned his head to look at Chen Shi and smiled. I thought it was difficult for me Liu Xuanda to enter the eyes of the world's wizards, but I didn't think I was too inferior. The Zhen family was gone, the Mi family didn't come, He Zhongjiao, Zhonghong couldn't come, Lu Zijing also entered my door. At this moment, Liu Bei was in high spirits, originally because a series of celebrities could not be recruited, and the depression generated by the Zhen family in Hebei who left because he was not optimistic about his potential was all gone at this moment, and the whole person looked more confident and public. Those guys are not as good as me. Chen Shi yawned and said, if Xuandagong thinks that someone has not been recruited, compare with General Zhao. If the civil servant is more powerful than me, and the military general is more powerful than Zilong, remember to inform me. As soon as Chen Shi's words came out, Zhao Yun first smiled confidently, and then said with a characteristic humility, I can't be a military strategist, but the military strategist is a wizard in the world, and it is difficult to match him in this world. Chen Shi rolled his eyes. It's like there are still several Lu Bu in this world. Okay, the big guy just knows it in his heart. Xuandagong, please remember at any time, after this year, anyone who is not optimistic about Xuandagong will not be the top strategist in the world. At least he doesn't have the vision that a top strategist needs. Thank you Zichuan for reminding me. Liu Bei bowed solemnly. Let's go out and wait. If Zichuan is tired, you can go home to rest first. It's not a problem to be so tired all the time. I'll find you some tonic to make up for it, and there is no government affairs now. You can also take a break. No, Lu Zijing will inevitably discuss some things with me all the way. I'll still take a moment. Chen Shi shook his head and said, according to the habit of those top civil servants in this era, the first thing to do is to give advice, and if he is present, he can also cover up for Liu Bei. After all, many things are done by him. Liu Bei is not very clear. Mi Zhu, who was sitting in the carriage, looked at the prosperity outside the window, and was shocked in his heart, and there was a scene of hot work everywhere along the way, which may not be as good as the rich Zuzhu city. But now Taishan Fengao has far exceeded his imagination. I remember that when I came here a year ago, it had just been ravaged by Taishan bandits, and the dilapidated ones were not even as good as ordinary county towns. And now they have surpassed the vast majority of county towns. Looking at the 3-foot-wide moat, 10 feet high and more than 8 feet thick, Mi Zhu knew very well how much effort it would take. Just such a city wall was enough for the bandits to extinguish their desires. And now it was built in just 3 months, about 100,000 manpower. Mi Zhu understood it with a little calculation. Through the city gate, the wide bluestone road made Mi Zhu have a feeling of coming to Zuzhu City. No, it is cleaner and tidier than Zuzhu City. Mi Zhu feels that he can't bear it. This way he came over to the scene he saw and the conclusion drawn by the intelligence from other places. Water conservancy projects, reclamation, city wall construction, disaster relief, gathering refugees together spent more than 100 million yuan. If Chen Shi knew what Mi Zhu was thinking, it is estimated that he would curl his lips directly. 100 million yuan is not enough at all. 500,000 refugees. 200 yuan per person is probably not enough to barely eat for 3 months. So if you give money, the 5 wealthy merchants will have to hurt their vitality, and they will create profits by themselves if they work in lieu of relief or something. Thinking of this, Mi Zhu was a little convulsed, hearing that the Zhen family had run away, thinking that if he wanted to spend money like this, his Mi family probably couldn't hold on. This Taishan County Cheng was simply a good spender. although it was excellent in terms of effect, but if every county did this, it would not be able to support it at all. Lu Su also learned a lot of information along the way. Unlike Mi Zhu, Lu Su's vision is very long-term, and naturally he will not count the Zhen family that has returned to Jizhou under Liu Bei's name. So in his opinion, the entire Taishan County is very worth studying. Whether it is the soil embryo house that is still being built, the river canal that is constantly being excavated, or the hot workplace. It is very valuable for research, busy but not chaotic. This is Lu Su's intuitive feeling. Under Lu Su's observation all the way, the final conclusion is very strange. It seems that the entire Taishan restoration does not use money, although the grain is real, but the real money sprinkled out is almost non-existent, and compared with the spilled grain and the effect of the current restoration, it is simply shocking, and the most important thing is that in this short 3 months of work, all the people under the rule of Taishan County actually recognized Liu Bei's rule, which can be described as the people's hearts in hand. This has to shock Lu Su. Those who win the hearts of the people win the world, although Lu Su does not fully agree with this statement, but many things in the hands of the people will become very convenient, can shatter the original people's suspicions about the government in such a short period of time, and re-establish the people's confidence in the recognition of the government, and even spontaneously support Liu Bei's rule. Lu Su can only say one sentence to Chen Shi, who is in charge of internal affairs under Liu Bei. He is really a wizard. Naturally, with the assistance of this kind of wizard, Lu Su also had more confidence in Liu Bei. Originally he was not optimistic about Liu Bei, but after Liu Bei recruited his messenger and was seen by his grandmother, Lu Su's grandmother stopped the messenger who was rejected by Lu Su and said to Lu Su, "Go out to see the world, have been accompanying me as an old woman at home, reading books. Planting and farming is not a hero style of doing things. Since Liu Gong, a member of the Han clan, recruited him, why not see it and think about it?" Lu Su, who was stubborn about his grandmother, had to take his servants on the road with Liu Bei's messenger, and he was still a little sad when he left. But after leaving the East City, Lu Su quickly put aside the sadness. This was the first time he left his grandmother to act alone, and the general trend of the world was shown in front of him for the first time. This year Lu Su was 18 years old. Originally, Lu Su did not have the idea of defecting to Liu Bei. He came to Mount Tai just to give an explanation to his grandmother, but the situation of coming all the way made him interested, and in his eyes, he could naturally see how much savings there would be in the harvest of Mount Tai this time, and what these savings would mean in a place close to Qingju. Let's take a look at Liu Xuande. If he is a guy like Yuan Shu who is ambitious and talented, then he can linger for a few days. If he is really a generous person, I, Lu Zijing, don't mind sharing worries for you. Lu Su looked at the busy scene outside the car window and slowly made up his mind, but the restlessness in his heart did not affect his expression. He was still elegant and calm. Chapter 66 Mi Zijong, Lu Zijing. Mi Zhu and Lu Su do not have any deep friendship, although both sides are powerful, but the number of times the two have met has been 0 before, and this joint visit is just a coincidence. The two met by chance, and the two sides are the same elegance, the same gentleman's style. Mi Zhu did not feel inferior because of his identity as a businessman, and Lu Su did not look at this wealthy businessman with a secular perspective, and the two sides talked happily. But that's all. Lu Su did not refute Mi Zhu's views on Mount Tai, and Mi Zhu did not evaluate the world situation analyzed by Lu Su, and both sides were pointed out. Wise people will not make evaluations where they do not understand, so Lu Su will not say too much about Mi Zhu's analysis of the Taishan business, even if he can feel that this matter is not as simple as Mi Zhu said. But he did not say it, but he just listened silently, and then filled these things into his puzzle to get a different Taishan from Mi Zhu's point of view. As for Mi Zhu's views on Lu Su, he sighed in the conversation along the way. The scholar in front of him must be a person who is a general and a minister, although he is slightly lacking because of his experience, but his unique insights and vicious vision make him, a wealthy businessman who has traveled south and north, feel amazed. Maybe there are mistakes and omissions, but his ability cannot be denied. With the unique slickness of a businessman, Mi Zhu narrowed the distance with Lu Su little by little, and before he knew it, Lu Su had moved from Liu Bei's messenger's carriage to Mi Zhu's carriage. Chen Shi looked at Xu Chu standing next to Liu Bei like a wall, and couldn't help but be a little entangled. He had not thought about Xu Chu's arrangement. If he was just a bodyguard, Chen Shi himself felt a little wasteful, but if he was a general, thinking about Xu Chu's behavior in history, it was obvious that Chen Shi would not be at ease, so he had to put it aside. But fortunately, Xu Chu seems to be very dedicated to protecting Liu Bei, and he seems to like doing this very much, holding the iron sword that Chen Shi ordered people to build for him to follow Liu Bei every day, and when he arrived at the government office, or Liu Bei's resting place, he stood outside the door with a fierce face, scaring away all those who dared to approach. For Chen Shi, this is not a big deal. Maybe at first he was a little depressed about Xu Chu's hideous smiling face, but after a long time, every time he saw Xu Chu's hideous smile, Chen Shi would inexplicably have a sense of joy, and sure enough, it would be good to get used to it. After getting used to Xu Chu's hideous smiling face, Chen Shi also got used to Shu Chu's amazing amount of food. Chen Shi used a palm-sized celadon bowl for eating, saying that Chen Shi wanted white porcelain, but he didn't understand how to get it until now, so he let the craftsman study, and he hadn't found a professional craftsman yet. The celadon bowl is a celadon bowl. Chen Shi has nothing to say. Anyway, the bowl for eating is celadon is not too much. The palm-sized bowl Chen Shi eats 2 bowls of rice is enough, and Zhao Yun, who looks thin and delicate, eats Chen Shi 5 times without any problem. As for Guanzhong can be more. As for Shu Chu, Chen Shi said that he no longer wants to count bowls. Although Zhao Yun said that the energy of the warrior is refined from food, but this seems to be too edible. At least Zhao Yun once again competed with Shu Chu, invited Shu Chu to eat steamed buns, and as a result, after the 3 steamed buns were eaten by pig's trotters, Shu Chu picked his teeth and said that he was half full, and in an instant Zhao Yun understood why Guan Yu, Zhong Fei, and Shu Chu all ran away after competition. In this period when there is no Liu Bei and no salary, when everyone is living tightly, if you compete with the big eater once, you may need to fight some tigers, bears or other wild food, and you will not lack money and food in the future. Dong Cheng Lu Zijing, I have seen Xuan de Gong. Zuzhu Mi Zijong, I have seen Xuan de Gong. When Lu Su and Mi Zhu's carriage drove not far from the government office, the sharp-eyed Lu Su saw a group of people standing at the door of the government office, as if waiting for their arrival. Soon Mi Zhu also saw the group of people in front of the government office. He was different from Lu Su, he had eyesight, or he was not as arrogant as Lu Su now, and the thing like a white-clad light prince was no longer something that Mi Zhu, who had been grinding in the mall for several years, could make. He didn't want Lu Su, a capable person, to be held on the title of arrogant in the first year of junior high school, and he also didn't want Liu Bei to lose a scholar who might be a capable minister in the world because of momentary dissatisfaction. Although this scene made Mi Zhu feel heartache, it also allowed him to see huge business opportunities. Although the cost exceeded 100 million, but the profits created were not shocking. Excellent businessmen never lack the spirit of adventure, and now Mi Zhu has seen amazing profits from the huge investment of Mount Tai, and Mi Zhu is willing to gamble on this. Since he bet on Liu Bei, Mi Zhu naturally hoped that Lu Su could also join Liu Bei's forces, so that he would have a mutually dependent friend in Liu Bei's forces, and he was optimistic about this scholar named Lu Su, although he was not famous, but the talent shown along the way made him feel his heart tremble, and years of experience made him understand that this person was worth his heavy bet. And this person was very likely to become his biggest helper when he pulled into Liu Bei's camp. Excuse me, I heard that Mi Zijong of the 5 wealthy merchants, Lu Zijing of the obvious rivers and lakes came to visit Taishan, and the depression caused by the departure of the Zhen family and the absence of celebrities was swept away. Liu Bei stretched out his hand to help the 2 of them up, and said with a sincere face. Chen Shi turned his head unnaturally, and sure enough, Mi Zhu's cheeks turned red when he was moved by Liu Bei's words, and he almost bowed his head. This is no longer the era of the king holding the whip for celebrities in the spring and autumn and warring states periods, and it is not easy for Liu Bei to bend down to greet him, not to mention this kind of heart-to-heart and sincere words. Didn't even Lu Su get a little excited? Chen Shi seems to be somewhat immune to this kind of thing, but the ancients seem to have no resistance to this set at all. Lu Su just followed Liu Bei into Liu Bei's house next to the government hall in a dizzy, and the living room was already prepared as Liu Bei said, well, this should have been a dinner for Chen Shi's group, but now it has become a banquet, and it seems that a small bronze cauldron has been added. Liu Bei, who was sitting in the first place, introduced Mi Zhu and Lu Su to everyone present respectively, so that Lu Su and Mi Zhu frequently paid attention to Chen Shi and Zhao Yun. Although he had already heard that Chen Shi was less than 10 years old, Zhao Yun was as brave as Lu Biyu, but he was not as fierce as a martial artist, but he was close to a civil official, but he did not take it seriously. And he didn't want the rumor-like words to be worthy of the name. It can be seen that Mi Zhu has already understood Liu Bei before he came, but after arriving at Mount Tai, he felt a little distressed about the construction of Taishan County, but since Mi Zhu changed his name, there was no hesitation at all. After Mi Zhu recognized Liu Bei as the Lord, he frequently signaled to Lu Su, hoping that Lu Su could also take advantage of this opportunity to join Liu Bei's forces. Mi Zhu also knew that what he did this time was a little inauthentic, but for the sake of Lu Su's potential, the power of the Lord Liu Bei, and his own future, Mi Zhu hoped that Lu Su could join Liu Bei's forces at this banquet. Chapter 67. It's not pride, it's just self-confidence. Before the meal, Chen Shi looked at Lu Su curiously, and according to his eyesight, he could naturally see that Mi Zhu was frequently signaling to Lu Su. But Lu Su neither expressed his intention of refusal nor his intention to join. What is the situation? Is this guy here to visit and travel? Although he does not have much experience, but the style of the head of the powerful family for many years, it can naturally be seen that Liu Bei's actions are not pretending, which can be described as a true expression, and it is precisely because of this that compared to Hu Lai's Yuan Shu, Liu Bei obviously meets his criteria for choosing a master. In Lu Su's view, the great governance of the world has nothing to do with the private morality of the monarch. As long as public morality is passable, dare to employ people, and govern the world naturally have talents to complete, and everything must be done personally is not in line with Lu Su's ideas. After all, Duke Huan of Qi once asked Guanzhong honestly, "Xianghua, you said that I like beautiful women, like horse racing, and I like hunting, and I can't walk when I see treasures, so it won't affect my ability to become a hegemon." Chen Shi estimated that when Qi Huangong said this, his voice was definitely lower, and the more he spoke, the more he lost confidence, and when he finally said it, he felt a little too much. But Guanzhong's answer was interesting. He glanced at Qi Huangong and said, "It doesn't affect." When Chen Shi read the book and saw this section, he thought, Guanzhong probably didn't bother to answer, these are not things. Duke Huan of Qi was overjoyed and asked, "Then what influenced me to be the boss?" Guanzhong replied solemnly this time, and said with a solemn face, "I don't understand the wise men. I understand the wise men but don't appoint them, I don't trust them, and while trusting them, I let other villains participate in them. These things affect the king's hegemony." After hearing this, Duke Huan of Qi handed over the position of Prime Minister to Guanzhong and let him manage the country, and then he really became the overlord. Also Lu Su also believed in Guanzhong's set of theories. The world is not governed by the king alone. What the monarch does is to select and appoint talents. As for the monarch's own problems, Lu Su believes in the self-spoken fault of the bottom, and Guanzhong did not say that Duke Huan of Qi was greedy for money ***, and what praise did later generations say? Since Lu Su saw Chen Shi, who was less than 10 years old under Liu Bei's order to govern Taishan County, he was immediately satisfied with Liu Bei's meritocracy. Isn't this the model of a monarch in his mind? So what if he is less than 10 years old? As long as he has the ability, he should be included in the ranks of selection. The capable are up, the mediocre are down. Isn't this kind of thing also a beautiful story for the ages? As for the monarch's private virtue, Lu Su does not have too many requirements, whether it is generous and benevolent, greedy for money, as long as the meritocratic country is still this country. At most it is a little headache for the subordinates. As long as the monarch still puts the world in mind, then the subordinates are at most just a headache, so that the wonderful world will not evaporate. It is precisely because of these concepts that after seeing Chen Shi and Liu Bei's actions, Lu Su has actually recognized Liu Bei, but he is still entangled in his previous thoughts, and said that he will take a look at Taishan County more, and then talk about whether to join after thoroughly understanding Liu Bei's character, and if he joins directly, Lu Su always feels a little too hasty. "Zichuan, Zijing will be entertained by you. I think you two must have a lot to say. If Zizhong doesn't give up, just stay here tonight, Zhongkang." Liu Bei said with a smile, and finally understood the meaning of Chen Shi's many previous gestures, so he made this unreasonable treatment. "Thank you, Xuan Gong." Chen Shi smiled slightly. He was curious to know how Lu Su, a famous minister of the Three Kingdoms, evaluated his approach in Mount Tai, whether it was good or bad, and what mistakes and omissions there were. Coming out of Liu Bei's gate, Lu Su finally reacted, turned his head to look at Chen Shi and bowed his hands. Chen Juncheng really has the favor of Xuan Gong. For a moment, Lu Su finally realized that something was wrong. Since he saw Liu Bei and Chen Shi, he had never seen Chen Shi call Liu Bei the Lord, and when he greeted him, Chen Shi only took half a step back, and did not follow Liu Bei, and then smiled bitterly. Why didn't he expect such a simple way? Sure enough, the easiest way will always be forgotten. "You and I are almost the same age, so it's better to call it a table." Saying that, Chen Shi took off the crown of hair on his head, giving Lu Su enough sincerity. Lu Su was stunned. He understood that it was an unrestrained and equal way of communication, but on the road, you did this too boldly and carelessly paid attention to the occasion. In other words, the masked people on the street during this period were all gangsters, but they didn't say anything, just silently took off their hair crowns. Forgive Su for being disrespectful. Has Zichuan always been so eclectic? "It's just that my head is itchy." Chen Shi scratched his hand twice and pressed the crown of hair on his head casually. "Ha ha ha, Zichuan is really a wonderful person." Now Lu Su didn't have the smoothness after that, and seeing that Chen Shi didn't care, he laughed. "Let's go to my house for tea, and by the way, tell me what you think of Mount Tai." Chen Shi shook off his long hair and said with a smile on his face. "Okay, I have a lot to ask you, Chen Zichuan." Lu Su, who had no constraints, said very arrogantly. "Then let's make a good gesture and see if you, Dongcheng Lu Zijing, can refute me, Chen Zichuan." Chen Shi laughed. Chen Shi and Lu Su sat down from their seats, and soon Chen Lan brought the food up, and Fan Jian accompanied him for a while before leaving, and took the door with him before leaving. "When I saw you Lu Zijing, I estimated that you would have a question and ask me. Let's take a look. It's a pity that there is no good late-night snack. Let's make do with it." Chen Shi gave Lu Su a glass of mash. "There is no wine or anything. Drink some this, it's quite sweet lately." "Zichuan is so sure that I will definitely have a question for you?" Lu Su asked with a smile. "I'm not afraid that my words are flattery. I also accept flattery. How to say that this is all my merit? The governing is substantial, and I'm about to give etiquette. Have you ever accepted some praise? Chen Shi laughed and scolded. I, Chen Zichuan, will naturally accept praise for what is good, and I will not blame anyone for what is wrong, and then correct it. As for why you are sure that you must have a question to ask, it is very simple. The wise people of the world who cross Mount Tai without thinking are by no means wise. I, Chen Zichuan, am not underestimating the world, but I am confident that what I have done before is enough to stimulate the wisdom of all the wise men who pass by here. Chen Shi looked arrogant. The one who can see the problem must be the wise man of the world, who can feel the problem but don't know where the problem is, must be the backbone of the country. As for the people who walk around and watch the flowers, they are just mediocre ministers. Chapter 68 The Madman's Practice. Chen Shi's arrogance made Lu Su stunned. He thought about various situations, but he didn't think that Chen Shi, who was a wizard in his mind, was so arrogant. Do you think I'm crazy? Chen Shi laughed, not minding Lu Su's sluggishness at all. You and I are not even close to the number of double 10. If you are not arrogant at this time, with an experienced and prudent personality, then when you need to be mature and prudent, wouldn't it be boring to look back on today? Chen Shi's words made Lu Su stunned again, and before he could speak, Chen Shi smiled and said, under the rule of Duke Xuanda, I am the only one who can be regarded as a civil official, and although the others are civil officials, most of them are temporary civil servants, and I lack someone who can help me. Being tactful and doing things is indeed not something we should do at our age, and when we were young, we should indeed have the attitude of looking at the heroes of the world, but I have been the head of the powerful family too much and forgot who I am today. Lu Su slowly closed his eyes, and when he opened his eyes again, his whole body exuded a sense of confidence, and his eyes stared at Chen Shi. I have never given the initiative to others. Okay, let me hear your opinion. Chen Shi looked at the arrogant Lu Su and laughed. What a force needs to advance by leaps and bounds is this kind of publicity and self-confidence, and only under the leadership of this momentum can it create an extraordinary cause against the general trend. As for the so-called keeping the business is more difficult than starting a business, it is just that there are more emperors who keep their business than those who start a business, so they have never experienced the sea, thinking that the small waves of the lake are already frightening, but they don't know that the waves of the sea are not what they can imagine at all. What does Zichuan want to do? Lu Su stared at Chen Shi and asked. Sweep the world and rebuild the world. Chen Shi said calmly. Take Qingju, merge Zuzhu, swallow Yuzhou, break Yuan Shao, accept Bingju, and accumulate the power of the Central Plains to swallow the world. Lu Su looked at Chen Shi with a treacherous smile, as if he was saying that even I could see such a plan. How could it be on the stage? It's not a big problem. At most there is one more in the middle to fight the world alone, and then the power of the Central Plains will be swallowed by the whale. Chen Shi didn't care about Lu Su's smile at all. The reason why Lu Su could see it was because Chen Shi deliberately behaved so arrogantly in front of him, and this kind of wise man with an elegant appearance and an arrogant heart would inevitably use the most domineering and arrogant plan, and even looked simple and rude, but it was undeniable that this plan was so simple and crude that it was unexpectedly crude, but no one would pay attention to this madman's strategy. Crazy plan, the first 3 steps, with the elegance you are showing now, is not a problem, and I even suspect that you are already calculating Yuan Shu. As for the 4th step, there is also the 5th step. This is the point. Lu Su knocked on the table and frowned, thinking about it. Inadvertently he had already begun to think about this strategy that seemed to be a madman, starting to challenge the first family in the world plus the first and second princes in the world. What a crazy thing a person dares to do. I don't know why Lu Su felt his blood pumping when he thought of this. No, only the 5th step is the point. Chen Shi sneered and said, as long as it is fast enough, the difficulty of 1, 2, 3, or 4 steps is almost non-existent. This is impossible. Yuan Shu and Yuan Shao are the Yuan family after all. Even if they fall out, once there are forces that can endanger Yuan's status, they will definitely join forces to attack head-on, and the resistance will increase greatly at the beginning of the 3rd step. But in view of Yuan Shu's great ambition and talent, he may not have reacted before he can be shattered by you. But Yuan Shu fell, which is a warning to Yuan Shao. Lu Su shook his head and vetoed Chen Shi's words. He was not optimistic about Chen Shi's plan. The 3rd step is not for us to do it alone, but there will be a group of people to do it. The Jade Seal is still in Sun Ce hands, and Sun Ce is under Yuan Shu. When the time comes, as long as Sun Ce is shaken away, Yuan Shu will be dazzled with the words of prophecy. Chen Shi's prophetic effect appeared, and the eyes that looked at Lu Su burst with strong confidence, almost saying that even if someone didn't want it to happen, Chen Shi could do it. Lu Su's face froze, and he began to think about the possibility of this kind of thing, and finally raised his head to look at Chen Shi with difficulty. He felt the pressure in front of Chen Shi for the first time. Can anyone really be so meticulous? If that's the case, the 3rd step will really become a wall that everyone pushes, and Yuan Benchu can only sit idly by. Lu Su opened with difficulty. The temple calculated this kind of thing. As long as one step went wrong, all the later ones would be overturned, and he had not considered Yuan Shu and Sun Ce at all before. One omission, the situation changed greatly. In fact, I think the strategy is no longer important when it comes to the fourth step. After all, at that time, the forces of both sides are no longer completely negated by a single defeat. It can be said that the actual competition is not the strategy of the battlefield, but the logistics. And unfortunately, Yuan Shao has already been calculated by me. Chen Shi said with a hint of mockery on his face, very disdainful. In this world, in addition to the battlefield can solve the enemy. In fact, there are more other methods. Lu Su looked at Chen Shi and sighed and said, "Isn't Sichuan afraid that I will turn against Yuan Benchu? If you wanted to defect to him, you wouldn't think so much about Shen Digong." Chen Shi curled his lips and said, "Although I don't know why you didn't defect directly to Shen Digong, but you are very hesitant, but from the way you have always thought, it can be seen that you are indeed from the perspective of Shen Digong, and even if you check and fill in the gaps, I am not from the enemy's point of view, you have entered the game."
Alas, Chen Zichuan is really a wizard in the world.
Lu Su sighed and said, "I hesitate in my heart, but I feel that going directly now is a bit contrary to what I said before that I would take the school for a long time, and now I am willing to settle in Taishan as a guest minister. While taking the school examination, I will help Sichuan check and fill in the gaps."
Okay.
Chen Shi laughed. "Since you have the heart to join Mount Tai, then I finally have the opportunity to talk to people about the direction of Mount Tai."
Ah.
Lu Su was stunned. The relationship was talked about before to take Qingju, and Zuzhu, swallow Yuzhou, and the northern expedition Yuan Shao was just a joke at all. This is impossible. It is obvious that Chen Shi has begun to deal with these things. Whether it is Yuan Shu or Yuan Shao, the two largest forces in the north and south, Chen Shi has already begun to plan. Well, it's different from that kind of plan. It's another. If it was externally before, now it's internal. I've always wanted to study how to govern with people. Destruction is always easier than building. So before I do it, I think it's necessary for me to study governance, consolidate the foundation, and thicken the foundation until one day I can't win.
Chen Shi closed his eyes, and a smile appeared on his face. This was his plan. I would like to hear the details.
Lu Su's respectful salute was different from the previous discussion. This time Chen Shi was obviously going to throw away some dry goods. "Zijing, do you think it is very important for strategists and commanders to be in troubled times?"
Chen Shi looked at Lu Su and asked solemnly.
"It's very important. An excellent strategist or commander can stop 100,000 soldiers." Although Lu Su didn't understand what Chen Shi wanted to say, he also expressed his opinion. "Yes, you can block 100,000 soldiers. That old-fashioned and cautious ordinary commander leads a few generalized strategists, leading 100,000 soldiers with enough fine food to deal with the shortage of soldiers and food. But the commander and strategist are comparable to the 10,000 infantry led by the general who is comparable to the famous general of ancient times. How about it?"
Chen Shi looked at the dark night outside the window and asked. "Probably."
Lu Su didn't come out for a long time, but he seemed to have caught something.
Chapter 69 Win Without Winning.
Oi. Since ancient times, the classic battles recorded in military books have all won more with less, but with the knowledge of you and me, I don't think I will believe in the book. Chen Shi's smile was a little joking, thinking about the battles recorded in the military books. Every time it was explained that less won more, rarely when the capabilities of the two sides were almost the same, let alone when the strength of the troops was far superior to the enemy, as if there were too many people could not show their ability. Lu Su looked at Chen Shi in surprise, but also nodded and said, "Indeed, 9 out of 10 of the battles recorded in the military book are less to win more, but from ancient times to the present, the examples of winning more with less are probably those in the military book. I heard someone say that the same level of combat is invincible, and it can be called powerful, but when others can raise their own level, and they can still maintain this level, barely fighting, even if they narrowly win, it is a kind of helplessness. The so-called good fighter has no great name, and uses strength far beyond the opponent to crush the enemy. Even if he is full of ingenuity, he cannot save the defeat at the strategic level." Chen Shi closed his eyes and said to Lu Su, when he said this, he thought of many helpless battles in ancient times, and even won consecutive battles but could not save the final defeat. The Han dynasty fought against the Xiongnu. The early and late scenes were not very good-looking, basically could not take advantage. Of course, the mid-term battle-loss ratio of 1 to 20 was indeed against the sky. Just say that after the ascension of Emperor Wu in the later period, the Han dynasty and the Xiongnu were still fighting, and the Xiongnu were still very powerful on the scene, but the result was that the Xiongnu were exterminated,
which is the legendary drag to death.
Just like the failure rate of the Tang dynasty's foreign wars was as high as 60%, but the Tang dynasty still pacified the four directions, just because the small countries around them could not afford to lose. The Tang dynasty could come again if it lost, and the small countries of the four directions would never have a chance as long as they lost once. Similarly, the Song dynasty's foreign war win rate was as high as more than 70%, but basically the same as the Han and Tang dynasties teased others. The The Song dynasty's war victory rate was less than 60%, and it was clearly seen that it was less than 60%, which means that when the scene still maintained an advantage, it was given a bento. It is precisely because of this that Chen Shi has no interest in winning or losing on the scene at all. Li Mu has won 3 wins and 2 draws against Wang Jian in 5 battles. But Zhao Guo has no possibility of continuing to fight. Even if King Zhao does not kill Li Mu, when Qin Guo frees up his hands, Zhao Guo is still dead. It is a doomed tragedy, so Chen Shi is too lazy to see how the scene is. Lu Su looked at Chen Shi. Our art of war is always how to defeat the strong with the weak, but it never tells us that the simplest art of war is to bully the weak. Sichuan is right. Sometimes full of cleverness can't save the final ending, and it is the king to strengthen oneself and weaken others. Yes, Zijing. Do you know what I thought at the beginning of junior high school? Chen Shi said with a smile. He wanted to completely instill his ideas into Lu Su, but he was worried that Lu Su would accept it completely, so he changed his words. Lu Su shook his head. He really couldn't understand Chen Shi's jumping thinking, but he was still very interested in Chen Shi's wisdom. When I found out that Zhuangdegan couldn't recruit excellent strategists, I turned to another path, that is, to strengthen myself, to the point where I could defeat our enemies even with ordinary generals and the quick strategist group I cultivated, so I made plans for the most difficult situation at the beginning of the junior high school. Chen Shi recalled what he thought at that time, and there was an indescribable joy, and finally someone could share these things with him. How is this possible? Sichuan can still govern with this kind of idea. How is it possible? Lu Su was directly startled. Chen Shi started with the idea of fighting the world alone. Even if it was the worst plan, it was impossible, and he could still work under that mentality. Nothing is impossible. Don't you think this is good? If I can sweep those guys out like this, wouldn't it be easier for someone to come when the time comes? Chen Shi smiled and said, and according to my thinking, it is not impossible. The so-called 3 people are long, 1 person is short, the quality is insufficient, the quantity makes up for it. Maybe a top strategist can stand up to a dozen of my mass-produced advisors. But as long as the number is enough, I am not worried, and there are many. I don't believe that there will be 1 or 2 wizards. Lu Su felt that his cold sweat had flowed down. In such a short time, Lu Su had already had a certain understanding of Chen Shi. This guy in front of him was indeed rampant at times, but it was undeniable that his wisdom was absolutely shocking, and the crazy plan in his mouth was definitely possible to be executed. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the shock in his heart, Lu Su had already found that he was shocked by Chen Shi, but he shouldn't think about these little things at this time. Dare to ask Sichuan what is a mass production strategist? Lu Su directly pointed out the most critical part of these things. Chen Shi's plan and center could not bypass this mass production strategist. Quantity produces quality. Lu Su also recognized, just like a Guan you can't beat Lu Bu, but 10 is not a problem, a very simple logic. This is my secret method, and it cannot be given lightly. Chen Shi shook his head arrogantly, saying that he could not tell Lu Su. It is said that Chen Shi's so-called mass-made strategists, civil servants, are actually looting those historical celebrities who have not grown up, while using cramming education to instill those school-age children. Anyway, for Chen Shi, what he wants is only talents, geniuses, or something and not something that can appear in school education, basically relying on self-study. Teachers are just leaders. Just like Zhuge Liang, it is estimated that it will still be like that if another person teaches. Generally speaking, the reason why teachers keep their names is because they meet good students, not that teachers can really teach geniuses. Chen Shi's most recognized sentence is that you can never become the top with what others grant, because there will always be someone above you, and you can be manufactured in batches. Education is the same, and Chen Shi doesn't want to do anything to teach students one-on-one, for the simple reason that there are not so many teachers, and there is no need for another one. Chen Shi has designed his education method, as well as his resourcefulness, simple and crude. The effect is not too bad. Start to give a book to the teenagers over 10 years old. You can see for yourself, geniuses will naturally be outstanding. Half a year later the book will be collected and the excellent selection will be selected, directly brought by the civil servants to teach experience and carry out simple government affairs. This kind of half-sheep, half-master-apprentice education. Genius will naturally go out of his own way. Anyway, Chen Shi is too lazy to prune it. Who knows what genius will grow into? Anyway, Chen Shi can't guarantee that the guy he trimmed out still maintains his own essence. Maybe they will all be made into a mold. This is not a tragedy. As for those who are interested in book knowledge for 3 years of cramming education, this Chen Shi has experience, and it can be described as experienced, and he can't make geniuses. Can't he still make hard firewood? What are you kidding? China's technology to make hard wood is invincible. In this era when books are family heirlooms, this crazy way of education will not only not be criticized by others, but will include those who are willing to teach among the sages, so there is no need to worry at all. This is actually brushing praise. As for whether they will become nerds or something, do you see which third-grade primary school student has become a nerd? Even if it is Saturday and Sunday makeup classes, holiday makeup classes, winter and summer vacation makeup classes, and so-called after-school homework tutoring. From the age of 2, I started to enter kindergarten, and I started to make up classes at the age of 4, but when I reached the 6th grade, I still struggled, and the 6-year primary school education plus a series of makeup classes could not erase the essence of primary school students. It is precisely for this reason that if Chenshi carries out this super crazy makeup education system at this time, everyone will only praise Chenshi for being serious and responsible. This ticket student is really lucky or something. No one will criticize the inhumanity or anything at all. At this time the teacher of the heaven and earth monarch is not a joke, not to mention that you are a common person. You are the emperor who has to salute when he sees his teacher. All in all, Chenshi has already thought that a teacher who does this in this era is definitely a good teacher. Whether it is from the perspective of universal morality or social concepts, a teacher who does this is definitely a sage. Chenshi's words made Lu Su stunned, and then he also reacted. Indeed, this kind of thing is definitely confidential. So he spoke. It's so reckless. Sichuan will forgive me. It's nothing, Jenna. Help me get those identical books from the bookshelf. Chenshi shook his head to show that he didn't care, and naturally leaned back and turned his head and shouted outside the door. Okay. Although Chenshi is always not at home, but because there are no elders, as the hostess, the traditional and simple often forgets a lot of the etiquette she learned before. For example, the traditional and simple strongly require reading books, so Chenshi asked people to print a book for primary school students and the like to give it to the traditional and simple, and then it was not easy to engrave it in the spirit of craftsman. So the primary school students printed a lot. Chenshi planned to use this thing for selection. Of course, now is definitely not the time. Let Zijing laugh. There is only one housekeeper in the family, and one singer and one is the wife. Chenshi shrugged his shoulders and said, what to pretend to be if the crown is lost? It is not easy for the big guys. Chenshi also once thought about raising a team of singers, 8 on the left, 8 on the right, and when he entered the door, he could hear greeting the master or something, but when he came to Mount Tai, he found that one had no time to look for it, and the other didn't know how to find it. So now Chenshi could only wait for Liu Bei to reward himself with a team of singers or something, so that he would save money and trouble, and the quality could also be guaranteed. Fan Jian ran over with those wire-bound books, but he actually remembered to bring a few steamed buns with fillings in his hand. Compare it yourself, and you'll understand. Chenshi left a few books to Lu Su, thinking that according to Lu Su's intelligence, he could understand Chenshi's thoughts in an instant. Chapter 70 Life is nothing more than fame and fortune. Lu Su took a deep breath, and was directly frightened by the exact same handwriting of these 2 books, as well as this book of more than 10,000 words. How much does this thing cost? The more, the cheaper the average price. If you have 2 books, it is estimated that they are not much cheaper than the solitary books. Chenshi rolled his eyes and said, then it can't be promoted. Lu Su sighed and said, but if you get a few thousand copies, it's much cheaper than a book. Chenshi said nonchalantly, hey, why are there still typos in this? Why don't you change it? Lu Su looked at the word traditional on it, and he didn't understand what Chenshi said, or it didn't enter his brain. It's too troublesome. It's wrong if it's wrong. Chenshi rolled his eyes and said, it's not good to be quick to achieve, and it's illiterate craftsmen who make this thing. So it's all there. Besides, if 1 or 2 words are wrong, it's wrong. Be tolerant. Understand. This thing is much better than Shujian. Chenshi's understanding of tolerance is entirely because the craftsman is illiterate and can only be carved in reverse according to what he wrote, and because he carves a whole page at a time, he can only re-engrave it all if he is wrong. So as long as it is not a keyword, and there is no more than 1 word wrong in a version, Chenshi will pretend not to see it. As for movable type printing or something, Chenshi said that he has no ability at all. Craftsman technology is a problem, materials are a problem, and he is also a problem. There are problems up and down, so how to do it? That's not as good as engraving, anyway. It's social progress. Stone carving is not good. Wood carving is not good. Gold and stone hollowing, anyway. This kind of technology can be played in China in the Shang dynasty, and there is no pressure at all. That's also true. There are times when there are mistakes and omissions in copying. Lu Su nodded and said, but this handwriting, as well as the errors and omissions, are the same, and it is easy for people to find problems. If you find it, you will find it. Which one of the people who have used printing since ancient times doesn't know about this? But who has paper to do this kind of thing? Chenshi smiled indifferently. China has been playing with this kind of thing for thousands of years. Can you not know what's going on? It's just that the technology is not enough to play movable type printing. If you can't even play engraving, isn't it a joke? To put it bluntly, if someone can make popular paper in the Shang dynasty, then it will not take a few days for someone to make engraving printing, which can already be said to be instinctive. Can you control the source? Lu Su frowned. If you can control it, you can also use this as an enlightenment book, so that you can probably achieve the purpose of mass manufacturing of civil officials. Since ancient times, There have been good scholars who have no books to read, and how many wizards in the world have disappeared from everyone, and it is impossible to count at all, and if you give them a chance now, they will definitely return to you, so that in 10 years,
even if Shen Degong fights alone in the world, the victory or defeat is unknown. But you can't make a move now.
Chen Shi smiled bitterly and said, I don't want to oppose the family now. If I really send a book, it will only make the family and us desperate. Wisdom and land will never decline. Even if one day the land output is not valuable, but no country dares to abandon the land, it will only become a castle in the air. As for wisdom, this is the foundation of the family and the country.
Then how about you?
Lu Su also understood this, and the previous one was just a test whether Chen Shi was carried away by the huge merits. But what reassured him was that even if this huge asterisk was in front of him, Chen Shi still maintained the rationality of a wise man. Sell, a book of 100 gold, how to say that this is also a book of 10,000 words, even according to the price of bamboo slips, it is worth 1,000 gold, plus portability, a book of rarity is not expensive.
Chen Shi said casually.
The industry of grabbing money, this is the industry of grabbing money, and in this era where knowledge is more expensive than life and money is like dung, as long as you dare to sell, how much can the family eat? I have never been afraid that the knowledge is not enough, when has the family sold its own knowledge? Since ancient times, when scholars have no money, they have encountered good books, land, and manners for books, and the Chinese people have done an unknown number of things. As long as you have books that you are willing to sell, and the land, money, food, servants, and singers can choose at will, this is the absolute hard currency. However, it is said that I have never heard of selling books since the spring and autumn period, and naturally there are no bookstores, most of them are gifts, and if they are sold, they seem to be a bit indecent according to the ancient scholars.
100 gold?
Lu Su took a rough look. This small letter has almost more than 100 words, printed on a single page. The back cover takes the number of 99, and the 10,000 words are not fraudulent, so he nodded and said, if I had seen this book before, I would be willing to exchange it for 1,000 gold. I think the same is true for others. Sichuan is fair, and it is also for the blessing of us and other scholars. Well, in the future, this kind of 99-page book will be sold for 1,000 gold according to what Zijing said, and the 99 pages of the book will show that the number is 9 to 1, and the way of heaven is lacking, and the takeaway means that we only made the last page of money, which is considered travel expenses. Chen Shi explained expressionlessly, and by the way, he ordered Lu Su to this book, and in the future, some people will talk to Lu Su if they think it is expensive. This method is very good, but I am ashamed of the big gift without an inch of merit. Lu Su is worthy of being a benevolent gentleman, and he feels that he is a proposal, but he accepts a big gift like this, and it is a bit too much to take advantage. It's nothing, I'm interested, you write something, and I'll print it out for you. Chen Shiruo said innocently, and by the way, he gave Lu Su another grand prize. Since I am so ashamed, but I ask Sichuan to take back the words of the book, and Sujitsai may be difficult to do. Lu Su said with a wry smile, but the light in his eyes could not hide his eagerness to try. Well, Chen Shi snickered, his heart was already happy, he knew that absolutely no one in this era could stop the ultimate goal of Shuli Shuro. Even if he declined, he couldn't let go of his heart. No matter who wrote the book, as long as it can be written, someone will read it. In this era, those who dare to write books are basically a generation of great Confucians, and it can be said that they are already famous all over the world, and then writing a book and publishing it basically means that they want to reach the peak. But the worst thing is that these people's books are used to copy, the number is extremely small, and it is impossible to get a book by hand, so it is very difficult to publish a book, not to mention the ability, you have to be able to send it out in quantity, and the great Confucian scholars have a group of disciples to transcribe. Do you have it? People have been cutting for more than 10 years, just because they are worried that it will be troublesome when others copy it, so try to keep it as simple as possible. Now Chen Shi's kind of brainless printing is much better, saying that if he publishes a book for you, he will give you a book. 1,000 copies are not enough, 10,000 copies are not enough, even Zhao Yun can't resist it. It is said that Chen Shi was bored one day and told Zhao Yun to write out the Tunchen record, and then he had time to compile it into a book, and when others did it in the future, they just had to follow the steps. Chen Shi instantly understood what it meant to write a book in this era to celebrities. This is the magic skill of abducting famous ministers. He didn't believe it. 100,000 words of various books were blocked at the door of the Zun family, plus a book for Zun Shuang. He didn't believe that the Zun family would not give it to others. P.S. 20 taels in the Han dynasty is 1 gold, and 1/4 of 1 tael is 1 baht. So 1 gold is equal to 24 baht times 20 taels, which is 480 baht, and a copper coin is 5 baht. That is, 1 coin should be 96 5 baht coins. Chapter 71 Jiangdong Lu Family. With this big killer, Chen Shi is ready to abduct those famous ministers of Yingchuan who are preparing to return to their hometown from Mount Tai from Yuan Shao, and his goal is to wipe them all out. Lu Su and Chen Shi talked all night, and the next day they went to the government office with dark circles under his eyes. Liu Bei handed over the seal of the governor of Taishan County to Chen Shi with a happy face, and then handed over the seal of the Taishan County Cheng that Chen Shi had removed to Lu Su. The government affairs have been completely delivered, and Chen Shi seems to have nothing to do. As the leaders of the Taishan bandits were persuaded by Zhong Ba to surrender one by one, the remaining idiots who were stubborn and ignorant of the number of days were all combed by Guan Eri and Zhong Fei leading the new army, and Mount Tai was considered stable, and now Guan Yu and Zhong Fei also returned to Fengao with their captives. Zijing, this is the number of cultivated land this year, the tax rate is in Zilong, and there is also food supplied to the central government. You calculate it and give a similar amount. Chen Shi planned what he would do in autumn and winter, and began to deal with the current government affairs. Similar to before, Chen Shi only arranged people and determined the general goals, and someone would eventually come up with a charter. For example, now Lu Su belongs to the person who really does things, and Chen Shi basically moves his mouth. He knows his strengths very well, he has vision and experience, but he is not good at doing it, and it is natural to leave professional things to professional people to do. Besides, don't you see that Lu Su is very satisfied that he is reused, and he wants to show himself, so Chen Shi threw some things to Lu Su. The 4 heroes of Suqiao, and the burden should be focused. How can you give a rough number? 1 is 1, 2 is 2. How can the political strategy be vague? Isn't this an opportunity for subordinates to accept bribes? Lu Su solemnly rejected Chen Shi's kindness. Oh, I mean you just need to report the whole number, and the rest will be used as a subsidy for the villagers and widows in various counties during the new year, and it is not easy for them, and they should enjoy the offering. Chen Shi casually pulled an excuse and said, after distributing it, the remaining part will be used as a subsidy for our outstanding students in the coming year, saying that once those teenagers start studying, the family will have one less labor force, although even if it doesn't matter, the people will grit their teeth to support a student, but I think it's still a little more humane. Chen Shi yawned and said, and then thought of a series of good ideas to brush up on reputation. This method is very good, but why doesn't Sichuan write a charter? Lu Su nodded and saw the benefits of these 2 moves, and asked curiously. It's too simple, don't waste paper on explaining things. Chen Shi pulled over another reason, and it was reasonable. To say that Chen Shi is right, since the paper began to be used in the government office, Mizhu has paid attention to the paper, and can be sold after getting Chen Shi's promise, and it will inevitably be sold in the south when the time comes. Fortunately, a few days ago, Chen Shi really couldn't stand the inexplicable disappearance of the paper he had prepared, so he gave him a refined salt sales license in Yangzhou, Jingzhou, Yuzhou, and Zhuzhou, and asked him to take his documents to Su Shuang to pick up salt. Chen Shi naturally didn't know that Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping only did preliminary purification in their pursuit of speed. As for the second purification bird written by Chen Shi in detail, there were no birds. Anyway, the salt obtained after the initial purification was far stronger than the black and yellow lumps of Shuz Hongjing salt in their opinion, and there was no odor, so the last step was directly abandoned by the 2 of them. If these things were put aside now, they would definitely be pulled out to eat peanuts, but at that time, Chen Shi had nothing to say even if he saw Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping doing so much. After all, when the common people still use some salty stones, Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping's approach was really to benefit the society, and they sold so cheaply, according to the universal morality at that time. This was comparable to the benevolent merchant of spring and autumn Fan Li. Since Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping both eat the salt they sell, what else do you have to say? People who make salt are relieved of their own salt. What else do you want to say when you eat salt? So Chen Shi doesn't know how much salt Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping have done. After this opening, even if the whole Hanzhou County is sold, it is estimated that it can last until March next year, and the last step of drying salt is really fast. Even Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping are now having a headache about how to transport it out. Report. There are still important things to report to the millet. Just as Chen Shi continued to assign tasks to Lu Su, a herald ran over. Please come in, Zizhong. Chen Shi raised his head and frowned slightly. I don't know what Zizhong is back this time. Lu Su smiled and said, Sichuan is probably very sad that Zizhong is back. That's not the case, I'm just worried that something will go wrong in Qingzhou. That's the basis for my plans for the coming year. Chen Shi shook his head and said, Hey, we have a plan in Qingzhou? Lu Su looked at Chen Shi in surprise. He didn't know about this kind of big thing. Well, this matter is part of my business plan, I'll show it to you. Saying that, Chen Shi pointed to the stack of Lu Su's documents, saying that Lu Su had read it before. Salt industry? Lu Su thought about it for a moment and remembered that Chen Shi wrote in the document that he went to Qingzhou to engage in the salt industry. So simple who could understand it. Yes, it is estimated that Zizhong also came back because of this matter. I don't know if the situation is good or bad. I haven't contacted Su Shuang and the others in recent months. Chen Shi said that he didn't know either. I've seen the county governor, the county magistrate. Mijou trotted in, and it could be seen that the matter was not small, and even Mijou, who was quite gentlemanly, hurried to Chen Shi and Lu Su before he could wash his hair. Zizhong doesn't need to be polite. Look at your hurried expression. But something big happened in Qingju? Chen Shi's face was a little ugly. He chose Qingju at that time, but now it is really hard to have an accident. Mijou quickly clarified the ins and outs. Chen Shi was suddenly relieved a lot. As for Lu Su, he was already frightened, and the salt could not be transported out, hoping to win over the Lu family in Jiangdong, a shipbuilding family, to transport salt. This is all money. This is the basis for Liu Bei's takeoff in the coming year. This is really a big deal. It turned out that after Mijou took Chen Shi's note to Qingju, Su Shuang, who was melancholy transported, was overjoyed, and he couldn't transport it out. Couldn't Mijou, the owner of the 5 wealthy merchants, also transport it out? So Su Shuang patted his chest and said to Mijou, who came to transport salt, that salt was not a problem. Mijou looked at the 100,000 loads of refined salt that Su Shuang divided for himself and was stunned, and Su Shuang also said that he could pick up the goods first and then pay the money. After all, everyone is now eating with Zhuangdegang, looking up and not looking down, and the brothers are so rich, they don't even have to pay a deposit, and they will settle the accounts after making money, and they say that they only need to earn 1 wages. Although Mijou is a businessman, he is very gentlemanly. Seeing that Su Shuang and the two are melancholic about how to transport the salt out, Mijou said that he was willing to bear the transportation, but after seeing all the salt in Su Shuang's inventory, he was stupid. It seemed that so much salt was shipped out by conventional methods, and it was impossible not to alarm others. After thinking about it, Mijou felt that this could only be done by sea. Only in this way could he avoid the attention of others, and the family with such experience was the Jiangdong Lu family, and now the Gongsun family in Yuzhou, and these two families Mijou had also communicated with the Jiangdong Lu family. But now the question is whether Chen Shi can allow the Jiangdong Lu family to join. Chapter 72 The Unlucky Zhan Family. I hate my mother, and I smoked again, and after fighting for so long, it was finally normal. The Jiangdong Lu family is the family that was basically exterminated by Sun Ce, and it is also the family that gave birth to the last of the 4 British generals, Lu Xun's family, which became famous for shipbuilding, one of the 4 major families in Jiangdong, slightly worse than the 5 wealthy merchants, but stronger than Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping. Lu family. Chen Shi carefully thought about the pros and cons. Because the 4 families of Jiangdong married each other and were connected by the same breath, it could basically be said that they were advancing and retreating together. That is to say, once the Lu family intervened, the 4 families of Jiangdong were equivalent to saying that they had all reached out, which was not a good thing for Liu Bei. Zizhong, are you sure that the Lu family will not notify the 3 families, Zhong, Jiyu, and Zhu, or allow the Lu family to share the profits of the 3 families? But try not to involve us, are you sure? Of course. The Lu family doesn't have to hide it. Chen Shi thought for a while and looked up and said, Lu Xun's *** power for him was still slightly greater than the previous established plan. It's not difficult to do this. The existence of the family is for their own interests, so it's not difficult for the Lu family to hide this matter, and even if necessary, it can be directly pushed to me. After all, I am also a wealthy businessman with a head and face among merchants. Mijou responded almost without thinking, and what he said was right. The identity of Mijou, the owner of the 5 wealthy merchants, is enough to confuse the vast majority of people. Even if someone doubts it, it is difficult to associate it with Liu Bei. Well, then leave this matter to you. Yangju will give the Lu family as a place of sale. Shuland will be assigned to you. Tell Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping. Let them clean up the Zhen family as soon as possible. Get rid of the Zhen family. Yongju, Liangju, and Silly will also be assigned to them. If you can't do it, I will take back Jizhou. After handing over another troublesome matter to the professionals, Chen Shi felt that it was necessary to notify Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping again, so that these 2 people would not patronize and make money and forget the big thing. Zhen family? Mijou frowned. Sichuan and the Zhen family have a grudge? If the hatred is not big, I can mediate the conflict between the 2 sides as an intermediary. If it is not necessary, don't provoke the Zhen family, the merchants of the world, whether they want to admit it or not. The Zhen family is definitely the strongest, even more than twice as strong as me, a new wealthy businessman. I don't want to, but the Zhen family is a little excessive, so I can only give them a little color to see. What is the main business of the Zhen family? Chen Shi helplessly spread his hands and said that he didn't want to do this. The Zhen family's grain, salt industry, horses, cattle and sheep, tea and iron, smelting, silk and hemp, transportation do everything, and each of them is very strong. But if you want to say, grain, salt, and animal husbandry are the main ones. Mijou smiled bitterly and introduced the Zhen family's industry to Chen Shi. He didn't want to collide with the Zhen family at all. It's really a big family, so many industries. It seems that it won't be easy to force him to fold. It's really troublesome. Chen Shi also scratched his head. Mijou admitted that he was strong, so it was really very strong. So I said that if it is not necessary, it is better not to provoke the Jin family. The hidden strength of that family is too strong. At least I haven't touched the bottom for so many years.
Mi Zhu sighed and comforted.
Chen Shi rolled his eyes. It would be strange if the Jin family was not strong. Yuan Shao's son married Zhenmi in order to win over the Jizhou family, and then Cao Pai did the same thing. A family represented the richest Jizhou at that time. Could this family be an ordinary family? Take your time. Now let's take it slowly. I'll clean it up when I have time. Although the Jin family is strong, but it's not strong enough to make me jealous.
Chen Shi said indifferently.
The Jin family is indeed strong, but it is obvious that the eyes are not very good. The first merchant followed Yuan Shao. As a result, Yuan Shao's defeat was directly injured by the vitality of the play, and later relied on Zhanmi to catch Cao Pai's line, and as a result, the dispute for the prince was cleaned up by Cao Cao and half dead, and the family foundation was basically gone. After that, when Cao Rui came to power, the Jin family finally survived, and Jin Emai's son became the emperor. How good it was, but unfortunately the Jin family was gone at that time. For this kind of family, the elder's brain is not normal. Chen Shi doesn't think it is difficult to clean up. Oh, by the way, Zizhong, I forgot to say, you should have a wide range of connections among the businessmen. You can pull those people up and form a team, so that the ability to resist risks is stronger, and the team can adjust various materials. The freight rate can also be lowered, the cost will also be reduced, and with the number of people joining, the types of materials will also increase, as long as the deployment is good.
It will save a lot of trouble.
Chen Shi saw Mi Zhu smile bitterly, so he threw him an idea, and asked him not to worry too much about the Jin family's affairs. No one took care of dumping. Even if Zhong Shiping and Su Shuang couldn't defeat the Jin family, it was estimated that there would be no loss. After Mi Zhu pondered for a moment, he looked at Chen Shi with bright eyes. This method is wonderful. I don't want Zichuan to be so proficient in business. Okay, Zizhong, leave the business to you. If you can free up your hands and don't make the Jin family feel better, that's it. Chen Shi took out a scroll of documents and began to review them, hinting that Mi Zhu, hurry up and do your thing, don't waste any more time. I'll do it now. And I'll remember to make the Jin family look good. Mi Zhu laughed, not dissatisfied with Chen Shi's behavior, which was almost equivalent to serving tea and sending off guests. Go, Zizhong, I'm optimistic about you. You will become the world's largest wealthy businessman. Chen Shi said without raising his head, looking like he had no sincerity at all, but Mi Zhu laughed and said, thank you for your good words. It is said that after being so much by Chen Shi, Mi Zhu realized that the connections in his hands could actually make everyone on the network make money. And it was a big profit, and as the center of his connections, if he couldn't bring down the Jin family by relying on these people, it would be really incompetent, and naturally he was not dissatisfied with Chen Shi's behavior. After Mi Zhu left with a red face, Lu Su raised his head, looked at Chen Shi, who was idle in the main seat, and said, I found a problem. What is the problem? Where are the bullying men and women, or where are the cases judged unfairly, or where the bandits have gone down the mountain? Chen Shi raised his eyebrows and quickly summarized a few common examples. No. I just think Zichuan seems to understand everything, and he is very proficient in everything. Lu Su said curiously. It's just that the mouth is powerful, and in practice, Zhao Kui and I have a fight, so I'll still command the professionals. Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and told the truth. Ha ha ha, Zichuan still has such a humble time, shouldn't you be very arrogant at this time? I'm a genius, I was born to know, what's wrong with this? Lu Su laughed, completely disbelieving Chen Shi's truth, but imitated Chen Shi's arrogance when he talked to him about the future direction before. These days, no one believes the truth. Chen Shi rolled his eyes and said, hurry up and work, take care of the autumn harvest for me today, and tomorrow Xianhe and Zilong will come back to reconcile. If there are mistakes, you just wait to remake it. As he spoke, Chen Shi changed his mind, and solemnly left a bunch of work for Lu Su, saying that he continued to hold tea and began to think about future work. Chapter 73 Eat with Peace of Mind. As Chen Shi said, at noon the next day, Zhao Yun and Jian Yong rushed back, but both of them were very energetic and in a good mood. After all, anyone who saw the harvest of millet at this time would be very happy. Xianhe, Zilong, have you checked the taxes of each county? Chen Shi poured a cup of tea for the two of them and asked. A bumper harvest, except for some late planters. People everywhere have entered the autumn harvest, and we won't have to live so tightly next year. Jian Yong looked excited. How to say that he also had a lot of credit for this matter. Zilong, tell me too, by the way, take these things away when you leave, the people near Mount Tai sent you by themselves, and I'm eating mine. Chen Shi turned his head to Zhao Yun and said, then pointed to several baskets in the corner of the government office, which contained chestnuts, pine nuts, and some fungus and mushrooms. These nuts and mountain delicacies were all brought to Zhao Yun one after another after the autumn harvest began in the past few days, thanking him for the gifts he had handled for a period of time, saying that Zhao Yun might not accept it, But Chen Shi's standard visitors did not refuse. Anyway, he felt that he could eat with peace of mind and was naturally unceremonious. In other words, there are also for Chen Shi and Liu Bei, but compared with Zhao Yun, who has been running, there are much fewer gifts for Chen Shi and Liu Bei. There is no way. Zhao Yun has dealt with the people of Tunchen during this period of time is also obvious to all. In this era, committee people-oriented official, everyone is naturally extremely grateful. Zichuan, how can you accept gifts from the people? It is not easy for the people all year round, and picking these things is also a lot of hard work. How can you eat pine nuts so peacefully? Zhao Yun heard that these pine nuts were all given by the people, so he immediately stopped grabbing the pine nuts with his right hand and said with a righteous face. After running around for more than 3 months, Zhao Yun has seen the misery of the people at the bottom, working at sunrise and resting at sunset, facing the lurse every day for the grain in the fields, asking for God's blessing and the benevolence of officials, and only hoping that there will be a full meal in the coming year. The more he walked and the more he saw, the more vigorous the anger in Zhao Yun's chest became, and the more he felt how heavy the courage on his shoulders was. The first time he felt that he should have learned more about farming, even if it was a merit that could make the people fight 3 or 5 more buckets of food, which was more glorious than his battle to kill the enemy generals, but unfortunately he didn't understand. He could only help the people within his ability. Chen Shi told him that some of the old farmers who have been farming all year round can grow very well. If you want everyone to be as productive as those old farmers, you go to those old farmers, talk to them, and see if you can get those inconspicuous technologies. So Zhao Yun ran all over Mount Tai, used his own eyes to see that piece of grain grew the best, and then went to the owner of the land to ask about the technology. Zhao Yun ran for 3 months, ran all over Mount Tai, found all the techniques he could find, and taught them to others as much as possible. So the residents of Taishan County may not know Liu Bei, but they definitely know Zhao Zilong in a white robe, because Zhao Yun has been running in the farmland. To be honest, when Chen Shi knew this, he admired Zhao Yun's spirit very much, because he couldn't do it. He was very good at such a thing as using his mouth, but he couldn't do this kind of thing that broke his leg. Chen Shi believes that maybe Zhao Yun was not good at farming before, but when he confronted Chen Shi because of the Tunchen order, his understanding of agriculture was no weaker than that of an old farmer, and now even if Zhao Ji came, he might not be able to surpass Zhao Yun in farming. At least Zhao Ji did not have the energy to run all over Chenliu to collect all the farming technology, and Zhao Yun had already run out of Taishan County. Zilong, you have to accept these things, and if you don't accept them, they won't leave, the people won't be relieved, they will recognize you Zhao Zilong. As long as you accept it, they will believe that next year you will lead them to reclaim wasteland, and you will lead them to implement this year's decree. If you don't accept it, tomorrow there will be a group of people kneeling at your door, and they are dragging their children and daughters. Chen Shi broke open a pine nut, ate the kernel, raised his head, looked at Zhao Yun and said solemnly, Zichuan is right, we must accept it, and we confiscated it at the beginning, but people kept waiting there with the package, went back at night, and came again the next day without speaking. Lu Su also took a pine nut and broke it open. What they ask for is peace of mind. Only if you eat what they send, they will believe that you will not change this year's decree. This style is simple, but it is effective. It's that simple. Chen Shi nodded. You can try it or not. Anyway, someone will come over to give it to you every hour and a half. You can try. Before Chen Shi finished speaking, a little old man in linen clothes and patches carried a small basket into the government office, saying that since someone continued to give gifts, Chen Shi and Lu Su were not preventing anyone from entering the government office. The little old man has seen the county magistrate, Mr. Jian, and Mr. Zilong. After putting down the cage, the little old man bowed to a few people with a little fear, but after seeing Zhao Yun, he obviously looked excited. Old sir, excuse me. Chen Shi smiled and took a cushion from the side and walked over to hand it to the old man. Under normal circumstances, outsiders are not allowed to enter the government office, and all cushions are numerous. The little old man panicked and declined Chen Shi's cushion, and was finally pressed down by Chen Shi, only to see him sitting on the cushion carefully, taking the back cage behind him and taking out a burlap wrap. Mr. Zilong, thank you for leading our village to reclaim wasteland this year and teaching us farming techniques. Our Zhuangzi has no good gifts to thank you. This is the jujube on the jujube tree of Xiao Lao's Zhuangzi. Please be sure to accept it. Chen Shi glanced at the large bag of red dates, each shiny, and knew at a glance that it was a high-quality pollution-free green product. Zhao Yun declined righteously, and then the little old man was panicked, and kept saying good things to Zhao Yun, hoping that he could accept it, and then Zhao Yun began to explain to the little old man that he would do this next year, and there would be no changes in the general direction, so that the old man could rest assured, and then took the gift back, just when he was in his heart. But the old man who stumbled when he spoke instantly became fluent, saying that if Zhao Yun did not accept his dates, he would not go back. The little old man left, the jujube stayed. Chen Shi took one and took a bite, looking sideways at Zhao Yun. Zilong, what do you think? I always feel a little guilty. Zhao Yun sighed and said, there was a bit of a heroic shortness of breath in it. It's a good thing to feel guilty, and next year I will compensate all the guilt for government affairs, so that my decrees can be done better, so that the people can live a better life. Chen Shi continued to eat dates. Anyway, he was not as upright as Zhao Yun, and he only had a clear conscience to sit in this position to handle government affairs. Think about what we have brought to the people of Mount Tai, and I have the heart to eat it. I have a clear conscience anyway. Chen Shi clicked on the dates, and said that he had a clear conscience while eating. Chapter 74. There is food in hand, and there is no panic in the heart. Before Sichuan came, the people of Taishan were hungry and ragged, but now 500,000 people can be regarded as surplus food under Sichuan, and they eat with a clear conscience. Liu Bei walked in from outside the gate, and laughed when he heard Chen Shi's words. Zilong did not make the slightest mistake in carrying out government affairs, running between the villages, and did not slack off in the slightest for the people's rations. The Lord doesn't know. Yun runs between the villages, only to know the suffering of the people, and only to understand the ability of the military division. I am just a small ability, but I enjoy the people's service. Yun can't do it with a clear conscience. Zhao Yun had hesitation on his face. He couldn't have a clear conscience like Chen Shi. He didn't think he did better than Liu Bei and Chen Shi. Eat yours. You can eat what is given to you. If you don't feel at ease, you will be at ease next year. And now you don't want to eat nonsense here. Are you waiting to let it go? Their intention is also to urge you to do better. Eat quickly, and think about how to do better after eating, instead of complaining here that you are not doing well enough. Chen Shi casually skimmed the bag of dates to Zhao Yun, and remember to carry those things back. Think about what you will do next year when you eat. Zhao Yun stopped talking. It seemed that he had made up his mind to do a good job. As for Liu Bei, he didn't have any special feelings for Zhao Yun, a peerless fierce general, to engage in agriculture and sericulture all day long. After all, Zhao Yun did a good job in agriculture and sericulture, and if he was a fierce general, Liu Bei was not lacking now. So he felt that it was still necessary to let Zhao Yun consolidate the foundation of Mount Tai, especially when Zhao Yun was happy to do it. Liu Bei also pinched a red date and ate it, and he ate it with peace of mind. After all, Chen Shi followed him to Mount Tai, and now that Mount Tai is rich, he can be regarded as honored. Zhao Yun was a little stiff eating jujubes. He still looked a little sorry, but he didn't have the previous deadness, saying that if he came to debate with Chen Shi with a gun like last time, Chen Shi would definitely send it back without saying a word, and Zhao Zilong, who was not far away from the runaway, couldn't afford to mess with it. Sichuan ordered someone to inform me that there is something important. Liu Bei sat down in the main position, kicked Chen Shi to the top of his left hand, picked up the teacup, took a sip of tea, and raised his head to ask. There are some things that can be executed, although I can also release it, but I still ask Shen Degong to confirm. Of course, Yun Chang, Yi De, Zi Jian, and when Ziyi will also come back, and finally we can carry out the second step of the plan. Chen Shi nodded and turned over the previous gift-giving. Seeing that Chen Shi was so solemn, everyone was terrified, and even the hesitant Zhao Yun put down his guilt first and began to wait for the arrival of Guan Yu and others. Not long after, Guan Yu and others arrived one after another, and after seeing Liu Bei sitting in the main seat, as well as everyone with solemn faces, they all sat in their seats. Zhongkong, you personally guard the gate. The diplomacy of the main gate is guarded by your tiger guards, and no one else will be allowed to come in during this period when we sort out this year's things and decide to go next year. Chen Shi bowed his hand to Liu Bei, and then solemnly said to Shu Chu, who was standing behind Liu Bei. Yes. Shu Chu clenched his fists and walked out with a big knife. Let's talk about our current situation first. In May this year, we entered Mount Tai and collected a large number of refugees with work in lieu of relief, and then Zijian and Shen Jiao joined forces to pacify the bandits in Mount Tai. We have a large number of labor, which can be regarded as the basis for our construction of Mount Tai. In these 4 months, we have basically built all the houses for the winter. And roads have also been built between the villages. Chen Shi slowly reported the achievements of these 4 months, saying that 500,000 people directly used the entire Mount Tai as a construction site under Chen Shi's deployment, and in this way, he barely completed his goal in 4 months. Bei, thank you again for your help. After listening to these reports, Liu Bei finally had a clear understanding of his territory, and for the first time he knew that he was so rich. It sounds like a lot, but in fact, it's only a little bit on the heads of 500,000 people, barely enough. Chen Shi said helplessly, no way, our land is always a little small, but 10 million loads of grain are barely enough for us to implement the plan. Take your time. Sichuan seems to have forgotten that 10 million stones are only grain production, and the tax revenue is only 4 million to 5 million stones. Lu Su pointed to Zhao Yun and said, well, I know, Zilong's Tunchen order is not half in half. It is 40% in the first 3 years, and then it will be restored to 30%, right? Chen Shi glanced at Zhao Yun and said, this method is not bad, at least it can be easier to gather refugees. After all, there are more people to produce up, and talents in this era are the most valuable resources. After all, he remembered that the grain production at the peak of the Han Dynasty was about 1.2 billion stones, but it was only about 600 katis per person on the heads of more than 50 million people, which was not much. And 60% of the grain produced by these 1.2 billion stones is provided by the 5 states of Qing, Zhuzhou, Yang, Henan, and Hebei, so Zhuzhou and Jizhou, which have not been broken, are not ordinary rich and sure, which is why Dao Qian can casually call millions of stones of grain to Liu Bei. And this is also why Yuan Shao's hundreds of thousands of troops did not lack food during the battle between Cao Cao and Yuan Shao Guanju, and Cao Cao was hungry every day. It can be said that as long as these 5 states have a bumper harvest, all the other states in the world can survive without producing grain. But the most tragic thing about the Three Kingdoms era is that these 5 states were all broken in the end. As for the later so-called large producers Jingju, Yangju, Izhou, and so on, it is purely that there are no tigers in the mountains, monkeys are kings, and everyone with a little common sense knows when Jingju Yangju, that is, a large area south of the Yangtze River, entered the real development period. It was the Tang Dynasty. The Tang Dynasty used to say a bad word. Those places were barbaric and barbaric. That was the place where sinners were exiled. Of course, Izhou and Chengdu must admit that it is indeed a good place, and the strength of Li Bing's father and son can only be worshipped, and he has successfully transformed Sichuan and Shu. But that's just that place. Everyone attaches great importance to food, and there is no panic in the heart of grain in hand, especially in the war years. Grain plays a crucial role in the stability of the political situation. More than 4 million stones of grain are in hand. Many things can be implemented. Qingju is the previous big state, even if it can't be swallowed, relying on grain to law, who knows a little bit of encroachment. What can you do if people want to surrender? We have compassion for people, gather the refugees, and give them the soil to live. How noble we are. Chapter 75 Recruitment Order. There is no big problem with the 4 million stones of grain harvested by next summer. Even if we want to collect the Qingju refugees in the middle, we can barely support it. My suggestion is to continue to build. Where we collect it, build there, and the same Zolong's Tunchen order will be implemented there. Chen Shi took the page and looked at the content casually and said, he didn't have the kind of opening praise, and he had the habit of talking nonsense, although sometimes he had to do it, but now, he didn't need it at all. In view of the lack of food, I plan to let the Mi family buy grain in Jizhou, Jingju, and Izhou, and Su Shuang and Zhong Shiping will also buy cattle and horses in the prairie, and then the cattle and sheep will be gone. Chen Shi continued to increase investment in grain and grass. Qingju salt industry has reserved the materials to defeat the Han salt owls, and Zhuangdegang needs to be mentally prepared to resist the counterattack of the families behind those salt owls. And there are 2 ways to deal with this. One is to ignore it, directly carry out dumping trading, so that all salt merchants lose their qualifications to enter, and make those families feel that it is no longer worth continuing to do so. Chen Shi said the danger and also said the solution, and he was also prepared. Of course, the disadvantage of this method is that the family will hold a grudge, and when they have the opportunity to get a handful out of us, they will never be soft. The advantage is that no one can mix sand, and as we get stronger, they will gradually restrain their minds, so this can be regarded as a benchmark for knowing exactly how much we have become stronger, but it's a little more troublesome. Chen Shi looked sideways at Liu Bei and said, Zhuangdegang should consider whether to use this method. Lu Su asked with a smile at Liu Bei. Zhuangdegang can rest assured that even if he uses this method, he will not give the family the slightest room for a comeback according to Sichuan's caution. Liu Bei also nodded when he heard this. Chen Shi glanced at the 2 of them. When did they have such confidence in him? But he didn't wait for Liu Bei to open his mouth and continue to say, after all, if he used the above direction, it would really be too much debt and not worry, but it could be regarded as offending a family severely. Although I don't like the family that grasps the necessities of life, I think we can subdue them and then use them as our next family. As long as it is profitable, there are definitely not a few families who are willing to bow their heads. Chen Shi shrugged and said, I think it is necessary to ease the atmosphere between the 2 sides. Of course, I think it is necessary to clean up the Yingchuan family. The latest intelligence shows that Zun Yu has arrived under Cao Cao, and Cao Cao calls it my son. Coupled with the attitude of the Yingchuan family before, I think the arrogance of the Literati family will also create enemies equal to them, and I don't mind sharing the profits of the Yingchuan family with others, so that someone will help us deal with it. Cao Cao is really not ashamed to say anything. He actually dares to call a civil servant my son. How ignorant is this to do it? Zhong Fei sarcastically said loudly, how can the 400 years of the Wang Han dynasty be comparable to ordinary people? It can be seen that Zhong Liang has a lot of status in the eyes of Zhong Fei, the old Zhong family. Although I don't want to admit it, the fact is that if Zun Yu is really in the early Han dynasty, he is probably not weaker than Liu Hu. Chen Shi glanced at Zhong Fei, and then said seriously, Cao Mengde doesn't like to tout others. After listening to Chen Shi's words, Lu Su and Liu Bei met helplessly, Liu Hu, that was an insurmountable peak, and now there are talents comparable to Liu Hu, and they are not under their command, which is really troublesome. As for the credibility of Chen Shi's words, Liu Bei and Lu Su have always recognized. If Zun Wenruo puts it aside, I can fight this guy with Zijing. The trouble is the connections of the Zun family, or the connections of Zun Wenruo. The friends of geniuses can only be geniuses, so soon Cao Mengde will take off. Chen Shi casually put down the manuscript paper. So we need talents now, and we can't get the family, so we will make it clear that we need talents, and we will recruit talents from all over the world. Chen Shi smiled, pressed one hand on his cushion, stood up. Please issue a recruitment order for Xuandagong. Recruit talents from all over the world, regardless of background, only ask about the virtuous. Lu Su was frightened, and then reacted and quickly reached out and grabbed Chen Shi's sleeve, hoping that he could sit down. This matter was too shocking. Once this was done, it would really break the system of recommendation from the family, and those who violated universal morality would be abandoned by the world. Liu Bei smiled bitterly. He finally understood that Chen Shi was blocking him here. He was wondering if this order could be issued. Once he gave the order, he broke the recommendation system for 400 years, or 1,000 or 200 years. But without ordering to look at Chen Shi's resolute expression, Liu Bei knew that he would lose Chen Shi. Okay. I, Liu Xuande, will be the first person to recruit talents from all over the world. Looking at Chen Shi's face, Liu Bei finally made up his mind and said. Xuandagong was not the first to do this. The first to do this was Qin Xiaogong. The importance of Xiangyang's reform is self-evident, sweeping away the chaos of the world for 700 years. And the second King Yang Zhao to do this built a platform to recruit talents, recruited the wise men of the world, and was meritocracy, and then. Chen Shi turned his head and glanced at Lu Su, who was still pulling his sleeves. Ahem, Xuandagong should know that the state of Qi was strong back then, the state of Yang was weak, and once the state of Qi destroyed the state of Yang, and King Zhao of Yang wanted to change the form of the country. But the sages of the world went in and out of Jixia without nostalgia for the state of Yang. So the state of Yang has not been able to challenge the state of Qi, and later King Zhao of Yang had no choice but to build a platform to invite the wise men of the world. And Guo Kuei offered 1,000 gold to buy horse bones, and since then the people of the world have recognized the sincerity of the king of Yang. So Li Yi, Zhu Yang, and Zhu Xin all went to the state of Yang, and you all know what happened after that. Lu Su has allusions to these histories, and the names of the people are not wrong, and Chen Shi's words can also remember Li Yi and Zhu Yang. The others just know, and they are not right. Everyone knows that the state of Qi was directly destroyed by Li Yi. No matter how bullish the Jixia Academy was, it could not stop the wise men from attacking in the world, and the eastern great country Qi state was directly extinguished by Li Yi. Xuande, please remember, there are many talents in the world, and the Jixia Academy claims to have won all the talents in the world. But when the Golden Terrace worshipped Li Yi, it was easy for the 5 kingdoms to break Qi, and now the talents in the world seem to be encircled by the family. But I dare to say that as long as you give the order, there will naturally be enough talents to help you defeat the children of the family. Chen Shi bowed. Please give the order to Duke Xuande. Lu Su also stood up and bowed deeply to Liu Bei. Please give an order to Duke Xuande. After that, all the people present stood up and said in unison, please give the order. They all come from poor families and have no family backgrounds. At the end of September 191, General Liu Bei of Andong ordered that he would not ask about his origin, not the past, but only ask about talent and virtue, and recruit talents from all over the world in Mount Tai. Chapter 76, The World's Virtuous People. A thin young man who had just arrived in Jinan and was about to transfer to a carriage, covered in drunken alcohol, blindfolded, and coughed softly twice. Huazi, why don't you take your master to Beihai? What are you wandering around here? Master, come and take a look, sir. The little book boy dragged his master and pointed to the notice on the wall and shouted. The emaciated young man known as the master squinted at the recruitment order posted on the wall, and then touched his bare chin. Finally someone dares to do this. Go to Liu Bei's place to take a look. Just for this recruitment order, you master, I will also draw a foundation no less than King Yang Zhao. The young man's originally decadent figure was shaken, and after wearing the crown, the whole person exuded a kind of confidence that looked at the world. Wenruo, you can leave early. If you stay for another month, go with me to see how Liu Xuande is, and then go to Cao Cao. The young man's slightly pale face had a touch of blood, his eyes were bright, and he patted his book boy's head. Let's go, Yuan Shao, this bastard, made your master so unhappy. Go back to Liu Xuande, and help him clean up Yuan Shao first. After saying that, the young man glanced at the north from a distance and sneered. King Yang Zhao's foundation happens to be across Jizhou and Qingju, and it is natural to destroy you. Go, Huazi. Another glance can see that any prince who has laid the foundation in the north will inevitably collide with Yuan Shao in the end, and it is also when Yuan Shao is unstable and he himself is not established that he began to plan to shake Yuan Shao's foundation. Liu Yi looked at the recruitment order on the wall, turned around and walked straight back. Man Chong wrote that Zun Yu invited them to Cao Cao, and Man Chong also inspected Cao Cao, who was indeed the hero of the world, and just when Liu Yi was about to go to Cao Cao's place to take a look, he saw the recruitment order posted on his wall. When he walked back, a smile appeared on the corner of Liu Yi's mouth. The Liu family has not declined in the world. Why should he switch to others? He is a member of the Han clan who is rooted in Miaohong, mixing with others. That is good with his own family, and his own is full of courage, no territory, no prestige to be afraid of. 400 years ago, the old Liu family had nothing and conquered the world. And now at least the emperor's surname is Liu. This is the greatest prestige. Housekeeper, clean up the family wealth, sell the property, and go to Mount Tai. Liu Yi entered the door and said directly to the housekeeper, "Yes." Although he was shocked by Liu Yi's decision, he did not raise any objections. Liu Xuande, I am optimistic about your courage. My own ability is not afraid. There are many capable people in this world. Just for the name of our old Liu family, you can also mix up. The place of Taishan is not bad, but it is a little small. Those bastards in the clan mansion are pigs. Liu Yi began to write letters to Man Chong while holding the silk cloth, while scolding those guys in the clan mansion for having no eyesight. I saw 2 sentences written on Liu Yi's letter. My brother has a recruitment order. You know what this means. Hurry up and come back to Mount Tai with me. After writing, Liu Yi handed the silk cloth to the servant and asked him to deliver it to Man Chong's hands as quickly as possible. For Liu Yi, who stays at home all day long, Man Chong, who has a zombie face one day, is his most ironclad brother, although this person looks at people every time as if others owe him 1.8 million, but he just has a good relationship with this guy, and what he didn't say is a good relationship. 9 out of 10 people who have spoken to him admire his talent and are afraid of his majesty, and it is precisely because of this that he studies the law intensively. The more he studies, the more majestic he is. Only Liu Yi is not afraid of the zombie face of the full pet at all, but always sticks it on, so the full pet who has no friends finally has a friend. So for Liu Yi, as long as he gets a little benefit, he will not forget this guy. This is also why Man Chong secretly inspected Cao Cao for a month, and after confirming that Cao Cao was definitely the British lord, he quickly informed Liu Yi, and then he did not go to Cao Cao's place, but waited for Liu Yi to go with him at the inn. After waiting for 5 days, he didn't wait for Liu Yi, waited for a letter, looked at the servant who handed the letter to his servant with a fearful face, and pulled out a smile stiffly, which made Liu Yi's loyal servant tremble with fear. After reading Man Chong without saying a word, there were British lords on the left and right. On the one hand, there was a brother summoning, and on the other hand, Zun Yu. Hey, who is Zun Yu? Full of favorites turned around and left. No matter what Zun Yu did, anyway, Zun Yu and him were not familiar with him. Liu Yi was the only buddy. The county magistrate of Fufeng looked at the notice posted on the wall of his county office, casually took off his official robe and handed it to the county lieutenant beside him, stretching his waist. The young master is gone. I went to Mount Tai. I don't believe it. If you have the courage to issue a recruitment order, you will still be afraid of the family? After saying that, he turned around and left, and after working as an empty county magistrate for 3 months, Fa Zheng had already been angry, and the 16-year-old Fa Zheng was still in a young and vigorous state, ignoring the views of his superiors at all. Jiaofu, you say that you're master. Can I sneak to Mount Tai now? I can't stay in Chang'an. I see that Lu Biyu went to Wangyun all day long, and Dong Xianghua also went 2 days ago, and I guess that after 2 or 3 months, Lu Biyu and the maid you and I will be able to take that woman away, and this Chang'an can't stay. Jiaoshu looked at the servant holding the recruitment order in his hand and asked him. As before, Jiaofu still maintained an expression of silence and couldn't hear anything. King Yang Jiao built a platform to recruit talents. I don't know what Liu Xuande will build this time. Go and dig a tunnel for me quickly. The beauty plan is used to use all the next 3 indiscriminate means. Li Wenyu actually doesn't care. This guy is completely desperate, and he doesn't even have the will to live. Jiaoshu greeted Jiaofu to continue digging the tunnel. He had already thought about running away. Dongzhuo's life and death had a halfpenny relationship with him. If it weren't for Li Yu pulling him to join Dongzhuo's forces before, who would care about him? Anyway, when Dongzhuo was finished, he would become a masterless person again, and no one could say who he was. Is it a recruitment order? Li Yu silently put down the paperwork in his hand, and looked at Fang Liang with blank eyes. Wang Yun, do you really think I can't see what you are doing? To strip the Flying Bear army is nothing more than a Zen position. Forget it, let him go. Zhongying can't listen to it. After his death, destroy the belief of all those who planned him to stick to it for a lifetime, and then die under the sword. I don't want anything more. I really hope Zhongying is still there. An abnormal flush appeared on Li Yu's face. Huang Zhong held the battle knife, looked at the recruitment order on the wall and sighed. When was his son's illness ahead? In order to find a good family woman, the result was not only not good, but he fainted at the wedding banquet, and now he can't afford to get sick. Did the old Huang family break the inheritance? Thinking of this, Huang Zhong suddenly lost interest in seeing the recruitment order, worked hard all his life, learned martial arts well, and finally watched the flowing water of the Yangtze River to understand the knife technique, and was ready to go out of the mountain to let the people of the world see his knife skills, but his son was critically ill. Now that the descendants are almost gone, who will the Marquis worship for? Chapter 77. A secretary who can do anything. Sichuan heard that a military general came from outside to defeat Zijian in 10 moves. I plan to go to greet it. Do you want to go with me? Liu Bei heard the urgent report from his subordinates. He was overjoyed, stood up and prepared to meet the warrior, and happened to see Chen Shi, who was holding his head and reviewing the decree and drinking tea. So he planned to take Chen Shi with him. Anyway, Chen Zichuan's government affairs can always be completed. Don't worry about wasting time. Besides, in Liu Bei's opinion, Chen Shi doesn't seem to like sitting in the government affairs hall very much, and he is late and early every day. What? Chen Shi was almost choked by the tea. He had just taken Hua Xiong away to do errands before, and then asked Zhong Bie to recruit generals on the recruitment platform in Hua Xiong's name. But Hua Xiong left on the front foot, and a fierce general came on the back foot. Fierce general, Zijian was defeated in 10 moves. Liu Bei said loudly. Oh, I got Zijian away, and now it's Shen Jiao on the recruitment stage. Chen Shi said unnaturally. I see. I'm still wondering how someone can defeat Zijian in 10 moves. You must know that even if it is Zilong, it is impossible to compete with Zijian. By the way, Sichuan, what did you order Zijian to do? Liu Bei nodded, not surprised, but asked Chen Shi what he sent Hua Xiong to do. After settling the taxes before, I informed Xuan Dagong to pay tribute of 100,000 stones of grain and grass to His Majesty, and Zijian went to escort the grain and grass. After all, the road is restless now, and I can rest assured that Zijian will go. Chen Shi said calmly. He really told Liu Bei about this. Oh, I remember this. Yes, Mount Tai has a bumper harvest, and it is true that he should pay tribute to His Majesty, and Zijian is leading his elite infantry? Liu Bei thought for a moment and remembered what Chen Shi had told him before, and he agreed. But isn't it a waste to send Zijian to this kind of thing? Oh, the tribute grain is one part. The other part, I have 2 bastard friends there. I suspect my letter is not very useful. I plan to let Zijian tie them back when they ignore them. Chen Shi obviously gritted his teeth a little when he said this. Such a big resentment. Sichuan, are you really talking about a friend? Liu Bei asked curiously, and took Chen Shi out by the way. It's a friend. Chen Shi said indignantly, a friend who has been friends for a long time. It is estimated that the other party has also been friends with me for a long time. The other party did something sorry for you? Liu Bei was a little curious, and Chen Shi, who had always been cold, was actually a little unhappy now. They are too dangerous, Xuan Dagong should know. The so-called friends say that they are all raccoons. What do you think of me as a person? Chen Shi looked at Liu Bei with a look of hope on his side, and almost praised me tilde. Liu Bei laughed in his heart. He always felt that Chen Shi was sometimes like a child, sometimes but calm and mature, with a long-term vision. Generally speaking, he was indeed a generation of wizards, of course, except for the time when he was playing with his temper. At that time, according to Chen Shi's words of contempt for others, that is, the IQ was infinitely lowered. Liu Bei pondered for a long time and spoke. If Cao Cao compares Zun Wanruo to Liu Hu, then Yu Chen Zichuan is Xiao, he who has sent down from heaven to assist me, Liu Bei. Chen Shimai's steps paused, and he looked sideways at Liu Bei, only to see that Liu Bei did not have the slightest perfunctory appearance on his face, and he was completely solemn. Xuan Dagong, then how much movement do you think I will have if I want to sabotage? Chen Shi said with a wry smile. It's probably not an exaggeration to call it earth-shattering. Liu Bei smiled bitterly and said, you don't want to say that your friend thinks so. Well, their way of thinking is a bit abnormal, so I plan to arrest them back and re-educate them in depth, otherwise it will be very troublesome to continue to make trouble for them. Chen Shi said very solemnly, those 2 guys in Chang'an don't recycle, it's really fun. They? Liu Bei asked curiously. It's okay to listen. Well, it's them. If it's my good vision, then one of the 2 belongs to the type who's extremely good at inserting needles. As long as he is given a little chance, he can make a mess of the whole situation and make the situation unpredictably deflected. The other is much less dangerous, but it is better than the Almighty, and both the strategy and strategy are very good, so for our own consideration, I think we should catch them back. After all, in terms of ability, they are definitely no less than anyone in the world. Chen Shi said with a wry smile. So I ordered Zijian, no matter what those 2 guys said, just tie it up directly and send it in a sack. At that time, I can persuade it, and it will save if it becomes a splash of trouble when I run to other people's places. Chen Shi said viciously, if Li Yu and Jioshu ran away, Li Yu would pay it back, and they would go into seclusion. If Jioshu ran to Cao Cao, even if Jian Wei died, the difficulty of cleaning up Cao would increase in the future. For the sake of insurance, Chen Shi directly ordered Hua Xiong to bring those 2 guys back to him. Anyway, Dongzhuo will be lit up with sky lanterns in the spring of next year, although he is not sure when, but winter is here, spring is not far away, and Chen Shi's subordinates can know Jiushu and Liu is Hua Xiong. If others go, it will be funny to catch a fake one. Chen Shi's arrangement for Hua Xiong was to suppress bandits all the way and publicize all the way, stationed in winter, anyway, just arrive before spring comes. When he arrived in Chang'an, he hid after delivering the food, found out the residences of Liu and Jiushu, and waited for one day to hear the rumor that the Han Emperor Zhen was located in Dongzhuo, and the night before he asked the time to personally arrest the 2 of them, and then regardless of what Yunwu, what bandits, and what Qinwang, he directly stuffed these 2 people into the carriage, and served the beautiful women and wine and meat all the way. Naturally, Chen Shi did not forget to tell Hua Xiong to keep instilling in Liu along the way that his name is Li Yu, the word Wanru. Liu Bei only wants a step. Since ancient times, the founding emperor is very tolerant of capable people, and Liu Bei is still very open-minded. As long as Liu makes enough merits, even if it is exposed, there is that fig leaf, Liu Bei can be regarded as not seeing, and when the founding of the country is successful one day, he can still mix with the founding father. According to Liu's ability, as long as he is a little confused, whether it is political strategy, or power, justice, diplomacy, general trend, this goods can all be played, so this kind of top bar must be obtained. In case one day in which position is missing, you can let him work part-time first. Anyway, Liu seems to have nothing to do except fight. This is the most convenient civil official. It is estimated that Liu Bei will feel indispensable for a period of time. The best secretary candidate. And he is a secretary who can do everything except fight. Chapter 78 Dong Lai Tai Shi Ci. It is said that at the beginning, King Yang Zhao built a high platform, which was later mentioned in the poem written by Li Bai, serving the pen on the golden platform, passing on the cup of green jade case, and the original high platform became a golden platform, and since then there's been a saying that the golden platform of recruiting talents and the guests on the golden platform. Because there is such a thing, Liu Bei also needs to build something to recruit talents, which can be regarded as according to the ancient rites. Even if someone wants to find something, there is King Yang Zhao who has been dead for 500 years, and we just follow the ancient etiquette. At the beginning, Liu Bei planned to follow the policy of King Yang Zhao to build a platform of 5 zhong and 9 feet high. Of course, like King Zhao as luxurious as King Zhao, this platform was 20 acres in size. That was impossible. Liu Bei's plan was to pile up a mound of earth, a radius of about 200 meters. There was no way that he was the overlord of the spring and autumn period. He was just a general of Andong. There was no comparison. Of course, as soon as Liu Bei's proposal came out, before Lu Su and others seconded it, Chen Shi directly vetoed it. If a group of people agreed, it would be a bit against the general trend to veto it. Smart people should always put themselves in the majority. Of course, even if the number is in the minority, there is also the ability to suppress the majority, and now Chen Shi just hopes that Liu Bei will stand on his side. Let's build a library, Chen Shi said with a smile. Anyway, the number of engravings can be printed 300 to 500 copies a day, and King Yang Zhao had a case of drinking green jade, and we can make 1 book per person. Chen Shi's proposal was directly rejected. The previous proposal was very good, and the latter proposal Lu Su was the first to disagree. 1,000 words of 1,000 words book. Give it away, you are too generous. The proposal was rejected. Chen Shiluo thought about it and understood that something was wrong with him, different from his time. At this time, the 10,000 words book definitely belonged to the heirloom level thing, and the words distributed were indeed a bit excessive. Oh, then let's put the more than 10,000 books printed now in the library, and the people we selected can take the books back to read. Of course, the time ranges from 1 month to 3 months. How about it? Chen Shi changed his proposal. As for the library can be built against the north and south. Sitting north and facing south is the Art of War, and the other is other books. The Art of War library can be slightly smaller, and a small altar can be built between the 2 pavilions as a place for the selection of military generals. This sounds good. Lu Su nodded, agreeing with Chen Shi's idea, and then everyone else nodded. Liu Bei made a decision to build it like this, and in order to show his dignity, he built a library by building a city wall and a palace. That is to say, the wall thickness will be more than 2 meters, and it is a pure stone structure. As for other wooden structures, it is no different, that is, the ancient standard mortise and tenon structure. Of course, illegal buildings like this must be reported, but in this troubled era, Liu Bei, a relative, built such a building, and it was in the name of recruiting talents for the country. It can be said that the probability of Emperor Xian passing was as high as 90%. Having said so much, just to illustrate one thing, this thing has not yet been built, so the place to recruit talents is also a square. When Liu Bei and Chen Shi came over, they saw a white-faced man standing next to Zhong Ba with 2 short halberds on his back, carrying a longbow in his hand, a sword at his waist, 8 feet tall, with a dignified appearance, and holding a BMW. Lord. This is the righteous man of Qingju, Tai Shizi, who heard that the Lord recruited talents and did not ask about his origin, so he came to defect. Zhong Ba saw Liu Bei coming, clenched his fists and said loudly, Okay, I need a hero like Tai Shizi here. Dare to ask Zi if he is willing to give in. Liu Bei laughed and asked Tai Shizi. I have seen Xuan Dagong. Tai Shizi bowed. I rushed all the way from Qingju Donglai to Taishan County. Qingju withered, and Mount Tai was prosperous. I had avoided disaster in Yuzhou, and I had also seen the counties of Taishan displaced, but Xuan Dagong entered Taishan less than a year ago. Taishan has restored its original prosperity, and I have heard along the way, Xuan Dagong is really generous and benevolent. I am willing to follow Xuan Dagong, and I dare not disobey. Saying that, Tai Shizi knelt down on one knee. Liu Bei stretched out his hand to help Tai Shizi, only to see Tai Shizi's sincere eyes. Liu Bei knew that this person must be a loyal and righteous person. You can't be a big gift. Zi, hurry up and ask for it, and the revival of my Han dynasty will have another fierce general. Zi, this is the governor of Taishan County, my military division, Chen Zichuan. What you have seen along the way is Zichuan's strategy, and the revival of refugees in half a year is also from Zichuan's hands. Liu Bei smiled and introduced to Tai Shizi, and Chen Shi also bowed respectfully. Taishan Chen Zichuan has seen Tai Shizi. I don't dare to dare. I heard all the way that the governor of Taishan County is only double 10, but I don't want to be so young. Tai Shizi said with a slight emotion, I think that when I avoided disaster in Liaodong County, Yuzhou, I saw the great Confucian Hua Ziyu, Hua Xin, Bing Zhenju, Bing Yuan, Guan Yuan, Guan Ning, and Wang Yanfang, Wang Lai, to govern Liaodong, and within half a year, the originally dilapidated Liaodong was turned into a paradise on earth, and I didn't want to see similar figures in the Central Plains. I can't praise Zi like this. Chen Shi smiled bitterly. Those four people are absolutely incomparable. Wang Lai's morality is enough to make people ashamed. Hua Xin's eloquence is intimidating. Guan Ning's integrity is ashamed, and Bing Yuan's moral persistence is dwarfed. All in all, these four people are all benchmark types of people. Who dares to compare with them? It is simply death. Chen Shi naturally will not deliberately give heads, but Tai Shizi revealed a very important information. This one master is a dragon, and the current four hermits are still in Liaodong. As arranged by Chen Shi, as soon as Tai Shizi came, Liu Bei took Tai Shizi to wash the dust, set up a banquet to entertain him, and then arranged for him to go to Zhao Yun's subordinates to help train the Tunchen soldiers, as well as assist Zhao Yun in handling some agricultural and sericulture matters. After all, Tai Shizi can be regarded as a native of Qingju, and now Guan Yu and Zhong Fei have secretly encroached on the territory of Qingju, and Zhao Yun, under the banner of humanitarian aid, is now leading the Qingju refugees to reclaim wasteland in the area of Guangxin County, Qingju, and then preparing to sow winter wheat. Chen Shi has always felt that there needs to be a leading party or something for this kind of thing, and Tai Shizi is a local. Isn't this very familiar? And Tai Shizi's loyalty spread all over Qingju. Isn't this fame? Famous and familiar with the terrain and situation. Isn't this the most suitable leading party? First of all, he had more than 5,000 Tunchen soldiers and more than 1,000 infantrymen, and he also asked him to clear the yellow turban bandits near Qingju and rescue his fellow villagers. This is simply too much for Tai Shizi's appetite. Naturally, Tai Shizi patted his chest and promised that he would definitely subdue all the yellow turbans who dared to approach Taishan County, and ensure that the yellow turban bandits would become laborious. Chen Shi was very relieved to hand over the men and horses to him and let him lead the soldiers to support, but now standing in front of him, Chen Shi was not at ease at all. We never said that we would recruit child labor. Chapter 79 When the young Fajing meets an alcoholic. You say you are Fa Xiaji? Chen Shi pointed to the young man who was half a head shorter than himself and roared. The name of the young master has actually spread to the Central Plains. Fa Zhang, who was dressed in a beggar's uniform, almost turned his nostrils to the sky, and his face was arrogant. Isn't your family in Fufeng? Why did you run to Mount Tai? Your lord doesn't care. Chen Shi pulled a piece of Fajing's clothes. You didn't tell your family. Could it be sneaking away? Shouldn't you be a county magistrate in Fufeng? I'm all crowned. I'm already an adult. Fa Zheng roared, stepped back, and was directly dragged away by a piece of silk, and another piece of fabric that was originally not much. Sure enough, I didn't inform my parents. Chen Shi's eyelids jumped wildly. Do you know that your parents are not traveling far? What my father told me is that a man is determined to go in all directions, read thousands of books, and travel thousands of miles. Fa Zheng retorted. You have finished reading 10,000 books. Chen Shi said angrily. I haven't finished my journey. Fa Zheng took over the conversation and roared. Speaking of which, until now, Fei Zheng hadn't figured out who the guy in front of him who had been looking for him since he knew his name was Fei Zheng. But Fei Zheng, who was still in a rebellious period, directly included Chen Shi in a certain passerby who had seen him, God knows when he saw him. We accept talents here, not children. Children must have a power of attorney from their parents. Chen Shi really has no love for the children's version of Fei Zheng. Sneak out. Okay, your sister actually sneaked out. You at least say hello to your father. Okay, your father is a great Confucian. You're like this. When your father knows, how annoying will it be for us, do you know? Gan Luo 12 bows. I'm 16 years old. Why can't I be called virtuous? Fei Zheng said proudly. Chen Shi wants to scold people. This guy doesn't know how to be tactful at all now. The whole thing is a change cone. Such crazy words can be said. Just your words are not virtuous enough. Chen Shi endured the headache of reasoning with the child and scolded angrily. HMH, how can you spy on my talent? Fei Zheng shook his head arrogantly, saying that he could withstand the ancients. This confidence even Chen Shi felt terrifying. Who could tell him how this little broken child who was no different from the second-grade boy was refined into a mature Fei Zheng? Chen Shi pressed his eyebrows. Fei Zheng is a good strategist. But no matter how high the IQ of the 16-year-old Fei Zheng is, it will only make you want to die, and Liu Yang and Liu Zhong have been tossed for more than 20 years and nearly 30 years. So that this guy completely understands what it means to have talent and not meet it, and then he became Liu Bei's mastermind. Now, Chen Shi feels that getting this kid under Liu Bei is directly adding chaos. Chen Shi had several ways to deal with the law in his head. One was to find someone to tie him up and send him back, and then he would find it back after a few years when his personality improved, and now he was causing trouble for himself. Second, he gave this guy a heavy psychological blow here, so that he understood that there was a sky outside. Third, he was accepted for in-depth re-education. Fourth, he found a character with a worse personality than him, and his role was completely exploded in all aspects, and he was brought with him for training. The first veto, maybe the law is flying. The second one, shelving, maybe he Chen Zichuan will have to capsize in the gutter. The third idea is good, but how to educate? The fourth is the best. The question is where to find that kind of character. Under the change of mind, Chen Shi finally felt that he was still shirtless, leave a deep impression on Fei Zheng here, and then take him back for in-depth education. As for others, like his father looking for trouble or something, this is comparable to cultivating a mastermind. Besides, he still needs a town field in his newly built school, plus the role of scaring people, stuffing Fei Zheng into it, carrying out further study, and then pulling it out in 2 years. Scaring people is definitely first class. At least you can brag that Taishan Academy has cultivated the world's top strategists or something. Just when Chen Shi was about to *** Fei Zheng in what he was good at, a paw rested on Fei Zheng's shoulder. Little brat, don't block my brother's way. Brother still wants to help Liu Xuanda sweep the north. Chen Shi's eyelids jumped wildly. What day is it today? Another madman has come, and he is still a drunkard. His tone is still so loud. A juvenile version of Fei Zheng is enough for him to entangle. Which uncle is this? Chen Shi didn't speak. Anyway, Fei Zheng, who was in a fighting posture, would definitely not care who this guy was, absolutely sprayed. And besides, Chen Shi believed in Fei Zheng's combat effectiveness. Don't look at him as a little brat. But the combat effectiveness is absolutely amazing. If quantified, how can this guy be rated AA? I glanced at the drunken man, with the smell of alcohol, messy hair, green beard, scarlet eyes, confused eyes, wearing a crown, a wide Confucian robe exposing most of his chest, and no Confucian sword on his waist. Sure enough, Fei Zheng didn't care who this sloppy man was, and he actually dared to put it on himself with the smell of wine, although he was now dressed in a beggar's uniform. But in Fei Zheng's eyes, he was called a madman, and the one behind him was an alcoholic, and after the division, he sprayed it. The battle was resolved in a quarter of an hour, and Fei Zheng was defeated. I saw that Fei Zheng's whole person fell into darkness, and he was refuted by the other party, and Fei Zheng, who came from a great Confucian family, quoted the scriptures and was not the opponent of the other party, and did not hesitate to directly replace it with his own refined political strategy for the country. Although Fei Zheng came from a great Confucian family, Confucianism and Taoism had a systematic education, but Fei Zheng has always been proud of his self-taught strategy of war, and as a result, after playing his most proud tricks, he died faster. Originally, although he was at a disadvantage in spraying Farjing through Taoism, he could barely parry, but as a result, he was directly slapped to death by the other party, and even Farjing himself had nothing to say, but there was a feeling of sudden enlightenment. Well, combined with the feeling of spraying people before, it directly changed from shaking S to shaking M. After that, the drunkard patted Fei Zheng on the shoulder. In Fei Zheng's opinion, this was a sign of the other party's sympathy for himself. When did he Fei Xiaoji actually need the sympathy of others? Chen Shi covered his face. At least to a combat effectiveness Fei Zheng, even if he was weak in experience, he was directly refuted by others, and he was still in the art of war planning, saying that the ancients had this habit, spraying and spraying became a quote from the classics, and then it became a pure competition to learn, and as a result, Fa Zheng was stunned by the drunkard, and the whole person stood in place dumbfounded. Seeing the amazing performance of the drunkard, Chen Shi couldn't help but turn his attention to him, and when he looked closely, the original drunken posture also became pleasing to the eye, the wide cuffs, swinging with the wind, the confused eyes flashed with the light that only the wise man had, and the wide robe and sleeves worn casually were not exactly the elegant and free that the wind of the Wei and Jin dynasties wanted, and the smell of alcohol also represented the demeanor of transcendence and worldly vision of nothingness. A proper celebrity outfit tilde. Hey, is this talking about a person? Speaking of which, why did I see him as a drunk before? It is estimated that he was just fainted by Fa Zheng, and it was all the fault of the little broken child. Chen Shi did not hesitate to throw all the mistakes on Fa Zheng's head. Chapter 80. Enjoy it without getting tired. Oi. Dare to ask where the gentleman is from. Chen Shi smiled and bowed to the drunkard. There is no way that talented drunkards must be tolerant. Chen Zichuan? The drunkard thought for a moment and asked, I'm from the north. Chen Shi was shocked. He had never revealed his identity. How did this guy see it? And then turned his head to see what was going on, and a fat man with a waist of 10 circumferences was staring here with a knife not far away. After hearing the drunkard say that he was from the north, Chen Shi instantly realized, Guofeng Xiao? How do you know? The drunkard asked curiously, but he wasn't much surprised. Although Fa Xiaoji is young, it is not something that ordinary people can refute, and the person from the north, who is as old as Mr. and is full of alcohol, and is an uninhibited celebrity, I can think of Guofeng Xiao. Chen Shilang smiled and said, I don't want today. Xuandagong's recruitment desk has finally recruited a great sage. Taishan Xinjian didn't even miss any information. Chen Zichuan is worthy of being a wizard in the world, but I think that King Yang Jiao had a banquet in the Qingyu case. What kind of treatment can I, Guofeng Xiao, get? Guo Jiao said with a hippie smile. Speaking of which, Guo Jiao has been in Mount Tai for half a month, and he has also walked around Mount Tai, so he is very satisfied with Liu Bei, dares to delegate power, is meritocracy, and does not look at others in a worldly eye. And just today, when he was lying under the stands of a restaurant not far away to recruit talents, he saw Fa Zheng. This child made Guo Jiao feel a kind of similarity. He himself was the same intelligence, the same arrogance. But when Guo Jiao thought about it, when he was so old, it seemed that this child was a little worse than him. Well, he must have never seen the market. That is, he had never seen a guy smarter than him crushing him at the intellectual level. Beating children is a bad taste of Guo Jiao, and beating that kind of high IQ child makes him even more happy, thinking that he was constantly beaten like this by others at the beginning. And the person who beat him back then told him that only under constant beating, high IQ children can continue to grow. Guo Jiao hurriedly came down from the restaurant, because he had already seen that the guy who was 80% Chen Zichuan also had the idea of beating the child, saying that seeing the child so manic, he couldn't pass by and smoke it. Probably he wasn't used to it, and there were not many high-quality children like this. Sure enough, the manic children didn't need to provoke at all. They came up and started a war, the subset of oral history. Guo Jiao almost couldn't stand it. He was frightened into a cold sweat, and he couldn't be beaten instead, which was embarrassing. But fortunately, this child turned the topic to the general trend of the world and strategic planning. He is familiar with this, well, very proficient. The one who beat him back then is not sure to defeat him in this regard now. He didn't say anything. A set of combination punches down the other party was stunned. The beating directly became a hanging beating. There was no power to fight back, and his expression was still sudden. So Guo Jiao sighed and patted him on the shoulder, shook his head slightly, and walked over. Guo Jiao had an extremely sense of accomplishment when he walked over. He finally understood why that bastard had to do this every time. There were not many high-quality children, and this kind of guy was indomitable, and it was estimated that he would be able to get over the addiction again in 2 days. Beating the child to half-death, and then letting the other party get some inspiration from his own words. This kind of indomitable high IQ child will definitely grasp these revelations to study hard, and after being sure that he is sure, he will fight again, and then be beaten again, and then the cycle will go on. Guo Jiao thought that he was so stupid at the beginning. He began to be beaten since he was 14 years old, and the most ruthless thing was that he was beaten by that bastard for 5 years according to his IQ, and every time he was full of confidence, he came back in despair, and then went back and forth to die. Turning his head to look at the view, he estimated that he could beat this guy for a few years in the future. Poor boy. As far as Guo Jiao's estimate is concerned, Fa Zheng is not to be beaten by himself. That is, he can parry his own strategic plan. It is estimated that it will take 5 or 6 years. As for surpassing him, it depends on luck. King Yang Jiao recruits talents on the golden platform, and the case of transmitting wine and green jade is nothing at all. Chen Shi shook his head, and there was no need to be polite to a prodigal son like Guo Jiao. How arrogant, how comfortable, how to come. What is there? The Qingyu case is good, worth a lot of gold. Saying that, Guojiao touched his money bag, indicating that he was shy in his pocket now. Chen Shi felt the blood vessels on his forehead jumping. What about your literati style? Shouldn't you be ashamed to talk about money? Confucius is not ashamed. Sichuan is ashamed? Guojiao said with a righteous face. At this time Guojiao wanted to be an upright Confucian scholar very much. Oh, I think it's shameful for you to say this, not to talk about money. The foothold is you. As for what you want to see, wait, Xuan Dagong will come soon. After Fa Zheng was refuted, Chen Shi ordered Zhong Ba, who was stationed at the Jiaoxian terrace, to inform Liu Bei, and after thinking about waiting for a while, Liu Bei should arrive. Chen Shi and most people in this world don't think the same. In his opinion, the monarch doesn't need to deal with too many things every day. What the monarch does is to control the balance of his subordinates, put the right subordinates in the right position, and can gather all the power, and he can be used as a spiritual symbol of his rule. These ideas were carefully instilled in Liu Bei, but it seemed that Liu Bei did a good job, only doing what he was good at, sitting in the central government, distributing government affairs, as a spiritual symbol of the people under his rule. Every Liu Bei could be said to have achieved perfectly. This is the king Chen Shi needs, and as long as it can be maintained, as time goes by, the scope of governance will become larger and larger, and there will be no resistance to the summit in the end, and no one can stop the crowned king from the crowned king to the top of the emperor, because at that time it will no longer be the 100 officials, but the people. Because of this, Liu Bei did not deal with many things. More often than not, he just took Yu Jin to train the new army, and other times he arranged for every scholar and righteous man who came to Mount Tai. This is Chen Shi's special request. No matter whether the scholar or the general is strong or not, Liu Bei needs to deal with it personally. At most, some of the guys who have left a name in history will be banqueted by Liu Bei alone. As for the other Chen, she also specially told Liu Bei to give a banquet and send Fengyao City together after recruiting a group and arranging personnel, so that everyone can feel Liu Bei's sincerity. Liu Bei was very good at this kind of thing. Originally these poor scholars and powerful warriors who came to Mount Tai felt Liu Bei's courage, and after the banquet, everyone felt Liu Bei's benevolence and sincerity, and naturally they were even more grateful and willing to die. Naturally, Liu Bei clearly felt the power of the banquet and the power of personally sending it out of the city gate. If it was originally 80% loyal, then after Liu Bei did this for the Corporal Li Xian, these people were almost clear. Of course, Liu Bei also found that this trick seems to have the effect of buying bones with a lot of money, and every time after sending out a group of people, there are always people who are grateful, and then call friends to come to Liu Bei, so Liu Bei is even more happy to do so. Chapter 81 Fa Zheng's Ambition. Guojiao is the most powerful strategist that Taishan has recruited for so long, so when Chen Shi greeted Liu Bei over, he clearly told Liu Bei that he would fight as big as he wanted, and deliberately hinted that Fa Zheng, a child, was also very important, so that he could win over more. Liu Bei fully understood Chen Shi's meaning, and directly led all the civil officials and generals left behind to greet Guojiao together, and Chen Shi was shocked that even the carriage was pulled over, and the open-top carriage was topped with a tassel hijab, which was the highest specification. Liu Bei personally helped Guojiao into the carriage, then went up himself, and dragged Chen Shi up, leaving Fa Zheng to look at the two people sitting in the car with an envious face, and then Liu Bei stretched out his hand again. Xiaoji also come up, although you are young, but you are not weaker than your peers. Today I will take you into the city. You must remember, don't be laughed at by your peers in the future. Liu Bei smiled and stretched out his hand to Fa Zheng, who looked envious. Fa Zheng was stunned. There was still his place, Chen Zichuan's ability. He could feel it since he entered Mount Tai. Guo Fengxiao's wisdom was enough to make him in awe. The two of them took a car into the city. Fa Zheng felt that even if he was extremely envious, he had nothing to say. Looking at the encouraging look on Liu Bei's face, he stretched out his hand stupidly, asking Liu Bei to drag him up as well. Sitting in the carriage, Fa Zheng swore that the boss he had been waiting for all his life was Liu Bei, and it might not be suitable to sit in this car now, but he believed that he would be worthy of the treatment Liu Bei gave him today as soon as possible. I, Fa Xiaoji, will never be weaker than anyone. Fa Zheng secretly made up his mind, and then stared at Guojiao with fiery eyes. The first person to defeat was this guy. Only by surpassing this guy can I enjoy such treatment with a clear conscience. Guojiao glanced at Fa Zheng with firm eyes, and the moment his eyes intertwined, Guojiao understood that this kid had burned, and Ba Cheng was going to overturn himself, which had to be young and ignorant. Seeing Fa Zheng's eyes, Guojiao thought of the guy who beat him, and when he heard that he had run to Cao Cao, Guojiao was a little angry unconsciously, and he also wanted to beat the other party, and he was bullied by him at the beginning. Calm down, why does every time I think of that guy, an evil fire comes out of my heart? Guojiao began to think back to his miserable years again, and then turned his head and his eyes were fierce, intending to continue to beat the law. After bathing and changing clothes, wearing a moon-white Confucian shirt made of shoe brocade, tied a golden crown, tied a jade pendant, and took the sandalwood folding fan prepared by Chen Shi. Guo had the demeanor of an aristocratic young man, which was in strong contrast to the previous drunkenness, and exuded that kind of arrogance, which made the dressed maids blush slightly. Guo, who had changed his clothes under the leadership of the servant, came to the outside of the main hall, and on the opposite side was a pure white brocade robe, a heroic Fajing. Thinking about the previous beggar costume, I have to say that the saying that people rely on clothes is correct. Walking into the main hall, Liu Bei and everyone had already sat down separately, and there was a bronze cauldron in the middle of the hall to cook fat sheep. Chen Shi has nothing to say about this. He has improved this dish for a long time, and the taste is okay, but this is a copper cauldron cooked. Chen Shi told Liu Bei several times not to cook anything with a copper cauldron, but every time a wise man arrived, Liu Bei would pull out the copper cauldron to cook mutton. Eating too much copper seems to get some strange disease. Chen Shi is eating mutton while thinking about strange things in a daze, completely different from Fei Zheng's gratitude and Guo tongue smacking. It seems that cooking meat with a copper cauldron to treat guests in this period seems to be a very elegant and grand way of hospitality. After eating, add a handful of salt to the boiled mutton. Liu Bei took Guo and Fei Zheng to see the treatment for them, which was properly to shock Guo and Fei Zheng. Zichuan, where did the Lord take me to wait? Guo followed Liu Bei and asked Chen Shi in a low voice. Didn't you say that you are very envious of King Zhao's Qingyu case for wine? We don't have a Qingyu case, so we have prepared something else. Chen Shi said with a smile, while Fei Zheng listened with his ears up. Zhong Mingding is enough, and it's a bit too much to enjoy more. Guo Jiaxi said with a smile, but if it's a banquet, I don't mind. Fei Zheng licked his lips. He couldn't enjoy this kind of treatment at home. Wine and meat were just fine, but this noble treatment made Fei Zheng's young heart suffer a violent impact, and he couldn't help but think of a sentence that came to his mind. A man can't eat 5 tripods when he is alive, and he can cook 5 tripods when he dies. The princes and kings eat differently from others, and as long as he sits in the position of the 3 dukes, he can also play this set. Fei Zheng feels that he should work hard in this direction, and the great Confucian is weak and explosive. Liu Bei and Chen Shi didn't know how much impact this meal had on Fei Zheng. They had only heard about it in books before, but they hadn't seen it, and they didn't think about it. But now after really seeing it, Fei Zheng felt that this was the highest ambition in life. What kind of great Confucian? What kind of celebrity? What kind of celebrity is comparable to this? The same boiled mutton. The bronze cauldron is better than the clay pot. Many years later, Fei Zheng finally became a marquis, and finally qualified to cook mutton at home with a bronze cauldron, and then he melted a bunch of 5-baht coins to make a copper cauldron, cooked the mutton, fished it out and took a bite, and found that it was still the same unpalatable, and Liu Bei's family cooked mutton was not delicious because it was cooked with a bronze cauldron. For Fei Zheng's ambition to cook mutton in a bronze cauldron at home, Guo and Chen Shi did not notice, and even if they did, they didn't have the heart to care about it. After all, this is considered tall. No matter what, you have to mix to the level of marquises. How many people have not been made marquises in their lives? For example, the first generation of flying generals, Li Guang. As for the second generation of flying generals, Lu Biyu, people are immediately warm and waiting. Passing through several moon gates, Guo clearly felt that the protection was getting tighter and tighter, until outside an attic, Liu Bei finally held on. Zichuan, open the door, let Feng Xiao and Xiao go in and choose. Liu Bei turned around and said solemnly, Liu Bei also has the key here, but well, if you want to pretend to be red, you naturally can't bring the key tilde. This. Chen Shi was obviously a little hesitant, looked sideways at Fei Zheng, and then turned his head to look at Liu Bei, and now everyone present knew what it meant. Xiaoji will definitely not live up to today's move. Liu Bei glanced at Fei Zheng, and then said confidently, okay, since Xuan Degong promised, then let's do it. Chen Shi sighed, took out the key to open the lock in the attic, pushed open the door, and smelled the printed ink. There are about 10,000 books of 10,000 words in it, and there will be more in the future, and the gift for Feng Xiao is that you can choose one of them here, and you can come here at any time with that book to borrow the books you need in the future. Chen Shi sighed and said, well, the same is true for filial piety. Looking at the books on the shelves in this room, Guo understood that there was a huge difference between this kind of paper and Cihu paper, and as Chen Shi said before, this gift was indeed the most suitable for civil servants, far more suitable than the Qingyu case. Fei Zheng can no longer hear what Chen Shi said. He is now shocked by the book in this room. He has taken one from the bookshelf when he is young, in 10,000 words, it is true. With this thing, how many twists and turns Wang Yeping has had. Guo already understood the importance of these things, and the same handwriting had already made him guess what method this was used, and in terms of quantity, he had guessed that the cost of this thing would not be too much, and these were enough to clear up a lot of trouble. Chapter 81 Liu Yi and Man Chong. Oi! Liu Yi's arrival was very solemn. First he issued a letter of worship, and then asked the clan to testify, and then joined Liu Bei's forces, saying that in the future, he would not want to betray and lose people. So in history, Liu Yi slipped to Cao Cao completely because he could not see hope, and now that there is hope, this naturally dares to gamble. Chen Shi is also very familiar with this Liu Yi and Man Chong. The ability of these two guys is shrouded in the aura of Cao's 5 conspiracies, but their abilities cannot be ignored, and these two are extreme. Liu Yi is talking about people and talking to ghosts, and Man Chong is a cold-faced and cool official, and his personalities complement each other. Liu Bei was very excited about the addition of the Han clan, and after working for so long, there was finally an old Liu family member who admitted that he was willing to work with him, and this was also known as the talent of Zhuoshe Liu Xiang in Huainan. For the arrangement of these two people, under Chen Shi's hint, Manchu was assigned to deal with the law and rectify the officialdom. Anyway, this guy was a black-faced cool official all his life, and when he was following Cao Cao, he dared to arrest Cao Hong for crimes. As for the relatives of those aristocratic families, this one was even more merciless, and Yang Biao, the head of the old Yang family, committed crimes in the 5th generation and 3 dukes, and won them according to law, without saying a word. But in other words, although this guy says that law enforcement must be strict, he does not abuse lynching, how the standard law stipulates, how this guy does it. In fact, Chen Shi has always wanted to see how Liu Yi will deal with Man Chong's crime. Therefore, Chen Shi calmly said to Liu Bei that Man Chong was fair and honest, and suitable for engaging in law. As for Liu Yi being arranged by Chen Shi to handle government affairs with Lu Su is good at judging the current situation, and can rely on the current situation to infer the future situation, and when the situation is a mess, he can show the courage to break when it is broken. And Liu Yi is good at predicting the future situation, and this guy is good at planning. The most speechless, he can come up with a bunch of strategies that he can't choose between good and bad, and then he is dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. In short, Liu Yi is very magical. This guy is not short of clever plans, nor is he short of clever strategies, and his vision is also very good. It can be said that he has all the abilities that a top strategist must have, but he did not become the top strategist. The reason is that Liu Yi always plays himself to death, can think of a plan, but doesn't know which one to use, and then entangles in his own plan, and finally can only watch others perform. That is to say, this guy is not bad in intelligence, but his judgment ability is relatively scum. When Chen Shi left Liu Yi to Lu Su, he told Lu Su, "Don't look at Liu Yi being older than you. You will take care of him as a little brother. If Liu Yi starts to think about whether to walk with his left foot or his right foot that day, you will tell him to let him jump and walk." At first, Lu Su didn't understand what Chen Shi meant when he said this, but after working with Liu Yi for a few days, he understood that Liu Yi's IQ was enough, and his strategy was definitely above the level. But this guy was accustomed to thinking positively about problems and then thinking backwards, and then thinking from all angles, and then he himself would come up with a bunch of solutions because he was thinking too much, and finally stared at a bunch of solutions, stunned and couldn't choose what to do. There is no perfect method in this world, especially a bunch of methods are all piled up in front of you, each with its own advantages and disadvantages. To choose a suitable method from it is really not Liu Yi can do it. So at this time Lu Su appeared. This guy has good judgment, good vision, and he doesn't ask for the best, just choose a suitable one, and the problem will be solved in 30 seconds. It is precisely because of this that Liu Yi and Lu Su cooperated well, and the troublesome government affairs were thrown to Liu Yi, and then Liu Yi threw out a bunch of solutions. Lu Su selected the methods he needed at a glance, and then repeated, and then Chen Shi liberated. It is said that this is also the case with Liu Yi in Cao's camp in history, but at that time, Cao Cao himself could distinguish the strategy he needed, and Liu Bei was a little far away in this regard. Chen Shi, who had nothing to do, could only stay in the government hall to watch the performances of Lu Su and Liu Yi. Of course, Sun Qian, who was exchanged by Chen Shi from Zheng Kangong with a 10,000-word book, was also among them, saying that Sun Qian, who was originally recommended to Zhuzu by Zheng Kangong, was directly transferred to Liu Bei by a 10,000-word book, and both sides were happy. As for Fa Zheng, he was taken by Guizhou to teach Jiao, and Guizhou had already gone to inspect the situation in Qingzhou, and he planned a plan, which may be able to eat 1 million yellow turbans next year, plus a large piece of Qingzhou, so people went on a chic public-funded tour. Where is Benning? Chen Shi had already dealt with the winter government affairs plan and the spring plan for the coming year, and looked at a few people in the government affairs department, casually talking about a topic. Benning went to arrest someone. Liu Yi said without raising his head, "I heard that he has interrogated many corrupt officials recently, and he found some loopholes in the law and is preparing to compile a new law, but I don't know if it can be passed." Speaking of this, Liu Yi was a little sad. Even if he was a member of the Han clan, with his help, he did not dare to guarantee that His Majesty could pass the law compiled by Man Chong. After all, the change of the law touched too many interests. "Oh, compile the law, okay, let Benin compile it and carve it out with a stone stele, and we will try it out in Mount Tai.
Chen, she said indifferently.
Huh. Lu Su, Liu Yi, Sun Qian, and Jian Yong all looked up at Chen Shi, their faces shocked. It is a trial, not a practice, and the Prime Minister has the right to try any method that is conducive to governing the country under his rule. Chen Shi said casually, and the law stipulates that the Prime Minister is the same county governor, so. Lu Su, Liu Yi was directly dumbfounded. This is also possible. Thinking about the Han law, it is really stipulated like this. The Prime Minister really has the right to try any strategy that is conducive to governing the country under his rule, and the Prime Minister is the same county governor, and the two are connected together. Doesn't that mean that the county governor has the right to try any strategy that is conducive to governing the county under his rule? In this comparison, as long as Chen Shi approves, Man Chong can try to implement the laws he compiled in Mount Tai.
Can't you do this?
Sun Qian said a little unnaturally. Sun Qian, who has been studying the Confucian Heaven and Earth Lord's personal teacher, naturally felt that this was a bit of a loophole.
I'm just following the provisions of the country's laws.
Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and said, it's boring. You continue to deal with government affairs. I'll go see how the recruitment platform is going. So far most of the recruits are officials. When can you produce talents at the level of Zijing, or you can come out with a filial piety? Chen Shi also sighed and sneaked away. Anyway, he was tired of the government affairs department. The damn Han dynasty law is so stipulated. You're not allowed to leave until the time. Even if you are sick, you have to lie in it.
Chapter 82 The Girl at Home.
As for whether he will be caught by the full favor who may come back at any time for violating laws and disciplines, Chen Shi has already thought of a rhetoric. As a county magistrate, he must understand the situation under his rule at any time, in order to avoid being deceived, so he plans to investigate the people's sentiments. This reason is too justified. Skipping work and going home, Fan Jian read a book at home, known as a heirloom 10,000-word book of 1,000 gold. Fan Jian has read a lot, and according to Chen Shi, he doesn't ask for much understanding, just ask for a good idea in his heart.
Jenna, do you want to go out?
Chen Shi pushed the door in, only to see Fan Jian quickly stuffing something under the quilt.
Pain.
The complexity of hiding something. He may have inadvertently touched something, frowned and whispered.
Embroidery? Chen Shi asked curiously. Don't show it.
Fan Jian said unhappily. The child's temper was still there. The embroidery is not good. Stretch out your hand.
Chen Shi teased.
But then Chen Shi reacted. It is estimated that the traditional and simple should have been accidentally stabbed by the tip of the needle just now. Pull the left hand of the traditional slip over and take a look. There are no small dots on the white and slender fingers. I think they were all pricked by the tip of the needle when embroidering or making things before. Think about what seems to be missing from the traditional and simple hands. Let's go. I'll take you and Lana out to buy some rouge gouache or something. And I'm not afraid of growing hair when I stay at home all day. Chen Shi stretched out his hand and pulled up the traditional and simple directly. And as for the needles and threads, he casually threw them in the bamboo basket on the side.
Do you want to go out?
Fan Jian, who rarely goes out, has long been accustomed to everything at home, and she doesn't have much idea of going out. But if Chen Shi, as her husband, invites her to go out, she must not refute her husband's face in her consciousness, and after thinking about it, she nodded. Let me change into a dress.
Okay, hurry up, I'll inform Lana.
Chen Shi tilted his head and glanced at Fan Jian, and planned to leave. After that, Chen Shi went to the backyard to inform Chen Lan. Since she was expelled from the Chen family, Chen Shi has released Chen Lan's slavery, and now she is a free man, but she still lives in Chen Shi's house. Chen Shi did not say anything about this aspect, and Fan Jian did not care about one more or less Chen Lan. Because of this, Chen Lan is actually doing what she used to do here with Chen Shi. Of course, not dancing, singing, playing the piano or anything, but just taking care of Chen Shi as before. As for serving tea and pouring water, laundry, and cooking, Chen Lao's housekeeper has handed over to the newly bought servants, and Chen Shi generally does not need others to take care of him. So Chen Lan actually does things similar to complicated and simple, and there is no way that there were too many refugees who sold themselves into slavery in Taishan at that time. Sure enough, when Chen Shi pushed the door in, Chen Lan was lying lazily on the bed reading.
Ah!
Chen Lan was obviously stunned when she saw Chen Shi coming in, and then she turned over and sat up with an exclamation. What are you surprised about, really? Little lazy pig, get up. I'll take you and Jenna out to buy some rouge gouache. And finally built Feng Zhou. I haven't gone shopping well. I'll take you with me today. Let's talk about what you want to buy, and I'll also bring the money in advance. Chen Shi looked at Chen Lan, who had thrown all the books to the ground in a panic, and said helplessly. In other words, if those who love books see it, it is estimated that Chen Lan will be killed. But Chen Shi obviously has no intention of trouble with Chen Lan because of this trivial matter, and his thinking has not been reversed so far.
Master. Chen Lan knelt on the bed and whispered. What's the matter?
Chen Shi was too lazy to let Chen Lan change his name. He liked the name Master quite a bit, although Chen Lan is no longer his singer now, but occasionally if necessary, Chen Lan will also dance for Chen Shi, fan dance in circles. It is also quite interesting to watch under the confused light. As for Fan Jian, Chen Shi has only seen Fan Jian once when he was drunk. It is very amazing. But Fan Jian resolutely does not allow Chen Shi to mention that matter. Every time Chen Shi opens her mouth, she will turn red along with her neck. If Madam goes, I shouldn't go. Chen Lan said in a low voice, lowering her head and pinching the corner of the quilt with her hands. It was obvious that she wanted to go. Don't worry, Jenna is more dull and has no consciousness. As long as you don't bully her, she can handle it very well. Chen Shi said indifferently. After getting along with Fan Jian for more than 4 months, Chen Shi could also figure out the girl's personality. Chen Shi firmly believes in a saying that staying in the depths is natural, and staying for a long time is naturally cute, and now the traditional and simple is obviously in his own boudoir for too long, a little dull. But this is good. Chen Shi is not worried that Fan Jian will deliberately find trouble with Chen Lan. After all, compared with Fan Jian, Chen Lan is the girl who is really going through hardships with Chen Shi. In this case, shouldn't everyone promise something with their bodies? Chen Lan thought for a moment and nodded in agreement, and then invited Chen Shi out of her boudoir to change her clothes. It's too slow. Chen Shi sat in front of the stone table outside. Changing clothes was such a waste of time. Chen Shi remembered that he seemed to have always been a set on his body. Speaking of who handled his change of clothes, what Chen Shi could remember was that there was a new change of clothes placed next to the bed every morning. Well, it was necessary to get up early tomorrow to see who prepared the clothes for him. Just when Chen Shi was a little bored waiting, Fan Jian took Chen Lan across the moon gate one after another. Dressed in a plain white blouse, with a woman's hair ornament on her head and a gold hairpin inserted, a layer of shame floating on her fair face. Chen Shi stared at Fan Jian's lips, saying that he didn't remember selling lipstick. What is the husband staring at the concubine? But I'm a little tired of waiting. Fan Jian looked at Chen Shi curiously and asked. It's just strange. Let's go, I'll take you shopping. How can you say that your husband finally built Fengao, and he hasn't been in Fengao City until now? Chen Shi shook his head and said, you still have to maintain a little demeanor in front of outsiders, and ask when you rest at night. Fan Jian stretched out his hand to hold Chen Shi's arm, and then leaned up, slightly behind half a position to follow Chen Shi, while Chen Lan followed behind Chen Shi, looking at Fan Jian with a little envy. In fact, she could also do the same action, and she also knew that Chen Shi would not refuse at all, and she would be secretly happy, but now Chen Lan was a little embarrassed. Walking on the road, Chen Shi felt the soft body beside him, and his heart couldn't help but be a little restless, saying that Fan Jian was quite beautiful after all, and he was his fiancé. Plus there was a hint of Fan Liang. If it weren't for the feeling that Fan Jian was too small, Chen Shi would have turned into a wolf long ago. In the first few days, Chen Shi still slept in the same bed with Fan Jian, but later found that this was completely an ordeal. Fan Jian leaned on Chen Shi completely unconsciously, and Chen Shi couldn't start, so he could only sleep in separate beds later, and when he proposed to divide the bed, Chen Shi always felt that Fan Jian's eyes were a little strange at that time. Walking on the street, Chen Shi couldn't help but be a little proud. The blue stone pavement, the rows of shops lined up on both sides of the road, which was completely different from the dilapidation a few months ago, and the dirty sewage street at that time was also cleaned by Chen Shi's mandatory regulations. At least now absolutely no one relieves itself on the street, and the cattle are on the street, whoever gets dirty and deals with it. Chen Shi knew very well that there was no good disease prevention and control in this era, and it could be a little cleaner to be safer. Once the plague broke out, Mount Tai, which was finally recovering now, would collapse in an instant, and even the entire city would become a dead zone if it was too much. Chen Shi first took 2 steps in one direction, then stepped back, turned his head to Fan Jian and asked, do you know where the shop of Rouge Gouache is? Chen Shi is obviously a little unnatural. He also belongs to the type of squatting at home, but the difference is that others stay at home, he stays in the government office. I don't know. Didn't my husband order this city to be built? Doesn't my husband himself know? Fan Jian shook his head, and then asked like a curious baby. Probably Lana should know. I haven't left the house since I came to Mount Tai. The eyes of Chen Shi and Fan Jian made Chen Lan a little unbearable, and muttered in a low voice, I haven't come out either. Well, the 3 guys who had never gone out stood at their door and looked at the street, sighed in unison, and then Chen Shi laughed. Forget it, this can be regarded as knowing what this city lacks, and when I go back, I'll ask someone to make a road sign notice. And by the way, I can make some money, so let's go and ask for directions. Chen Shi said helplessly. He didn't expect that none of the 3 of them recognized the way. They were all squatting at home. As for Chen Lan, who was originally a singer who was raised at home, naturally she would not go out, and when a person stayed at home for a long time, he had no intention of going out. As the head of the family, Chen Shi naturally couldn't leave this kind of thing to ask for directions to 2 weak women who didn't communicate with outsiders. while asking for directions, he turned around, and originally just came to skip work under the slogan of inspecting the people's feelings. But Chen Shi also noticed a lot of problems when he strolled around. Chen Shi smiled and brought the bracelet to Fan Jian. For a girl like Fan Jian and Chen Lan who lacks nothing, it doesn't matter whether she buys things or not, the important thing is to find what she likes. But if this kind of thing is not hungry, Chen Shi has time to toss, but when his stomach begins to protest, Chen Shi will not hesitate. Anyway, after the tax came up, Liu Bei was not poor, and after making up for everyone's salary, he gave a big reward. Naturally now Chen Shi is not short of money at all. As long as Fan Jian and Chen Lan keep their eyes on a certain ornament or powder for more than 5 seconds, Chen Shi directly paid for it, and did not give time to continue to choose, just swept the goods all the way, and a street that could have taken a long time soon came to an end.
Well, both sides were satisfied. Chapter 83 The Visitor is not good.
Solve the problem of eating first, find a restaurant not too far from the city gate, and Chen Shi walked in with Fan Jian and Chen Lan. As soon as he entered, Xiao ran away screaming, and he couldn't hold it, and suddenly Chen Shi looked at Fan Jian helplessly. He was so terrifying. I saw Fan Jian couldn't help but smile. The corners of his mouth were slightly drawn up, and Chen Lan had already heard a giggle on the other side, and then saw Chen Shi's expression covering his mouth, and his body trembling slightly. Soon the shopkeeper of the restaurant ran out, and his rich body, or fat body, swayed left and right with the run, ran to Chen Shi, took a deep breath, suppressed his breath and said respectfully, "Mr. Chen, please.
Is there a separate room?" Chen Shi looked left and right and asked.
Yes, dog. Take young Master Chen up to the second floor. Glanced at the 2 women behind Chen Shi, and nodded in an instant. Sitting in the room by the window on the second floor, Chen Shi thought this time that it seemed that the entire restaurant in Fenggao seemed to belong to the Mi family, and after Mi Zizhong came to Fenggao, he didn't do any other business, so he started some restaurants, and then went to Qingju to buy refined salt, and then came back, and didn't rest for half a day, so he went to Jiangdong to talk about the Lu family. And no one came to inform him of the situation of the Lu family now. Soon 4 dishes were served, 2 cold, 2 hot, and the staple food was steamed buns, saying that now steamed buns have defeated corn rice to become a new food, and it is also powerful to compete with white rice, and I heard that now this kind of food has begun to spread to the entire Central Plains. For this Chen Shi is not easy to control. One is that the method is simple, and the other is that eating this thing is more economical than dead noodles, and it is easier to digest, and the same weight of dead noodles is hungry faster. Spread it. Chen Shi can't say anything. He still wants to get some vegetable oil or something, but unfortunately the time is not right, so he hopes to get some soybeans to make soybean oil. As for how to remove the smell of beans, this is not within the scope of his knowledge. As for the soybean dregs pressed with oil, Chen Shi has already thought of making bean dregs cakes, which is definitely a pollution-free natural product, and there is no need to put oil. Anyway, Chen Shi felt that this was much better than the one made by later generations of black-hearted businessmen, and the ghost knew what those people had added to it. At least he was a green product that was generally pollution-free except for less oil. The taste of the food during the 3 Kingdoms period is indeed average. There are basically no condiments, and there are not many ingredients, but the good thing is that it is absolutely safe. No matter what dish he dips in some soy sauce, vinegar, and salt, Chen Shi can swallow it. In other words, he really wants to eat beef, but it is a pity that there is no cow that has fallen to death recently. The eldest lady who doesn't eat or sleep is used to making the entire dinner table extremely silent, and there is no way to sit there as soon as the aura of the eldest lady of the 1,000-year-old family unfolds directly. Chen Lan only has to eat obediently, and Chen Shi can speak, but what to say? No one will reply, so it's better not to say it. Alas, Chen Shi looked out the window boredly. He was a little entangled now. Is it really a good thing to raise such a wife? This aura is really too sufficient. It's okay to raise a sister. If he is raised as a wife, this habit of silence when eating makes him a little overwhelmed. Chen Shi leaned against the window, tilted his head back, and looked sideways at the city gate, but he didn't notice the smile on the corner of Fan Jian's mouth. Hey! Chen Shi looked at the huge caravan below, and a big Lu flagpole was inserted on the leading convoy, and after a little thought, he understood that this should be a businessman from the Lu family in Jiangdong. Typing the word landing, it should be the Lu family's direct relative, and now it can be called the Lu family's direct relative, and the only one who can come here is probably Lu Junchen. She looked at the caravan below and thought, Jenna, you two will ask the shopkeeper to send you back after eating. I will go down and take a look. I seem to have seen something interesting. Chen, she said with a smile on his face. Well, my husband has something to deal with. Lana and I can go back by ourselves. Fan Jian said without raising his head. I'll leave first. Chen, she got up and left. Standing at the door of the restaurant, Chen Shi frowned and thought about the Lu family's approach. He didn't believe that Mi Zhu did not inform the Lu family to be cautious and not to get involved in the relationship with Mount Tai, and now the Lu family is still swaggering, which is unreasonable. At this moment, the guards of the caravan also appeared, all of whom were strong men wearing a single suit to reveal slightly dark skin, all carrying steel knives on their waists. There were more than 100 people, and finally walked in a carriage, pulling a man in brocade clothes, with a big knife behind his back, the width of 2 hands, and the length of more than 5 feet, and a ring of chains wrapped around his body, clinking with the carriage. This Liu family is really not simple. Just these guards and the head of the guard driving the carriage are not simple roles. They can actually train the guards out of the atmosphere of the army, or directly say that these people are all veterans, looking really spent a lot of money. Chen Shi stared at those guards curiously. As for the cart of salt, there was no shortage of Mount Tai.
Salt?
Chen Shi suddenly realized that something was wrong. Even if the Liu family was a fool, they should not transport salt to Mount Tai. How could it be possible to send the goods produced by the shipper as a freighter? And suddenly his mind changed, and a touch of solemnity appeared on his face.
Dog, come over to me.
Chen Shi smiled and shouted to the dog helping in the restaurant. It was really too troublesome to come out without a guard.
Young Master Chen. The dog bowed.
Get me pen and ink, and if you have paper, bring me a piece of paper. Chen Shi said with a smile, not the slightest panic. Soon the dog took the pen and ink, but there was no paper, only a blank scroll of letters. Chen Shi quickly spread out the book, then wrote down what he saw, and then wrote down how to deal with it, and then took out his jade pendant and handed it to the dog. Guzi, run to the Government Affairs Hall and hand the letter to Zijing. That is, the county magistrate. It was too clever for me to take the entire row of houses on Center Street as state-owned, and now I don't use it. Chen Shi said something that the dog couldn't understand at all. Seeing the dog leaving, Chen Shi looked at the Liu family caravan that was still slowly marching. It was really good that the good ones did not come. The people who came were not good. Taishan had just recovered and someone made an idea. It was necessary to use some thunderous means. I really thought that after Taishan sent his soldiers to develop Qingju, he was in a state of internal emptiness. No matter which group of people it was this time, Chen Shi didn't plan to understand, just kill them all. As for what role the Liu family plays in it, it depends on the Liu family's rhetoric later. It may be difficult to develop Qingju, but it is really not too troublesome to sweep Yangju. Chen Shi was happy to let Liu Bei, a Han clan member, help his brother Liu Yao, the governor of Yangju, a Clearstream celebrity who had no ambitions and sat in Yangju, was far easier to deal with than Sun Ce. Chapter 84. This job is really not easy to do. Lu Su and the others were drinking tea in the Government Affairs Hall, chatting leisurely about messy things, which were all living habits brought out by Chen Shi. Xiang, what do you think Benying would do if he encountered Sichuan who was wandering? I am very optimistic about Sichuan's arrest. Lu Su said with a smile on his face. I will definitely be arrested, but I can't bring it back. I believe Sichuan thought of the reason after going out, and it was justified enough. Liu Yi seemed to think of that situation. A smile appeared on his face, and then he thought of Chen Shi's precautionary character, and said with a guess. I think so. Jian Yong took a sip of tea and said, Benying may be merciless and detain after seeing it, but Sichuan probably persuaded Benying before he brought it back. Sun Qian saw that several people were looking at him, so he raised his head and nodded to show that he agreed with this statement. I heard that Sichuan has made plans before next summer's harvest. Who have seen it? Well, this is true, although Sichuan drinks tea and eats snacks every day, but his government affairs are always the first to be handled. Jian Yong said with obvious envy, I didn't know about this when I first came, and at that time we distributed government affairs, and the amount we each allocated was about 3 months to deal with, but Sichuan only took 5 days, and then he watched Zilong and I deal with government affairs, and we were drinking tea and eating snacks. When he said this, Jian Yong's face appeared with an unbearable pain of looking back, and it would be uncomfortable if everyone was dealing with government affairs, but when everyone was dealing with government affairs, when one person had already finished handling and sat leisurely next to you drinking tea and eating snacks, he would really have an urge to strangle the other party. Hey, I also found out later that Sichuan never needs to think about it after getting the government affairs, as if all the troubles don't exist, just write a plan and hand it over to others. We can't compare with him. Lu Su sighed and said, but the advantage of having Sichuan is that our government office does not lack tea and snacks, and we don't want to be so rigid in other places. Well, this is a fact. When I was in Luoyang before, the old man of the Zhongren mansion asked me to be a long historian in the palace for a period of time, and as a result, alas. Liu Yi sighed and said, quite depressed. I know that kind of place too. There's no way. Lu Su comforted Liu Yi with the appearance of a good old man. What else could he do? That kind of place is all guys who have sharpened their heads and drilled up, and the things that pull each other's back legs are taken for granted. There is no way that troubled times are coming, and the country is born with demons, which is nothing more than this. The 4 of them all seemed to think of the city of Luoyang that had been burned down, as well as the 10 eunuchs who had died without a place to be buried, and Dong Zhuo, who was still in trouble in the Han dynasty, sighed long. His face was gloomy, and there was no interest in talking and drinking tea, and the entire government office returned to silence. Report. Just when several people were silent, a guard walked in holding a roll of bamboo slips and a jade pendant. Sichuan has something to inform us? He even handed over his jade pendant. Lu Su said curiously, stretched out his hand to take the bamboo slip, then spread it out, and browsed it roughly, and suddenly his face was cloudy and sunny. Sichuan really thinks far, and he has already estimated it. Sighing, you can also take a look. Liu Yi quickly browsed through it, and there was also a touch of gloom on his face. His conjecture was not much different from Chen Shi. No matter how you look at it, this is not a good thing, but what he thought was different from Chen Shi's thoughts. He did not agree to kill all the people who came. There is such a good opportunity, plus such a good arrangement. It is simply a waste not to capture them all alive. Besides, what else are you worried about now? Sichuan is too cautious. The main street through which the 4 city gates are lined with wall-scale buildings, and all of them are not sold to the outside world, which itself is equivalent to a weakened version of the Earned City, plus restaurants, inns, shops, and other shapes. No one will pay attention at all, as long as the front and back are blocked. Even if there are top generals in the middle, they can be won. Liu Yi was amazed by Chen Shi's arrangement, and he was a little helpless about Chen Shi's caution. Sichuan doesn't want to delve into this matter. His plan is in the construction period of troops and grain in the current 2 years, and it is not cost-effective to start a war at this time. Lu Su shook his head and explained. I know, I don't intend to start a war. According to the ability of a few of us, even if we kill them all, we can guess who did it. This is a warning to the other party, and it means that we don't want to delve into this matter. Liu Yi nodded and said, the problem is that we will capture them all alive. As long as they can't spread any news, what we say to the outside world is what? Okay, I'll go rain some and take all the people in the city back, so that no one knows. Lu Su thought for a moment and also agreed with Liu Yi's idea. As for what Chen Shi said about killing all for safety. Sun Qian and Jian Yong also looked at the bamboo slips. I write the transfer order, Gong Yu stamps. Sichuan doesn't take the seal away. It's really a good habit to stay in the government office. Otherwise, if you let Sichuan run back by himself, it may be really late. Chen Shi felt the cold rain on his body and couldn't help but sneeze. The rain came really fast, and it was dense enough. All the pedestrians on the road who took pictures ran around with their heads in their hands, and quickly ran to their homes, and all the people who were originally shopping disappeared in just 1 minute. This is really messy enough, and I am not afraid of being discovered, but the action is indeed secret, almost imperceptible. I don't know who used the means. In other words, why didn't I expect to be able to do this? It is simply a unique skill in clearing the field, and I am not afraid of accidental injury in an instant. Wipe it. It actually fogged up slowly, and it was so harmonious. Chen Shi hid under the eaves and thought with a surprised face. Zijing's hand is good. Liu Yi looked at Lu Su's movements, and the sudden rain outside sighed very much. It's about to rain. Just work harder. Lu Su smiled and said that it wasn't all his credit, so he wouldn't tell others that he had blessings for water vapor and fog, and soon those people would feel cold. Ha ha, if you say that, the rain will keep falling. Liu Yi asked curiously, this way, there will be fewer people peeking. I pulled a cloud over. Maybe there will be lightning and thunder. A smile clearly appeared on Lu Su's face. As he spoke, the sky flashed suddenly, followed by a rumbling thunder. Is this really what you did? After handing over the transfer order to Shu Chu, the two of them were sure in their hearts and started chatting again, but the thunder really startled Liu Yi. Thunder and lightning. Lu Su was also startled. This kind of thing was obviously not within his expectations. He just dragged a cloud over, and then rubbed it twice, and didn't do anything else. As for the lightning and thunder, it was obviously not his fault. Well, this looks much more harmonious, saying that I caught several clouds, and there was actually a discharge on these 2 pieces, which is really tiring. Chen Shi touched the rain on his head and said helplessly, this job is really not easy to do. Chapter 85. It's not the ability. It's the father's problem. Chen Shi trembled slightly twice, and then found that he seemed to have become a little stiffer, looked up at the storm, and suddenly thought of a saying, everyone is different, so the spiritual power born from the soul also has different effects. Chen Shi didn't know which aspect of his spiritual power was blessed, but according to his feeling, the spiritual power of the person who was raining should be blessed by water mist. It seems to be the same rain, but with such a little more blessing, the slight chill is enough to slow down the unprepared side at the moment of the attack, and this shot may decide the outcome. Lu Su also stood at the door of the government office and stretched out his hand to follow the rain. A trace of coolness penetrated his skin. In addition to wisdom, this is what he is most proud of, just such a little difference, but it is enough to break the balance inadvertently. Soon Liu Bei came with Shu Chu and Yu Jin, and he was a little chilled by what Lu Su told him, and someone began to make up his mind when Mount Tai was first built. Is this a troubled world? The people have a shelter, and someone wants to break this peace so quickly. Thinking of this, Liu Bei's face is obviously angry. Zijing, are you sure you can capture everyone alive? Liu Bei suppressed the anger in his heart and asked. I have discussed this with Xiang, the building specially built by Sichuan when building Fengao was prepared for this moment. We have no problem taking down the other party, but Sichuan suggested that Zhongkang take action and win with one blow. Lu Su explained the current form in detail. When Zi lead the soldiers to control the left and right storefronts, enter through the back door, all the bows and crossbows are ready, and at the first time Zhongkang attacks the bandit leader, all the bows and crossbows are ready, and if you dare to resist, you will be killed without mercy. A cold light flashed in Liu Bei's eyes. At the beginning, I laughed at Sichuan's trouble, and I didn't want to use it so quickly. Strong man, now that we have arrived in Fengao City, can you let me wait? As for these refined salts, my Lu family can send them all to the strong man as a ransom. Lu Jun smiled bitterly and said, what is this? Pulled a boatload of salt from Izhu and was about to sell it, but it was robbed in the Yangtze River, and now even personal safety is restricted. Redemption? The strong man sitting outside the carriage sharpened his nails with a big knife, raised his head and glanced at Lu Jun. I remember that this itself is a tribute to Duke Xuanda. The strong man said unceremoniously. Yes, it is a tribute to Duke Xuanda, and if necessary, you can come to pull another boat in the future. I will guarantee the Lu family's century-old reputation. As long as you come to the Lu family with this jade pendant, the Lu family will definitely hand over a boatload of refined salt to you. Lu Jun said with a wry smile. He is not good at telling the guy in front of him that these salts are Liu Bei's private property, and people are not short of this kind of words. After all, the reputation of the Lu family is still wanted. Gan Ning used a machete to cut his nails. He was also a little helpless. Originally, he got the news that Liu Bei issued a recruitment order to announce to the world, recruiting the world's wise men regardless of origin, only in terms of talent. Gan Ning had the intention of defecting at that time. Later, Gan Ning thought that he was born as a water thief, and secondly, he was still a typical example of abandoning his official position as a thief, and if he went this way, it seemed that other people's senses would definitely not be too good, so he asked people to inquire, and it turned out that Liu Bei didn't care about this kind of thing at all, as long as he had the ability. In an instant, Gan Ning was full of confidence. He has the ability. Immediately, Gan Ning took the little ones to defect to Liu Bei, and when he went down the river, he met the Lu merchant ship, and when he heard a boat of salt, Gan Ning robbed without saying a word. In fact, what Gan Ning didn't know was that others didn't accept him in other places not because he was not capable enough, or because he was born as a water thief. It was entirely because he was still the county magistrate of Shu County. Gan Ning's father was too capable. Even if his son Gan Ning was an official to become a water thief, he could make the rest of Shu County turn a blind eye and keep his official position, of course. There was also a relationship with Liu Yang in this. Just because of such an official position, Gan Ning is now going to other states. Others will not dare to accept it as soon as they check. This kind of person you always have to be taboo when you accept Liu Yang. After all, people are named Shu County Cheng. Liu Yang cannot mind Gan Ning skipping work. He doesn't mind his subordinates being thieves, but if anyone turns his subordinates into his own subordinates, it will become a slap in the face. This is also why there are many people in history who know Gan Ning's ability, but there are basically no people who dare to use it, and they can't afford to provoke it. Liu Yang is not a fool. Leaving you in official position is to let you come back, and your Gan family is still a big family in Ba County. You ran around when you were young, and then you always had to return to your roots, and in the end you are still my Liu Yang's general. As a result, Liu Yang died. Gan Ning saw Liu Zhong's weak and cowardly appearance, and directly extinguished the idea of returning to his hometown. His father also died. He is now the head of the family, and with a stroke, the Gan family moved away directly. Liu Yang is still alive now. The situation is naturally different, although Gan Ning is a water thief, but the water thief is properly equipped with regular military equipment, and no one dares to catch him from the upper reaches of the Yangtze River to the lower reaches of the Yangtze River, and most of them rely on the official when supplying. Liu Biao, the governor of Jingju, and Liu Yao, the governor of Yangzhou, both knew that Gan Ning, the 8 Calves, was Liu Yang's predetermined naval general, so he turned a blind eye. Anyway, this guy was just doing something to rob the rich and help the poor, without killing. Let him go, give him supplies when he docked, and the 100,000 naval troops were raised, and there was still a little bit left, so he should sell some face to Liu Yang. This is why Zhu Tai and Jiang Qin are not weaker than Gan Ning in terms of their own strength or the power of their subordinates. But Gan Ning is the most arrogant in the Yangtze River, and he hangs a bell for fear that others will not know where he is. Other water thieves hid in the reeds without saying a word when they encountered Sai Mao's Jingju navy, so Gan Ning did not hide, and dared to meet them. The bold water thieves were not nothing, but those who dared to do this and were not shot into a sieve were Gan Ning, because Gan Ning was an official, and he was also the county magistrate of Shu County. Officials of this level, how to say, except for Liu Yang himself, unless the central government issues an order, no one wants to move, regardless of whether they are illegal or not, No one can move before the order from above comes down. Liu Biao arrests even if he oversteps his authority, which is worse than the impact caused by Gan Ning's violation. So when he turns a blind eye from above, what Sai Mao can do is not see Gan Ning. That is to say, as a regular army, he has to hide from the other party. Gan Ning naturally didn't understand these things. He always felt that he was very good, walking sideways on the Yangtze River. No one dared to mess with him. He could do whatever he wanted, and he didn't know that he was actually too hard in the background. The reason why he came out of Shu was because in that place others would say how the Gan family was, and would not say how he was Gan Ning, and Gan Ning felt that he was very good, and naturally he was very disgusted with this kind of words. So he would rather run to be a water thief than continue to stay in Sichuan and Shu. He wanted to use his own hands to hit a piece of the sky. Holding this idea, Gan Ning became a water thief. And then he walked sideways on the Yangtze River proudly. No one dared to mess with him. But that's it. He can only be a water thief who walks sideways on the Yangtze River. As for what he has always thought of is that a wise and powerful lord fell from the sky, and then with his assistants, he fought in the south and north, and there was no sign of dominating the world at all. How to prove one's ability in this way? How to make those bastards understand that they can break through the world without relying on the family? Since walking sideways on the Yangtze River, Gan Ning began to think about this question, and finally found that this is completely a tiger eating the sky. There is no way to start, there is no power to slay dragons, and there is no dragon to slaughter. Do you want to go back to Shuzhong? Gan Ning will extinguish it as soon as this idea appears, and he will not go back to the place where he cheated his father to death. That place depends on fighting his father. Is it interesting to go back to fight his father? Whoever is a cow, who has a big official position, is it interesting to live? Chapter 86, Looking for Death Without Anything. Liu Bei's recruitment order gave Gan Ning a ray of light, so he packed up his subordinates and prepared to pack up and defect to Liu Bei together, saying that poor Gan Ning still hasn't figured out that no one recruits him because of his ability or because of his bandit background. As for Lu Jun's party, Gan Ning was brought by Gan Ning. There is no way to have a boatload of salt, strategic materials worth millions of dollars or even more. Not that Gan Ning has never seen the world, but the fact is that salt is indispensable, not to mention that this ship is all refined salt. Gan Ning, who had originally planned to stop being a robber, immediately became jealous when he heard the news, and robbed it. To say that Gan Ning still maintains his proper demeanor, and the Lu family also has a small number of clan members, all men are taken back to the clan for upbringing, so there is no chance to have that kind of situation of bullying men and women. The door style is good, coupled with Lu Jun's good performance. Gan Ning feels that he is not a robber, he is an uncle. As long as he does not kill, he can ask for anything. This boat of salt belongs to me. Gan Ning, who jumped on the boat after cutting off a small boat with a knife and a half moon, roared at Lu Jun. As long as the strong man doesn't hurt our lives, we are willing to help deliver the salt to where you want. Lu Jun's reply was not Gan Ning's common plea for mercy, but a transaction, and he didn't want anything, just his life. Not to mention that this boat of salt didn't cost money, even if this boat spent money. In this case, Lu Jun also gave the salt, and the 3 generations of the Lu family's direct blood didn't add up as many fingers and toes, and none of them could afford to die, and they could make more money if they didn't have money, and if they didn't have people, it would be over. I have to say that Lu Kang's education is very powerful. When encountering the robbers' Lu family, he directly expressed that all surrendered. You want money to give money, you can ask for help, but don't hurt people. As long as you don't hurt people, then our Lu family can pay for it and redeem it. Look, isn't it soft? But when such a soft family is almost never robbed, Ju Tai and Jiang Qin will send a ride when they see it. They've been robbed before, but after a long time, this guy often walks by, and every time he gives some filial piety. Ju Tai and Jiang Qin, such a visionary water bandit, are happy to receive some filial piety, although the other party always does not resist. But if you really want to do that again and again, then sooner or later it will be cut off, or it is better to be harmonious. Since the leaders of the water bandits in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River have spoken, the Lu family will pay some tolls when they stroll on the Yangtze River, and the water bandits will be peaceful when they collect some filial piety. No one will touch the Lu family's merchant ship, although they all know that the merchant ship of this family is very soft. But no matter how soft it is, you can't eat the Lu family. What do you eat the water bandits behind you? What will you eat in the future? How can it be good to collect tolls when licking blood? After a long time, this has become a default rule. A boat can mix 8 million yuan. There are only 5 or 6 famous water bandits in the Yangtze River, 20,000 yuan per person, 10,000 yuan for others, 200,000 yuan is also very happy, and the whole way down is safe. The ship hit the reef, and the water bandits found that the Lu family did not arrive on time and will look for it, really harmonious. Just like that, the Lu family is still soft, but they are still good on the Yangtze River. The same business. The water bandits in front robbed the GU family's boat. The Lu family couldn't get through and stared there. Seeing that the GU family was killed, the boat was dragged away. There was nothing left. and then they paid some money themselves, and the water bandits sent people to send them through this area, and nothing happened. Lu Jun pulled a boatload of salt, ready to go against the water to Jingju, and by the way, it was not easy for the big guys to share a little profit with a group of water bandits. The big guys are not easy. Now the situation in the world is not very good. Who knows when something will go wrong? Maybe there will be a place to use them in the future. So in the spirit of this boat of refined salt that doesn't cost money, replace it with 5 baht money, and make plans for the future. All 4. The water thieves who eat on the Yangtze River. Anyway, Miju said that after transporting the salt, he would send himself 3 boats. Then it would be better to take out this ship to make friends with these people. Anyway, I didn't find that these people are not familiar with it. This is also the reason why when Sun Ce broke through Lujiang City 3 years later and planned to kill the Lu family, Lu Zun, who was only 12 years old, fled to his hometown in Jiangdong with Lu Ji, who was less than 10 years old, under the pursuit of Ju Yu and Sun Ce. The water bandits on the entire Yangtze River remember the good of the Lu family, although you Sun Ce is a little overlord, and the water bandits can't afford to mess with you. But the Lu family, who only has women and children, can still do it, and after eating the tolls of the Lu family for more than 10 years, the Green Forest pays attention to loyalty, and if you don't help at this time, you will see the Lu family being killed. Then there will be no need to be a gangster in the future. No. One can look down on it. Lu Jun estimated that the disappearance of his caravan on the river was enough to make the water bandits entangled. Maybe now the water bandits in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River have mobilized to find his boat. Lu Jun really guessed correctly. Jutai had contacted Jiang Qin to start looking for the Lu family fleet on the Yangtze River. After all, it stands to reason that the Lu family's ship should have moved to Jutai's territory at this time. But Jutai waited and waited, and finally found that the Lu family ship did not come, which is not good news, but don't sink. So Jutai ordered the patrolling water thieves to help see if the Lu family had hit the reef again, saying that if it hit the reef and dragged it out to give an extra 20,000 yuan, it was all good business. But the boat was gone, and then Jutai was dumbfounded. But don't sink, it's not easy to explain if it sank. This time it's the legitimate son of the Lu family. If it's gone, the Lu family won't leave here in the future. Will it rely on robbery to eat? So he mobilized his subordinates to quickly look for it, to see people in life, to see corpses in death. This is his own meal ticket. Without the Lu family, rely on robbery, full and hungry. What are you kidding? Robbery is by the sky, and each time the labor fee, settling in fee, funeral fee is a lot, that is completely unreliable, then there is a stable salary of the Lu family every month. There are more than a dozen water bandits on the Yangtze River, and they add up to almost 5,000 or 6,000, and there are not many people looking at it. But the navy is purely a technical arms, not a lot of people. If these 5,000 or 6,000 water bandits are grouped, Cai Mao's Jingju Navy cannot guarantee a steady victory. After Cai Mao reported the news, the entire Jingju Navy began to be on guard, and then when the information came up, Cai Mao looked cold, completely unaware that the Lu family would lose a person, and then the entire Yangtze River was in chaos. After this news came out from the secret channel, everyone couldn't help but be jealous of the Jiangdong Lu family, a soft and harmless family, and lost a legitimate relative, which made the entire Yangtze River unstable. What else do you want to do? A typical example of pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Gan Ning, who was leaning against the wall to take shelter from the rain, didn't know that because he had robbed the Lu family, now the water thieves on the entire Yangtze River wanted to beat him to death, purely out of public anger. The Lu family pays the toll well on the entire Yangtze River, and the other families can hide as much as possible, and sometimes they deliberately make some small moves. Only the Lu family is soft. When passing by the XX water bandits, they find that no one collects the toll where they should be and will stop the boat, etc. The most obedient typical is taken away by you, and the rules of the entire Yangtze River water bandits dare to challenge. Isn't this nothing to look for death? Chapter 87 Chop and Chop. Mengshi, I see the hope of building a group. Speaking of how to build a group, it is estimated that it will be collected by 10,000 in the afternoon. Gan Ning, who was covered in a gas mask, leaned against the wall of a certain shop, fantasizing about what kind of benefits the sponsorship of the ship he had pulled would be to Liu Bei, but he didn't know that Xu Chu was ready in the room behind him. Lord, please step back a little. Xu Chu saw Gan Ning's movements from the crack in the window, and his face showed a hint of solemnity. Zhong Kang, but the enemy is very strong? Liu Bei was stunned, since Xu Chu had never seen such a solemn time. In terms of internal energy, I'm afraid I'm already a top master, but the Lord can step back a little, and watch me take it down. Saying that, Xu Chu put his big knife on his back. The thief is killed. Seeing Liu Bei retreat, Xu Chu quietly walked to the window of the wall against which Gan Ning was back, and then the Luck Dantian, with a roar, pounced directly on the tiger, pressed Gan Ning's shoulders with both hands, and flew out directly with Gan Ning, who had not yet recovered. As a guard, Xu Chu is very cautious, especially when his lord is by his side. Xu Chu did not use a big sword. The kind of attack that borrowed foreign objects was always a beat slower, plus his speed itself was slow enough, for fear that just such a twist and turn let the thief react and then accidentally injure Liu Bei, so he directly used the simplest attack. The tiger pounced on it and directly took Gan Ning away. Dong! Xu Chu grabbed Gan Ning's shoulder, directly took Gan Ning out of more than 10 meters, and then turned his back, ready to embed Gan Ning directly on the ground, not wanting to be stunned. Just Gan Ning, at this moment, finally reacted. The blue light on his body wrapped around Xu Chu for a while, stomped his foot hard, and the whole person directly turned into a blue light to escape the attack. Then he turned over and stopped falling and landed steadily on the ground, and then without waiting for Gan Ning to ask, Xu Chu rushed over like a bear with a machete, and cut off his head, looking a bit like he was going to cut Gan Ning in two. He secretly cursed bad luck in his heart, but Gan Ning also knew that now was not the time to explain, so he pulled out his big knife, and the ripple-like inner energy covered the entire knife, and slashed directly towards Xu Chu. Bell! With a bang, Gan Ning's whole person slid backwards directly, while Xu Chu was rushing towards the other party without caring. The opposite side was a scumbag. Xu Chu was sure, the strength was too bad. A blow directly slid backwards. Gan Ning didn't have much fear, although he was shocked by the strength of the other party. But now Gan Ning only had hot blood boiling in his chest. How long had he not encountered such an opponent? The entire Yangtze River surface except for encountering a deep white-haired man 5 moves to make himself understand that he was definitely not an opponent. The rest was Zhu Taining and he was comparable. As for others, Gan Ning never paid attention to it. And now there is another opponent. This reckless man. Gan Ning is such an evaluation of Xu Chu's amazing strength. With the continuous collision, Xu Chu also found a problem. The guy in front of him was not as weak as he thought. On the contrary, it could even be said to be very strong. Every time he slashed Xu Chu, he could feel that layers of power like water patterns were constantly weakening his attack, which is why Gan Ning has not been at a disadvantage for so long with his not outstanding strength and speed. After discovering this, Xu Chu did not change his attack method. He only had strength, so as long as the strength was strong enough, no matter how many layers of weakening he could kill the other party, the Lord was still watching from behind. The muscles on Xu Chu's big arm kept shaking, and with each blow constantly expanding, Gan Ning's defense became more and more difficult. He found that even if his chi weakened the opponent's strength, he still couldn't bear the remaining strength. Ha! Gan Ning suddenly pulled the chain on his body, and the waste of the power directly shook to his wrist, and then directly straightened the chain in an instant, and the last chain link hit the back of Xu Chu's knife directly, and the huge force directly hit Xu Chu's slash. At the next moment, Gan Ning directly bullied himself. The big knife in his right hand directly slashed at Xu Chu's stomach, and his left hand dragged the chain and was ready for the next blow at any time. With a knife to force Gan Ning's blade back, Xu Chu calmly faced the chain rotating on the side, and it was another knife, but this time he did not force the chain back, but the root of the chain smashed directly towards Xu Chu's face. The blade was pulled horizontally and smoothed out the iron chain with great force. Xu Chu no longer despised it at all, and the one in front of him was a top master. Gan Ning looked at Xu Chu with a little gloomy expression, directly relying on brute force to crack his own trick, and instantly pulled the chain back with his backhand, and a series of sparks popped out when the chain knives clashed. Xu Chu, who does not despise Gan Ning, naturally will not think about what he said to Liu Bei before to take Gan Ning as soon as possible, and it is the most appropriate for a master of this level to play steadily. Soon Gan Ning became uncomfortable. Xu Chu's combat experience was quite rich. Liu Bei had various types of masters in reserve here, and after fighting one by one, Xu Chu understood that at any time, in any battle, as long as he upheld the upheaval of head-to-head, he would not lose to anyone. Gan Ning's movements became stiff. Xu Chu naturally saw it in his eyes, holding the knife in both hands and slashing vigorously, throwing away all flashy tricks. The one that could best show his strength was this simplest and most unpretentious trick. Chop. One knife is better than another, and the powerful slash made Gan Ning have no chance to breathe at all, and the original chi like a stream of water was also torn open under the huge force of Xu Chu's knife, which was no less than worse for Gan Ning. A powerful slash directly cut the chain that Gan Ning used to release the force for the second time, and the subsequent attack slashed heavily on Gan Ning's wide-back knife. Immediately, bloodstains appeared at the corners of Gan Ning's mouth, and with up to 10 more knives, Xu Chu could split Gan Ning in half with a knife. Zhong Kang, stop. After Chen Shi heard the sentence that thief was killed, he heard several explosions one after another, and then a series of sounds of gold and iron, who could support so many moves in Xu Chu's hands, and knew that he was a top general with his heels, and the top generals of the entire 3 kingdoms were not from the family. All of them were poor and powerful. That is to say, as long as the hoe was swung well, they could basically dig. Thinking of this, Chen Shi hurriedly ran towards the place where the sound came from. The originally chaotic sound of metal and iron had also turned into a rhythmic impact, and if it went on like this, unless it was a muscular man like Zhong Fei, he would never be shocked to death by Xu Chu's brute force. When he heard Chen Shi's roar, Xu Chu had habitually cut down the last knife. Gan Ning's eyes had already revealed despair. his ambition was dead, and his blood was empty. This was not the ending he wanted, but he no longer had the slightest strength to resist this brute force. The knife is old and there is no room for change of moves. This kind of all-out blow is impossible for a fierce person like Xu Chu to send and receive freely. So while deflecting the blade in his hand, he kicked Gan Ning with one kick, and kicked Gan Ning out of the range of the big knife attack at the moment when the big knife cut Gan Ning. Xu Chu didn't have time to calculate how much force he used to save Gan Ning, so he kicked his big foot directly on Gan Ning's chest, and blood flowers gushed out of Gan Ning's mouth, but fortunately, his life was saved. Ding ding. The golden bell that Gan Ning was carrying in his arms also flew out at this moment, falling at Chen Shi's feet, and the splashing water splashed on the top of Chen Shi's feet. Looking at this bell, Chen Shi smiled bitterly, and a general was almost killed here because of his caution. Chapter 88. Become the commander of the Navy, Xingba. Chen Shi wiped a handful of things that he didn't know if it was sweat or rain, and the spiritual power he inadvertently used to block the rain had dispersed, and it seemed that he really frightened Chen Shi when he guessed the truth. Zichuan, why are you here? You don't hold an umbrella yet. Liu Bei was startled when he saw Chen Shi standing in the rain, neither holding an umbrella nor spreading his mental strength, and was startled. The slight chill in the rain, if it seeped in, Chen Shi's physical fitness might be going to lie at home. If you don't come again, something will happen. Zhongkang will tie Gan Ning first. Don't kill him, that is a very important role. As soon as Liu Bei said, Chen Shi felt a slight coolness on his body, stretched out his mental strength and wrapped himself directly, and tomorrow he could hum at home to wrap the quilt and not go to work in the government office. County magistrate, and rest assured, this kind of master is not so fragile. Saying that, he walked over and squatted down and grabbed Gan Ning's collar, and then directly blocked Gan Ning's inner chi and brought it over. How did Zichuan know that the leader of the bandits was called Gan Ning, and when Ziyi took down all the bandits before he knew that the guy who fought with Zhongkang was called Gan Ning? Liu Bei dragged Chen Shi under the eaves and said curiously, "This thing is a sign." Chen Shi took out the golden bell and said with an astringent smile, "This guy was originally a cadre I planned to send someone to recruit, and he was also a naval general who was going to introduce to Shen Digong. But I only knew that this guy was a water thief in the middle reaches of the Yangtze River, but he didn't know the exact location, and he didn't want to run to our territory now. And I thought there was some misunderstanding in the middle." Liu Bei was stunned directly, and after a while he reacted. He stretched out his hand to come over to the forbidden recruitment. "When Zi, go, call me over the Liu family steward and ask what is going on." Soon, Liu Jun, dressed in Confucian costume and slightly pale with a slightly pale face, came over. "Liu Jun and Liu Jitsai of the Liu family in Jiangdong. I have seen Duke Xuanda, and I have seen County Governor Chen." Chen Shi nodded slightly. He didn't need to say anything with Liu Bei, but he couldn't look at others unscrupulously, so he nodded slightly to show respect, so that others couldn't see his expression, and then carefully peeked at Liu Jun. According to the records, this guy should be Liu Zun's father, and he was also a very good character, but because his health was not good, he died a little early. "Excuse me." Liu Bei waved his hand to signal Liu Jun that he didn't have to do this. "Just feel free. Jise, you can send 1 or 2 housekeepers to come here for business matters. Why did Jise come here in person, and I don't lack this thing?" Liu Jun smiled bitterly, although he was held hostage all the way to Mount Tai, but he did not suffer any hardships on the way, so he could be regarded as having an understanding of Mount Tai along the way, and Chen Zichuan, who was standing behind Liu Bei and nodded slightly, was the planner and implementer of the reconstruction of Mount Tai, and naturally guessed why Liu Bei was so cautious, hiding in the abyss. In order to accumulate the momentum of taking off. Fortunately, his Liu family did not pay attention to Taishan, but because of what he saw along the way, Liu Jun had high expectations for Taishan, and because he had few descendants of the Liu family, there was no such thing as a clan that was difficult to move, and there was no great cause of the family, so he could bet on several families. The Liu family and the Mi family all belong to the Strange family, and there are quite a lot of industries, but the direct line of the clan is only 3 or 2 cats of this size, and they don't want the industry anymore, and they leave as soon as they pack up their things, and they don't even need to prepare. It is precisely because of this that Liu Jun sat in the carriage and carefully observed the situation of Mount Tai. Looking at the prosperous situation of Mount Tai, Liu Jun felt that it was necessary for his family to invest a little more in Mount Tai, or it was necessary to try the water, although there were a little fewer people, but the 3 caves of the Cunning Rabbit were still necessary. Maybe it will be used at some point, and I heard Miju say that Liu Xuanda is quite good. Liu Jun slowly told the whole thing, purely from the perspective of a third party, and had no intention of favoritism towards either party. Liu Bei and Chen Shi looked at each other. Chen Shi nodded slightly. This kind of thing was purely accidental, but after it happened, it became extremely reasonable. But it was Bei's mistake. Jisei, don't blame him. Here he is preparing for the previous generation to make amends. Liu Bei directly blamed Gan Ning's mistake on himself. Whether it was Gan Ning's performance just now or the thoughts exposed by Gan Ning in those conversations made Liu Bei very happy. This is his own person, but he can't let his own people be bullied by outsiders. Liu Bei directly pushed up, and then secretly stretched out his hand to Chen Shi. Jixie, don't blame, I didn't expect such a thing to happen. Since Xingba did not hurt anyone, then this matter has been revealed. As for the loss, it will be taken over by my Taishan. Jixie don't want to refuse. I have caused trouble for the Liu family. Naturally I need compensation. I hope Jixie will not give up. Chen Shi took the spur and said with a smile. He could see that Lu Jun did not intend to accept compensation from himself and others. But sometimes the compensation was given to shorten the distance next time. He knew that Yu Jin had a copy of the 36 strategies written by Chen Shi in the name of Qingshi Sun Bin, and Yu Jin cherished this book, so he always carried it on his body. What he wants now is to let Yu Jin get a fragment of the 36 strategies, so that people can infinitely reverie the following content. Gan Ning quickly recovered. I have to say that as long as these generals did not die, they would recover quickly, but as soon as they opened their eyes and saw Liu Bei, they roared angrily. In vain, I Gan Xingba, I don't want to be wise but believe in villains. If you want to kill, you have to listen to your opinion. After saying that, he turned his head and looked like he was about to be killed. Chen Shi looked at Gan Ning speechlessly, which was too personal. Xuandagong, Xingba will be handed over to me, and I will let him understand what the gap is between the actual situation and the plot he made up for it. Zichuan, be careful, Zhongkang. Liu Bei nodded, and then left Xu Chu behind. Now there are only 3 of us left. Xingba, you say it's not good for you to rob anyone. You actually robbed Xuandagong's private property. This is a flood that washed away the Dragon King Temple. Okay, if you rob it, you will rob it. Why do you want to pull the Liu family over and make us frightened? Don't you compare the difference between Taishan and Yuzhou all the way? When the army was not ready, we were a big fat meat, and the Liu family should not come at all in order to clear up the relationship. What do you think we think when he comes? Chen Shi didn't dissuade Gan Ning, but just said what he had to say. After all, he is still young, his good youth has not been squandered, and he is definitely not willing to die like this. And after listening to Chen Shi's words, Gan Ning also thought along with the words. He was arrogant and not stupid, and after a little thought, he understood what Chen Shi meant. You mean you use me as a pathfinder to test the idea of Mount Tai? Gan Ning stared at Chen Shi, hoping to see Chen Shi's inner thoughts from Chen Shi's face. You know it yourself, and you still ask us what to do. Fortunately, you have this, otherwise Zhongkang will definitely split you in half. Saying that, Chen Shi took out the golden bell and shook it twice. The people we sent to recruit you didn't look for you. But I didn't expect you to come to our Mount Tai. Sure enough, you and our Mount Tai are very fated. How to join us? You will become the commander of the navy under Duke Xuanda. I know you are not convinced that Zhongkang defeated you, and I also know that you are good at water battles. How about it? Chapter 89 Flattered. With such a sentence, Gan Ning was in a good mood, and the *** family valued him very much, but it was just a misunderstanding. Zhongkang, untie the rope for Xingba. Chen Shi turned his head and said to Xu Chu. As long as Xu Chu was by his side, Gan Ning didn't have to worry even if he exploded. I offended you before. Xu Chu clenched his fists, then untied the rope for Gan Ning and lifted the blockade of internal energy. If we have a chance, let's have a fight on the water. Gan Ning accepted Xu Chu's apology, but was very upset about his defeat, and he felt that he should be able to defeat Xu Chu on the water. I don't know if my previous words will make Xuandagong hate me. Gan Ning turned his head to Chen Shi and said a little weakly, he didn't have the courage before at all. After all, everything was a misunderstanding before, and he sprayed Liu Bei in front of others, and face is more important than life in this era. People who dare to issue recruitment orders, if they have such a little courage, they will have been angry long ago, and such things as recruitment orders are all poor and remote areas, places where sages do not come, things that only ambitious monarchs dare to do. This kind of thing recruits all arrogant madmen, or arrogant and conceited geniuses, and other characters do not have the courage to take over. Chen Shi smiled and said, which do you think, King Yang Jiao or Qin Xiaogong is a person with a small belly? It seems reasonable to hear you say this, but if you say so, what should you do with the other scholars who poured into Mount Tai? Gan Ning nodded, agreeing with this statement. The recruitment order must be those roles that others dare not want. If they are talented and do things in line with the concept of normal people, why wait for the recruitment order to appear? They have long been recruited. For the backbone, it is the same everywhere, and where there is a recruitment order, there must be a vacant position. It's that simple. Chen Shi said with a smile, I know which category Xingba belongs to. Since Ning came out of Sichuan, I thought I was invincible all over the world, and I didn't want to meet a white-haired old man on the bank of the Yangtze River first. 10 moves made me have no power to fight back, and then met Ju Tai on the river, and fought alone for more than 100 rounds before barely winning, but this time it was. As he spoke, Gan Ning turned his head to look at Xu Chu, his eyes burned with fighting spirit. He wanted to fight with Xu Chu on the water. compared with the white-haired ***, Shu Chu's strength he could still have an accurate estimate. White-haired man. Chen Shi tilted his head and thought about it to understand who Gan Ning had met. 99% of Huang Zhong, the white-haired demon king, compared with Lu Biyu's combat effectiveness, is now at its peak. Maybe Huang Zhong, who is stronger than Lu Biyu. 10 moves to make Gan Ning have no backhand power is really not a problem. Especially Gan Ning has just left Sichuan in a state of complacent carelessness. It is estimated that Gan Ning may be as tragic as Hua Xiong when he meets Guan Yu. Xingba is a little calm. It's October, and in more than 10 days, Zilong, Yunchang, Ida, Zi will all withdraw from Qingju, and you can have a good fight with them at that time. As for now, to recuperate well, Xuandagong is very interested in his naval general. Don't lose your etiquette. Chen Shi said with a smile, as he said, snickering in his heart, this group of people will definitely make you understand what a happy life is. Gan Ning glanced at Shu Chu and said loudly, okay, then I'll wait for more than 10 days, and then we'll have a good time. Shu Chu silently turned his head and didn't answer the question. Not to mention you Gan Ning, it is a question of whether Lu Biyu can hold up a group of us to go into battle again and again, especially Zhao Zilong. That guy is definitely a typical example of you. Gan Ning didn't know what kind of tragic days he was going to face, but he was still waiting for Zhao Yun and others to come back and compete with him with a joyful face. Since it has been decided, Xingba will go to see Xuandagong and Lu Jitsai. As for this salt merchant's matter, please Xingba not spread it. This is the capital of Xuandagong's accumulation of money to govern Qingju. Chen Shi said to Gan Ning. It's easy to say, my men are all men I brought out all the way from Sichuan, and I will definitely not ruin Xuandagong's plan, and please Sichuan take me to see Xuandagong and Lu Jitsai, and I am willing to be punished. Gan Ning's respectful salute showed that this guy did not admit death except for being arrogant. Okay, this matter is just that Xuandagong has already dealt with it while you are asleep, and has taken all the responsibility. Xingba doesn't need to worry about this, and Lu Jitsai is not a person who doesn't know what to do, so he won't delve into it. Chen Shi said with a smile. After saying that, Chen Shi led Gan Ning to prepare to go to Liu Bei's home hall, thinking that it was a substandard hospitality meal like bronze cauldron boiled mutton. Sure enough, Liu Bei set up a bronze cauldron to cook mutton, a featureless dish, but looking at Lu Jun's satisfied face sitting at the beginning, he knew that he was not interested in the dishes at all. That is, he was very satisfied with the specifications of the hospitality, and the high standard treatment. Speaking of Chen Shi, it seems that these princes in the world now, that is, Liu Bei, these Han clan relatives, can play like this, and the identities of others are not enough. If you think so, Yuan Shao has exceeded the limit when he eats the bronze cauldron in the alliance leader's camp. Could it be said that the leader of the Qin king has a blessing? But think about the false edict has been taken out, and it is nothing to cook beef with a bronze cauldron. It is precisely because of this that Lu Jun is more satisfied with Liu Bei and dragged this thing out, indicating that the other party really values him, and the apology is not an empty word, just this meal, not to mention that he and his party have lost nothing. Even if the housekeeper servant is dead, it is time to let go of his grievances. Jisai, Xingba doesn't know about this, so he did this kind of thing. Xuanda is here to raise a glass and apologize. Liu Bei raised his glass from a distance, and then drank it in one gulp. Celebrities, that is, you praise me, I praise you, as long as you are willing to give the other party face, the other party will definitely give you face. Chen Shi told Liu Bei early in the morning that for those celebrities with average ability, but world-famous celebrities, what to do is to lower their posture and let the other party have a feeling of flattery. Of course, if you can't do the kind of flattery that makes the other party flattered because of your identity, then let the other party have a feeling of a spring breeze. In short, let the other party feel happy, and everything is easy to say. Liu Bei's current behavior made Lu Jun feel flattered, not only the highest standard banquet, but also the opening as an elder as a pioneer, simply holding him to the top of the clouds, although he did not mention any words of praise, but the behavior is always more touching than the words. When Chen Shi brought Gan Ning to come, Lu Jun had already confided with Liu Bei, and even said that he would invest heavily in Taishan when he went home, and kept asking Liu Bei if there was any shortage of Taishan, he could help buy it, and when he heard that there was a shortage of food, Lu Jun immediately said that Jiangdong was vast and sparsely populated, and there was a lot of food, as long as Liu Bei could eat it. He would turn around and buy Chen Liang from other families. Gan Zhuangshe, and drank this glass of wine. You did not abuse me in the slightest along the way, and Gan Zhuangshe was also for the sake of serving the country, and Jite could not speak frankly because of the Lu family's century-old reputation, but made everyone present misunderstand and obey, and after drinking this glass of wine, you and I are friends. Lu Jun saw Gan Ning come in, picked up the wine glass and walked in front of Gan Ning, and said solemnly, Chapter 90 Gan Ning, you go to be the chief of the navy. A glass of wine was drained, and the scene suddenly became warm. Lu Jun and Gan Ning had a glass of wine to relieve suspicion, and the relationship between the two instantly came together. One praised the other party for not being surprised when things happened, the other was humble but timid, and the other said that the other party was strong in martial arts, and the other party also said that he was not proficient in his studies. And he had to practice for a few more years. Liu Jun is not a fool, he can feel Liu Bei's sincerity, he is naturally willing to get closer to Liu Bei, let alone offend Liu Bei here, and the biggest estrangement between the two is what Gan Ning did this time. Liu Jun naturally revealed this matter, which made Liu Bei very satisfied, and Gan Ning himself had a deep affection for being kidnapped by himself, but calm all the way, and now under the deliberate flattery of the other party. The guest and host naturally enjoyed themselves. Soon Yu Jin, who forged the fragment, came over with the ancient book and handed the fragment to Chen Shi, and then Chen Shi smiled and took out the fragment and handed it to Liu Jun. Although Jise said that Yu and Xingba have already resolved their previous suspicions in this matter, what Zhuandegang said before is still valid, and this thing is given to GCAI. Sichuan doesn't have to be like this, as you said, Xingba and I have already resolved our past grievances. Why do you need to thank me? Please take this thing back from Sichuan. Liu Jun didn't even look at the items in Chen Shi's hand and declined. Ha ha ha, how can the gift be taken back? And Jise hasn't seen the true face of this thing yet. Saying that, Chen Shi handed the whole book to Liu Jun. Let's take a look, I think the gift chosen by Xian Degong must be suitable for GCAI. Liu Jun stretched out his hand to take the book, and after opening it, he was shocked at first, and then read the story in it. The more he looked at it, the more he felt exquisite, and soon the 18 short stories had been read. Frowning and looking at Chen Shi, Jisai is disrespectful. This thing is accepted, and please pay more attention to the second volume of this book. Such a wonderful book does not want but is missing half. It's easy to say. Chen Shi said with a smile. I said that the gift chosen by Xian Degong must be suitable for GCAI. Hey, what a book of 36 plans, writing a story based on the author's life, but I don't want to miss half of it. Liu Jun looked sorry, but his hand movements were not slow at all, and after wrapping it in silk, he directly received it in his arms, for fear that Chen Shi would take it back because of his previous words. Ha ha. Chen Shi slapped a ha ha, didn't say anything, just kidding. He saw that the TV series told the story of Sun Bin's life, and then turned his life into 36 schemes. Other versions can't be remembered. This version is very clear, naturally written according to this version. However, it is precisely because of this way of narrating his life that others can think of it as an autobiography without looking at the author. A banquet, the host and guest were happy, and the leftovers were naturally cleaned up by a maid. Chen Shi shivered and ran home. Obviously it was the rain that Lu Su used spells to induce, but it was dripping without stopping, and there was a trend of getting bigger and bigger. Maybe the original autumn air would be turned into autumn coolness by Lu Su's rain. As for Gan Ning, he naturally worshipped Liu Bei as his lord, and Liu Bei also gave Gan Ning an official position of supervising the thief cow. No way, Liu Bei's own official position was limited, and his current General Ndong was in a full state, so he had to let Gan Ning hang under the name of Chen Shi, the county governor. When Chen Shi was about to arrange Gan Ning's military affairs, Lu Su smiled bitterly and gave a simple book, and suddenly Chen Shi was a little dumbfounded. Gan Ning was actually still the county magistrate of Shu County, with a salary of 600 stones, which was better than Lu Su. Are you mistaken? When Chen Shi asked Lu Su sideways, in fact, his brain had already smoothed out everything, and he had already understood why the Three Kingdoms era did not value the origin of military generals, and the courage were the best choices, and no one accepted Gan Ning Hui. It's true. Lu Su also said with a wry smile, Xingba has been out of office for 2 years and 9 months, but Shu County still reserves the position of county magistrate for him. Without saying anything else, Lu Su had already made it clear what he should say. Oh, I know. Chen Shi nodded. How to deal with it? Now we have a conflict with the Zhou is not a good thing, even if the other party can't reach Mount Tai because of the distance, but according to his ability, it will definitely not make us feel better, and he was once the chief of the clan. Once the power of the royal family is mobilized, it will be difficult for us to parry. Lu Su spoke. It's nothing, call Xingba over, this matter is easy to deal with. Chen Shi didn't even raise his head, since things had changed, the original naval training had to be rearranged. But fortunately, Liu Yang's time was running out, otherwise the whole plan would have to be cut and refined, and now it is much better. Oh, okay, that's all. Lu Su nodded and said, compared with the current situation in Mount Tai, the importance of Ganning is very low. After all, the place of Taishan does not rely on the Yellow River, and the Yangtze River does not rely on the Yangtze River. Just call it. Chen Shi raised his eyebrows. Don't say anything superfluous. Gan Ning is one of the important generals under Duke Xuande, especially in the future, so there is no need to say anything like giving up. Lu Su sighed. Could he not see the importance of Gan Ning? After all, now there are Taishan cavalry, infantry, training, and commanders, and the whole puzzle is missing a navy, and the southern expedition must have a navy. Soon Gan Ning, who looked excited, came over. I have seen the county magistrate, and I dare to ask the county magistrate what he called Xingba.
I'll give you 2 tasks.
Chen Shi raised his head to look at Gan Ning. First of all, this matter is very dangerous. It requires a military general who is both wise and brave, and the water kung fu is good enough, and he must be able to lead troops. Before Chen Shi finished speaking, Gan Ning patted his chest and said, Taisho, you can say something directly. You can rest assured of Xingba's ability. Okay, there are no big rivers or lakes near Mount Tai, and it is very difficult to train the navy, so I plan to let you go to the sea off Qingju to train troops. As for the ship, don't worry, the Lu family has a sea ship, and the Mi family is rich.
Chen Shi said quickly.
Then Chen Shi ignored Gan Ning's excitement and continued, since we don't have enough manpower, I won't arrange manpower for you. You directly take your manpower to the sea off Qingju, where you are the chief manager. Your subordinates are the backbone. You can do whatever you want there. I will approve 20 million yuan for you.
Give me a decent navy in a year.
Sichuan, this year is a bit short. The Qingju generation is all landlubbers. Gan Ning excitedly forgot to call the county governor, directly called Chen Shi's words, but excited to be excited. If he can't complete the military order, he will die. He will not be so stupid. I didn't say that you are not allowed to whitewash the Yangtze River water bandits, Yellow River water pirates, or anything like that. After hearing clearly, you are the chief manager. Even if you go to fight other states and counties, I will give you the greatest rights.
You train me the navy I want.
Chen Shi roared directly. The words in those words almost said that you are an idiot. Do you want me to say such things as whitewashing bandits?